The main hero of this story is called Kyle here, and when he wakes suddenly in an unfamiliar room, then he grabs the maid firmly by the arm to quickly find out what is going on now. He demands to know just who she is and why she's here in his room. The young maid fearfully reveals her given name now, and reminds him gently that he had once saved her life. Then she apologizes softly for entering his room without his permission, as she didn't realize fully that he was sleeping soundly. Kyle only grips her delicate hand harder as he repeats the name in confusion now, causing her to suddenly let out a small yelp of sharp pain. It seems likely he had gone a little bit too far again, and that quickly pushes him right out of his sudden fierce anger at her. He releases her hand gently and apologizes softly for his sudden outburst then, and thankfully she's still alright despite the sharp pain in her hand right now. Kyle seems to be really in a daze just after waking now, as he shakily glances slowly around his messy room right now. What on earth is going on now, and why is this kid here in a maid outfit then? He notices the medicine and meal on the countertop and asks more about it there. Ursiel confirms simply that it is his medicine and meal for the whole day today. However, his morning porridge has unfortunately gone quite cold indeed, so she would indeed need to go warm it up and bring it back for him now. With that action, she leaves quickly. And Kyle is only more confused now about the whole odd situation. Did she really say that was indeed his medicine? And what in the whole world happened to his own body now? He carefully steps right down from the bed now, and walks slowly to the nearest mirror to look at himself indeed. For the very first time, this is the clear face of a video game character. Not him exactly, the one inside the strange body of Kyle Saltarian, was not Kyle at all anymore. He ruffled his own hair in utter panic as he stared hard in the mirror. Lee Hyun-woo, a popular game streamer straight from another world itself, had somehow teleported right into the body of a character that, from a very game he often truly played himself, named Fantasy Defense. Especially at that very moment that he realized keenly that he had somehow woken up in another strange world. The character now, Kyle Saltarian, is a video game NPC that clearly appears in his very favorite game ever. He is indeed the youngest son of the Saltarian Marquis family of course, which is widely known especially for their swordsmanship skill. As one of the key characters from the famed Saltarian family that he was deeply involved in many early game events indeed. In events where he interacts closely with the story's protagonist, he always ultimately gets properly beaten you see, and he's usually swiftly defeated in a single blow now, by a minion-level monster, summoned directly by a villain. In summary here, he's not even considered part of the main cast of NPC characters there. He's an absolute extra role purely. That precise kind of character is whom Lee Hyun-woo now had awoken at, as he decides intently to test if he's truly dreaming here, by sharply pinching himself firmly in the cheek now. The immediate, sharp pain and the red bump on his face directly afterward proves clearly that he, in fact, is really not dreaming at all. This was indeed all real now, since he is completely sure that this is full reality and not some sort of twisted dream now. He continues to simply stare at himself in the mirror in exasperation that, how could this ever have happened to him really? Lee Hyun-woo, who truly was once the #1 player in the Fantasy Defense World Rankings overall, has now suddenly become an insignificant and frankly worthless character here. Fantasy Defense is a virtual reality game that will surely become a hit global by 2030 indeed, thanks to its devilishly difficult levels now. No one had cleared it yet, even after 10 long years of it being released. On top of all that, it was devilishly fun real, and its addictiveness continued to steadily grow its popularity. In the game world, there were scores assigned based on gameplay itself, style, and quest achievement of course. On a worldwide global ranking scale, the scores rise significantly higher when rare quests are fully complete, or quite rare items are uniquely obtained, and the very person who stood on top of it all there, after dedicating 10 full years of his life into the immersive game, was Lee Hyun-woo indeed, the most incredibly popular streamer for the game too. He surely knew rare magic circles and legendary combination formulas indeed, that others simply didn't. He was truly the living encyclopedia of this very game, and he held overwhelming scores now, that no one could ever hope to possibly beat, and for someone oh so great really to be possessed now, by such a weak and utterly useless character, can only truly be a cruel twist of cruel fate. This is surely a game where even the protagonist, with exceptional talents, simply can't clear those higher levels. So how exactly is he supposed to survive more beyond that, since he has replayed this very game so many times now? At this point, he already knows the ultimate fate of Kyle Saltarian quite clearly. The ultimate goal of Fantasy Defense always is to stop those forces of darkness. The one who summoned those very dark forces was indeed Adol, the second son no less of the Saltarian Marquis family indeed. The second son was aiming for the main position of head of the Celtarian family, and he surely hoped to use such dark powers to incite a rebellion. In the bitter end, the entire Celtarian estate falls into utter ruin, and becomes a grim base for the dark forces themselves, that have been eyeing human territory closely for a long time now. In the very midst of all this mounting chaos, Kyle Celtarian, who was completely and utterly powerless, was slaughtered mercilessly by those same dark forces. Maybe, if he just leaves the estate before any rebellion even breaks out, that would be certainly enough to keep him alive for now. That's just a temporary solution for now though, and the real daunting problem lies elsewhere entirely. This new noble body of his is currently suffering from a rare disease called Hermama. It's a terrible disease that actually blocks the mana pathways in the body. In this world, mana is a key source of both aura and strong magic, which are both truly essential for sheer survival. Mana is indeed as utterly important as blood is in the body itself, and those affected deeply by Hermama have blocked pathways in their very body, which effectively means that they fail to receive all the nutrients truly needed for growth and survival. That typically means sadly that they die long before the early age of 20. The only known treatment for Hermama now is to absorb enough mana from the natural environment outside, in order to fully overcome this terrible disease. However, unfortunately, since the pathways are fully blocked up, they simply cannot readily accept mana, and this Hermama issue is pretty much then the same as having a true terminal illness. Kyle Celtarian was first diagnosed with this sad terminal illness at a young age long ago, and he has been truly filled with deep despair ever since that very day. The terrible fear of certain death, the anxiety, and the despair indeed over the limited time he has left, loomed over him then like a dark shadow, and because of that fact, his personality became quite twisted. Before he even knew it, he became a true disgrace to his family, and his own father ordered him to stay in his room then, and reflect deeply on his actions there closely. He continued to just boil in fiery rage, at the very thought that his family thought he was just a joke, and someone who could easily now be taken advantage of truly. His anger at the entire world and at everyone in it grew intense, until he eventually sadly died. In other words, sadly. The guy was quite hopeless even within the game itself. It was always clearly apparent that he was a hopeless character overall, even though he was also a terminally ill patient. Unfortunately, his horrible personality itself is the main trigger sadly for people ultimately to give up on him. Indeed, just to summarize the situation briefly, our boy now currently has possessed an incredibly hopeless character now, who has absolutely no talent or ability for either swordsmanship or magic skill, no real lifespan left, a terribly awful personality, an awful reputation indeed, and to top it all right off, he is confined firmly to his room by the head of the very family. This feels like starting nightmare mode on a new RPG game, for sure. Right from the start, he is already utterly ruined. Whether he stays put in his room silently or tries to escape somehow, the inevitable ending for him is surely certain death. How is he even possibly supposed to survive in this harsh world with those kinds of stats? Unfortunately, isn't it quite normal to get at least 1 or 2 cheat skills then, when you get reincarnated now? It would be a little better if he at least had some kind of status window here, or something truly similar as he contemplates what fully led him to this situation. Bright blue orbs actually begin to shine gently around it. Just a brief moment ago, there was nothing like this in the immediate area. Just exactly where did all this come from really? The young noble reaches right out carefully and touches the orb now, which directly causes a burst of pure light to shoot right out from his hand. Once it clearly clears, a clear status window with a few key messages appears now in front of him. He had fully awakened, and because clearly of that, he will soon now receive 2 brand new talents, which fully include access to a status window and the mind's eye ability now, which will surely be activated automatically from this point on, as if this power were summoned directly by him indeed. The status window then appears right there in front of his eye, and shows all the current stats of his entirely new body. He in fact has 2 completely new talents called Mana Pathways and Mind's Eye. What could Mana Pathways even possibly be though now? Well, for simple starters here, Mind's Eye clearly allows you to see now the fully detailed specs of people and all equipment around you. Mana Pathways, quite however, is a completely new, unique talent that he had genuinely never heard of before. Judging fully from the name, it seems related to magic in some special way, but all magic talents are supposed to be under the Mana Companion talent. Even just though he has truly never seen this talent before, his inherent gamer intuition itself tells him now that this talent is somehow greatly superior to Mana Companion, and that it might truly even be a top-tier, very special talent. When he previously had the Mana Companion ability itself, he was never truly able to see anything quite like the orbs around him. With his own eyes now, this is pure mana energy itself, and if his quick guess is correct indeed, he should be truly truly able to absorb it all for himself. The noble reaches out his steady hand, and touches just one of the pure mana bubbles in front of him now. Immediately, he certainly does. He starts to clearly feel the mana flowing through his very body. It moves swiftly through his arm until it stops abruptly there. It seems now like this is one of the clear symptoms of the Hermaman disease. The blocked pathway now stops the mana from fully going through his entire body. He was really so close to feeling mana flowing through it, and this blockage was simply not going to stop him now. Through sheer, raw will alone. He starts to try force the potent mana to move through the blockage. By brute force through his own command, he wills the wild mana to sharply pierce through the blockage, and then force its mighty way into the rest of his own body. He makes the fierce mana as sharply pointed as a needle now, then forcefully pushes it hard against the terrible blockage, slowly pushing his mana through. Until finally, he starts to truly feel the mana flowing through his own body now. It's only reaching up to his elbows for now still, but if he continues gathering mana just like this, and pushes through each blockage in the way he just did indeed, then he'd be able to overcome Herminu as well eventually. Thanks greatly to that. He surely will not die, and there will definitely be hope for him after all here. Back in the kitchen currently, Ursula has fully finished warming up her master's porridge now. She must hurry up now and bring it back to him before it gets cold again soon. As she prepares carefully to carry the food back up to meet him there, a whole group of maids walks right up to confront her directly. They tell her quite firmly not to give that food to Kyle at all, and they stand now blocking the doorway to the very kitchen. Ursula looks at them all a bit confused then, as the maids continue to explain clearly that, as a protest towards Lord Kyle's misdeeds against all the maids themselves, they have come all together and decided now to temporarily stop serving him here. If he simply goes hungry for a few more days now, then maybe indeed he will change his attitude and his mind towards them. So they order her now to put the food down and simply comply with them. Ursula, on the other hand though, can't be bothered much with their protest. She tells them simply to do whatever exactly they want to do, while she continues onward to do her own work. That specific response really doesn't go well with the maids at all, no. One of them yells at her angrily to at least pretend to be nice indeed. With that, she slaps the meal tray right out of her hands and onto the floor. She asks now if the young maid still thinks that she's some kind of mope. She came actually from a ruined family and was sold into harsh slavery, so how dare she even talk back to her fellow maid there? Ursula simply ignores her loud yelling, while the other maid holds the truly angered one right back. The young maid couldn't care less about the ramblings of her co-worker, as she continued calmly to clean the spilled food off the floor soon. That in itself only angers the woman far more, and she raises now a hand to slap the child, who was kneeling right on the ground to clean up the awful mess. Just then indeed, the door swings open widely and a blonde-haired man walks into the room now. The angry maid's hand simply freezes in midair abruptly. Everyone here is shocked greatly by Mr. Leonhardt's unexpected presence in the kitchen, as he angrily demands to know just exactly what truly is going on here then. The other two only look at him in complete shock, as he passes them by now to look at the terrible mess on the floor below, and the younger girl struggling quite hard to clean it all up properly. He sighs deeply once he fully realizes now that these two maids are just giving the young girl a hard time indeed. The awaited meal for Lord Kyle is already late now, and she truly needs to hurry up and prepare another one soon to bring to him now. Ursula quietly accepts and leaves to quickly go prepare another fresh plate of food, while the two maids stand rather shyly to the side there now. Leonhardt turns angrily towards them sharply once she leaves the room, and it's perfectly clear that he's not impressed at all by what he just saw transpire. Meanwhile indeed, Kyle continues intently to look through his brand new abilities in the status menu display. If he were hypothetically to utilize Mind's Eye and mana pathways together combined, then it might even quite possibly change the fate of the entire Marquis household entirely, which indeed was doomed for a gruesome downfall soon. He has been playing this game for full 10 years now at this point, and he even has an advanced foresight level of vital information. Moreover, he was born with the great power and wealth of a true nobleman. With absolutely all these things right on his side now, then it honestly might actually be quite possible to stop the very forces of darkness from truly taking over now. It honestly seems like there are truly big things ahead for him now, but first, he has to overcome his own Hermamo quite soon, by opening the mana passages and really learning magic quite fast. Mana delay for certain instance is a talent especially specialized in true magic now. With his great new talent solely for magic overall, it would honestly be much better for him to truly become a wizard than a knight overall. The true second thing overall he has to really do is prevent the ultimate downfall of the Marquis family at last, since he's really part of this family indeed. If the family really does well, then so will he soon. The Marquis of Celtrian will clearly be a very solid support quite soon. In simple terms of reputation, skill only now, wealth indeed, and everything he could possibly ask for right now. Since this territory is located in the outskirts far away, he really doesn't have to worry about the situation in the capital city. Finally now, and the most important thing of all, he absolutely has to gather talented allies around him in order to best prepare for the massive darkness there, the attack that he expects to happen in the near future soon. If he were now to select a potentially talented person and truly make them his allies in this fight, then they would give him even stronger power in swift return. That is exactly how he's going to build his solid strength now. However, firstly though, in order to better gather talent now, he clearly needs to look around for someone close by him. Since he is the Marquis of Celta Leon indeed, then he would certainly have to start with Lanehart soon, who was once a useful tank NPC while he played the game hard. As he continues now to think about what he will do next, a young girl's voice calls out to him from the doorway. It's young Ursi, who has returned with the food she went to prepare for him. His eyes widen so much as he sees her there, and he realizes now that this is the very kid that came into his room early, although he can't quite seem to remember her true name. She silently walks right back to his counter now to prepare his food and crucial medicine indeed, while he struggles quite hard to remember more. Suddenly right now, the status window pops up with exactly all the information he needs. It classifies her then as a low-ranking enemy, and shows detailed information about all her stats and her own talent. Her characteristics indeed are being cold-hearted and hard-working now, but it's truly her talent that catches his keen eye. She has a unique talent called the Spirit's Eternal Friend. That's truly the highest level talent in the spirit magic category. He continues intently to stare at her stat, until she turns suddenly to look at him, and realizes now that he has also been staring at her too. She nervously tells him just to enjoy his meal, before stepping back quickly to allow him to eat now. Kyle watches her intently now, and wonders why someone with such talent to become a true genius psychic is working so diligently as just a maid now. Well, the true answer to that happened a year ago precisely at an auction. The auctioneer proudly introduces today's quite special item. As Kyle sits there in the crowd bitterly indeed, she points the very spotlight at a young girl who stands silently on stage now. It's Ursula, and she's revealed as the daughter of Baron Helam himself, who was recently stripped of his formal title because she comes still from a noble family here. She's polite and quite smart, and the crowd is clearly interested now in her. Thanks to precisely that, as soon as the bids start right now, people begin loudly to yell out their prices for the young girl soon. Sir Lanehart, who happens to be seated beside Kyle here, suggests rather that they leave the auction quickly, since they should not really stand for things exactly like slave trading now. Kyle, however, instead stands directly up and places a high bid of 300 gold indeed. The price is simply so insane now that the auctioneer stutters a moment as he hears it said. The knight right beside him calls rather out to him in pure shock for even thinking aloud of buying a slave there. But the young noble just shuts him right up. With a word, he will spend his money however he truly wants to. Deep in his mind, his actions don't even matter so much, since his own uncaring father doesn't even truly care what he's doing now. Then with the stunned crowd completely silent from his high bid he deliberately walks over to the young girl, who looks directly at him with a very blank expression, while her own delicate hands are fully shackled still. He tells her so softly that from now on she belongs only to him now that he had bought Ursula's freedom. He gently took her outside and then released her shackles with that very act, she was then truly free to do whatever she wanted now. He sets her completely free, and he tells her she's no longer a slave anymore, now that he so generously has bought her very freedom. Kyle then turns right to leave with Sir Leonhart now by his side, but suddenly the young girl calls right out to him again now. She thoughtfully thinks about it all for a moment long. Now that at last she had finally her true freedom, she could now go absolutely wherever she clearly wanted so. But since he firmly said that he owns her then, she earnestly wants to go with him anyway. Kyle scoffs softly and tells her to do whatever she wishes now. Back now in the present moment, Hyunwoo realizes clearly that he has just gotten a glimpse now into Kyle's memory. With this, he fully understands now how the young maid had ultimately gotten into the Marquis' household soon. Her seal had sadly been sold at a past auction too, and Kyle had thankfully bought her then in order to set her quite free indeed. She sadly must have been through so much then at such a very young age certainly. Either way, the striking fact that he also possesses Kyle's memories too clearly shows that he had completely merged quite fully with him then. He can now even feel the potent emotions Kyle had toward Ursula back at that very time. A keen sense now of solidarity from both of them indeed, sharing together a grim fate that they truly didn't choose sadly, as well as their mutual intense feelings of being abandoned alone fully in the world. Those bitter feelings were essentially what pushed Kyle Kyle firmly to do what he did ultimately. And by her, he decides firmly to stop thinking way too much now, so he can thoroughly enjoy the lavish food fully in front of him here. He eagerly takes the first warm bite now, and his bright eyes sparkle purely in joy too. The meal certainly was delicious indeed. He asks Ursi gently if she is the one who actually made this herself. The young girl shakily replies that she was indeed the one who had made the porridge alone. It seems perhaps like she's still a bit shy about it, especially really since she knows just how he can sometimes get when he's rather angry at something or someone perhaps. But to her surprise greatly, he instead compliments her on being a good cook now, and even asks her to make the same dish for him again next time surely. Ursula is momentarily quite shocked by this and looks away shyly then. A status menu opens up clearly over her head now, and simply shows that her affection has gone right up to 35. Thanks to his compliment, even though she had a bit of initial affection. Considering their dramatic encounter they had previously indeed, her current affection really wasn't all that high previously. It's certainly not very surprising though, right? Since she must have definitely witnessed all of Kyle's delinquent behavior overall. The very fact that she had any affection for him at all was a small miracle now. In itself within the game he used to actually play overall, there definitely was no spirit summoner named Urgel exactly. That means truly that in the main game storyline, she was never able to fully develop her abilities quite as a spirit summoner, and instead sadly, she got caught up deeply in the internal rebellion of the Marquis household, where she tragically lost her very life this time. He wasn't about to let that happen at all. There is simply no way he would let such a gem slip away now, especially so while she's standing right in front of him now. He decides to start working head on now directly. He asks her now if she has ever thought about learning spirit summoning. She looks at him then, confused deeply about why he suddenly wants her to learn such a thing. The young noble says now he wants her to learn it, because truly he thinks she possesses a talent for it. She on the other hand though, has never imagined herself as truly having any talent for spirit summoning at all. That's likely because she hasn't been exposed to spirit summoning much. Even within her former household actually, spirit summoning itself is known rather to be particularly expensive to teach and even to learn well. So then, for a lower noble family now, the cost of education here would be a huge burden indeed for them. That simply means that he now needs to take matters firmly into his own hands then. He boldly tells her that she's going to start really learning spirit summoning then, and clearly she doesn't have a choice now. After all this time, she belongs entirely to him. Ursiel takes a gulp of saliva deeply and looks away quite shyly, as another notification window appears now above her very head, and her affection sharply increases to 50% now. Just a few days later, Kyle leaves his private room and comes face to face with Sir Leonhardt directly. They both stare each other down quite intently there, before the snow-haired noble asks the knight politely to let him through now. Sir Leonhardt declines immediately and sharply, which only further deeply upsets Kyle now. He has been stuck in that stuffy room for way too long actually, and indeed, there's a way he was never going to stay in that room for the rest of his sad life. Sir Leonhardt firmly tells him plainly that he cannot leave at all, until his very own father gives permission directly, especially after what had just happened indeed, and the Lord's very last words to him then. Kyle freezes there for a second now, and his mind wanders back over all the arguments the Lord has clearly had with him. The whole exact reason the room arrest rules even existed there was simply because they could no longer tolerate his constant trouble-making anymore. But the more precious time he wastes here now, the less crucial time he has indeed to get the mana particle that are floating all around deeper within the Grand House. Ever since he first discovered that he could unblock the mana pathways there by using all the mana orbs that vividly appear around his room too, he has been absorbing all the particles that distinctly appear in his room daily. Every single day, although it clearly wasn't quite enough to unblock the pathways instantly just yet. Mana has steadily been accumulating throughout his body though, just like classic experience points inside a detailed game, and his body gradually improves steadily over time itself. But it is nowhere actually near enough yet to fully cure the Hermamo disease too. To get much more, he needed badly to leave his room finally and go quite outside to gather more pure mana. The young noble promises firmly that he certainly won't go very far at all, and he'll just only walk through the nearby quiet forest so that he can also exercise after all. The word exercise truly surprises Sir Leonhardt now, who has simply never heard such a constructive reason from young Kyle. That gets Kyle just a bit upset still, but Sir Leonhardt continues on forward, saying then that he has been tasked as the noble's personal knight for so many years, but this was truly the first time that he had ever heard it say something like that. It was at that very moment that Kyle realized that just quite how much of a delinquent he had been indeed. Up until then, he had absolutely no credibility at all. Even with that fact however, still, Leonhardt seemed to be some kind of unyielding strong wall right now. This man was fully tasked to be Kyle's personal guard truly, but originally he was a famous character in the game who was known to truly have a large amount of both defense and offense. He's highly skilled and indeed has great potential too, which truly means he can be raised up to the rank of captain. However, most players simply made him serve as a tank in their parties always. Furthermore, due to his high loyalty and unbreakable deep trust, he was one of the most popular companion characters among the players indeed. In the original game itself, he becomes a wandering knight after the fall of the Marquis' household which allowed players to recruit him through events natural. For now though yet, since the Second Son's rebellion hadn't happened quite yet, he was still within the Seltarian mansion working specifically as Kyle's personal knight It was such a clear waste to task such a promising talent like him with mere babysitting duty only. Just what exactly were the esteemed Seltarian knights doing even? Why on earth would they stick him in a dead-end place quite like this really? He accidentally spoke that last part aloud suddenly, and Leonhardt takes offense rather after misunderstanding his spoken word. As the delinquent boy is dissatisfied with him as his own personal guard, the younger boy then tries to explain he's not dissatisfied specifically with him, but Leonhardt instead just advises him to faithfully follow the orders of the Lord, his own father. That's when Kyle truly realizes that the knight's true loyalties don't lie faithfully with him indeed, they lie firmly with Lord Rempton Seltarian Absolute, his father only that was solely natural indeed. After all, who truly would want to stick with the delinquent younger son now? He just simply can't accept that fact. Though his next talent recruiting project starts right with Sir Leonhardt indeed, he directly asks the knight if he would be quite willing to try to persuade his father closely. The blonde man keenly realizes that something has truly changed about Kyle's usual demeanor. Little does he even know that in actuality here, he has strongly caught the interest of the younger lord entirely, and now the kid is determined deeply to win his fierce loyalty. He pushes a bit harder again and asks if the knight might help him truly. Leonhardt isn't convinced however yet. Here's something quite different about him somehow really, but he just simply can't quite place his finger right on it so far. He directly asks Kyle what he's scheming precisely by acting so differently now. That clearly shows just how much he really doesn't trust the delinquent yet. The kid has just indeed been in his room for so long a time that his deepest thoughts have completely changed quite now. From this moment on, he has firmly decided that he ultimately wants to live a long, full life. That genuinely shocks Leonhardt entirely. Who knows precisely why someone like Kyle just can't live a long life. The white-haired boy right there is someone who had to give up truly everything because of his incurable, terrible Hermione disease. Someone like him saying they truly want to live a long life, especially when it's unlikely that he'll live past the age of 20 was deeply saddening to hear. He didn't have any true magical talent, nor indeed did he have any real special swordsmanship skill, and simply by being the youngest one, he also has virtually no chance of ever inheriting the family. Even despite all this here, Lord Rempton then decided to keep him right by the child's side. The older nobleman once asked Leonard directly if there was any deep resentment for that particular decision, that it practically stagnated his career path. He immediately answered then that it would be an honor beyond even words for someone in the Seltarian Knight Order still to personally protect a direct descendant of the esteemed Marquis family. He plans now to fulfill his duties faithfully as a man of utter loyalty. It's exactly just because he was such a genuinely loyal man that Lord Rempton clearly wants him close by Kyle's side right now. Within the Marca household now, there is truly no one else that can be trusted implicitly to protect him. No one except the trustworthy and loyal Leonhardt truly. With that trust, the elder lord entrusts him now to take care of the son of the house always. The knight plans to obey that important order till his death certainly. Even now, as the child persistently pesters him for a chance to go outside and exercise a bit, he continues to ask keenly if he can go out just now, and even suggests too that the blonde knight tell the lord simply that he just wants to exercise solely. Leonhardt puts down a very firm hand to stop him from moving anymore now. He doesn't truly need to go outside just to exercise only, especially since he can simply exercise indoors as well also. With absolutely no other choice, Kyle decides to try a more aggressive approach really. He warns Leonhardt sharply to move aside quickly and not to let him repeat himself once. All he needed to do then was go outside and find some more mana cores quite fast, so he could keep right on working on clearing his own mana pathways full. He gave Leonhardt then a serious cold stare directly, and Leonhardt felt now a strange aura coming from him once again right now. He kept consistently on getting this odd feeling strongly. That something indeed really was so different about Lord Kyle just then. But even so now, he had to stand his ground right here. No matter how much the young lord had changed overnight now, he took a step forward now and stood more confidently in front of the boy still. The Marquis's order is absolute, quite true, and this most certainly applies to the young lord as well too. However, if he really wanted to go outside then he would have to get past him first indeed. All of a sudden here, Kyle felt a very heavy killing intent flowing now from the knife. It wasn't fair at all for Lanehart to use killing intent on a child now, over just simply a request to step outside. So, if he were just an ordinary 13-year-old truly, he might have wet himself in great fear and collapsed on the very spot here. Luckily indeed for him now, he was not an ordinary 13-year-old boy. He smirked slightly despite the overwhelming aura coming from the nightstill, and calmly walked right past him and punched lightly on the shoulder there. This truly shocked Leonhardt right there, who stood quite motionless as the child calmly walked past him now, which just meant now that he had to keep his word indeed. They went out together into the relaxing night then, and the very first thing that Kyle notices then, is how refreshing the cool air felt. It truly had been quite a long time indeed, since he was last outside here, and he took a small moment to stretch freely and feel the air right on his skin. Even though the lush garden was not too far at all from home at all, he still felt a great sense of new freedom now, as he looked up at the beautiful, vast night sky above it, and more than truly anything else, he was very excited by the large amount of mana particles flowing everywhere now. Now that he finally had the chance here, he was definitely going to devour them all soon. The young lord runs excitedly around the garden now, trying hard to pick up as many mana cores quickly as he can, while Leonhardt silently watches on, clearly from the knight's perspective now. He was running all around like a child playfully in a vast playground, and it truly reminded him again of the real fact that Lord Kyle still was just a kid, at the true end of the day here. He really didn't quite expect the young lord to be so very happy just by simply going outside now, but still truly a kid after all. Being truly able to work past him fully while he was using his intense killing intent now should have been totally impossible there, especially since Lord Kyle hasn't trained much in mana or aura, so he shouldn't really be able to handle that kind of intense pressure. Leonhardt remains quite deep in thought now, and doesn't quite notice Kyle glancing quickly at it. It's obvious enough that he's still rattled hard from what happened then, and he definitely has every solid reason to be utterly shocked. The key reason Kyle could withstand Leonhardt's sheer killing intent was really simple. He may physically seem a 13-year-old noble boy now, who has quite never been in a real fight, but mentally he's a tough veteran who has survived countless virtual wars for a full 10 years in a virtual reality game itself. Fantasy Defense was actually famous for its realistic depictions through the virtual reality setting, and thanks to his large mountain of past experience, he had become desensitized now to these actual life-of-death moments indeed, especially since he had already seen some pretty horrible sights truly, while wading through large piles of corpses and just being drenched in fresh blood. A little scare tactic itself, like pure killing intent, was far too easy now for him to really break, after positively everything he's been through before. After gathering a little more mana still, he had indeed gotten enough to clear some more mana channels now. Coming right outside was definitely the right choice now. Leonhardt informs the young lord then that he will be requesting proper punishment from the Marquis's order for his own actions, even though he was only following strict order. It was still wrong of him to use on someone he was meant to really protect and serve truly. Then he bows low, his head downward, and apologizes directly to Kyle now for the unnecessary use of a powerful skill directly on it. Kyle merely glanced at Leonhardt there, then told him to simply pass his words along to his father too. That Kyle truly does not wish for Leonhardt to be punished then. The older lord is shocked when he hears that his son Kyle now actually said that he didn't want his subordinate to be punished now. He asks just once again then, to make sure that Kyle was truly the one that passed this message to him clearly. Kyle now just didn't seem like the type of person to do something like that truly, for anyone really. He also further mentioned that Kyle managed to face his killing intent skill quite well, which truly no normal 13-year-old should ever be able to do alone. In fact, Leonhardt doubted quite a bit what he was even seeing as well then. For Kyle to have truly resisted the killing intent of an expert knight so well, like him, he must have definitely gained great skill completely out of nowhere now. The older lord then asks aloud what Kyle later did while in the garden space. After quickly running around the garden for a little while longer, he simply relaxed fully and then meditated calmly. Leonhardt watched him in slight surprise while he meditated in the garden still. He asked the younger lord when he precisely learned how to meditate well. When Kyle was much younger, he briefly learned swordsmanship lessons from his own father there. At that time, he also learned the ways of how to meditate deeply too, but truthfully he didn't really have the needed talent for it then, so he quickly gave up back then. So now he wanted to try his skilled hand at it all again here. And to fully do that now, he directly asked Leonhardt kindly that to thoroughly keep everyone far away from the entire area so he won't get distracted now. After doing that fully, he then meditated at that single spot for a whole 6 hours later. The older lord quickly stopped the ongoing story then, in complete surprise at the clear thought that Kyle could easily even meditate for that long. He meditated for a whole 6 hours straight, not 6 seconds. That kid might have changed then, after all this time. The Duke had once tried hard to teach Kyle the basics of swordsmanship skill when he was young, for he was a descendant of the Celtarian family lineage. After all indeed. so he should at least be able to walk the destined path of swordsmanship art. He also hoped much that the white-haired young child would inherit the true skills of the family's sacred techniques surely. However, sadly that kid couldn't do anything at all. He kneeled quickly after just a little bit of training itself, and complained much that his legs felt like they were going to cramp up badly. That really made the Duke quite angry then, at the hard fact that such a weak person could be part of his family still. There has simply never been a weaker descendant in his whole family's history. Kyle had absolutely no talent for swordsmanship training at all now. On top of that all, he lacked serious tenacity and patience too, and he couldn't even endure such simple training sessions. So to hear now that someone like that actually meditated for 6 hours straight is just unbelievable indeed. Could it be perhaps that something had hit his head hard and completely changed his personality then? Leonhardt had already thought of that indeed, and he checked thoroughly to see if there was anything wrong with his food. Fortunately enough, there was nothing unusual at all, and Kyle's sudden change was entirely and truly on his own. His personality had completely changed so recently, and it's not just simply his attitude towards hard work that had changed. Even the very way he looked at Leonhardt had clearly changed as well too. It seems indeed like he has finally started to mature a bit now, and that is truly something that greatly interests the Duke. He decides calmly to let it go without much more discussion, and tasks Leonhardt still to continue taking good care of Kyle. Back there in his room, Kyle continues to channel his own mana still, until finally his spiritual vision is greatly enhanced more, and his mana in him starts overflowing strongly now. Thanks to all of that, his sharp eyes can now accurately access the true state of his own body. With just that, he surely should be able now to clear the mana pathways all the way to his heart. In just one go, he starts intently in his arm there. Then he carefully pulls the mana into his shoulder now, down to his very spine, and then finally all the way to his heart's core. He endures the pain as his heart starts to freeze right up, but after just a moment, he opened up his mana pathways and freed a clear path to his heart completely. Now that he has done just that, he should be fully able to use magic, and he's so excited to start learning magic in true earnest here. In this world, to use magic now, a mage simply has to form a circle near their own heart. To master higher level magic skill, then they must increase the total number of circles they hold, and the more circles they hope to then create, the much longer it will surely take. So if a person truly hoped to become a mage, they would have to start training keenly between the ages of 5 and 8. Then by the age of 12, they should be quite able to form at least one circle well, to be seen then as a person with the true potential to become a skilled mage. Since Kyle is already 13 years of age, it's indeed a bit late for him to start learning magic art. Luckily for him though, he wasn't just a normal NPC character who had to follow the simple, clear rules of their world now. Since he has the rare mana adaptation talent indeed, then his case is different now from normal cases. All he simply needs to do is form a circle here, and he should be quite able to start learning magic now. But first he had to learn just how to form a circle in the first place though. Maybe he could build it the way he learned quite well from the game then. As he pondered deeply on how he would do things now, a sudden knock came from his door then. It's Leonhardt indeed, and he came to pass on the happy news that the Duke has lifted now the restrictions on Kyle's movement here. Now he's allowed out to leave his room and take a walk in the garden freely, under the key condition that Leonhardt accompany him at all times here. He still simply can't leave the estate though, but being allowed out to walk in the garden is already a blessing now, for someone who spends every day and very night trapped in his room now. It seems indeed that Leonhardt really did a good job convincing his father so, but it also clearly seems like his favorability had increased as well now. It had greatly increased by 30 full points out of nowhere then. Back when he repelled strongly the killing intent, well, his favorability rating was at -50 clearly. Maybe he was truly moved by his deep meditation in the garden, especially since he meditated intently all through the long night, and collapsed quite exhausted in the morning light. Leonhardt seems like the kind of person who's impressed by hard sweat and strong perseverance either way you see. Now that his restrictions have indeed been taken off, there's a certain place he has been wanting to go so much. The Grand Estate's library is a special place filled with all the knowledge. He would truly need to form his very first magic circle, but the librarian doesn't look very happy to see him arrive. In fact, she actually looks quite terrified now. She rushes swiftly over to Leonhardt urgently, in a desperate attempt to quickly find out what's truly going on there. Kyle was banned firmly from entering the library a long time before now, after he had unfortunately spent an entire day tearing some genuine indeed rare books that would surely cost a fortune to fully replace. He used to joke callously that they were just useless pieces of paper essentially. After you die, even though she struggled a lot to get them in time. After laboriously traveling right across the vast empire, after his past outbursts in that library, he was strictly banned from ever stepping foot in there again. But it seems like his restrictions had indeed been lifted now. Kyle himself is embarrassed that he used to do such foolish things back then. But now, he only came to the library simply to read, not to cause trouble, he specifically wants books related to true magic. That really confuses the poor library, since the Duke's family always emphasized swordsmanship so strongly, so there weren't very many books on magic here. For now, all he truly wants is a book that teaches how to form magic circles properly. She then brings him an introductory book quickly. That seems way too complicated, certainly for his liking thus far. There were even books specifically made for 7-year-olds, but each and every one felt like a university thesis now. Normally, if this was some sort of game indeed, then there would be a status window present. That would allow him to automatically learn everything so fast. In each single book, as if truly on cue now, a status window suddenly appears in front of him, and informs him that he has unlocked a new skill called spiritual vision. Indeed, it allows him now to translate the low-level book that he was struggling with to read, and then turn it into simpler copies that he can read through quickly. On top of this translation feature here, he can also use his sharp perception skill to decode books quite easily. And swiftly he asks Alice then, the librarian, for more beginner books right now, and he's excited indeed to gain as much knowledge as he possibly can. Lenore Hart now wonders if it is really quite okay to have these many books borrowed out all at once now. The librarian was actually really worried that he would damage some of them, because of the sheer large number that he borrowed currently. Even selling her house wouldn't be enough surely to replace them all, if they were somehow lost or damaged. Sadly, she didn't truly need to worry so very much about it all though, since he planned to finish reading them quickly very soon, or at least maybe he would lose interest in them halfway through maybe. Normally Kyle definitely hated books before, but now he's eagerly really reading as many as he can manage all at once too. Leonhardt clearly notices then that the books he carefully picked out were mainly books on mana management and intricate magic circle formations too. He quickly figured out that this must be related to his own disease. Surely, he tries to give a little bit of advice now to the young noble there about how learning potent magic will be difficult, since her mom indeed blocks the mana and aura flow of his body always. But Kyle already fully knows what he's trying to precisely say before he even truly starts talking now. Leonhardt offers to back away quickly if his advice is truly unwelcome always, but that's the direct opposite of what Kyle is indeed thinking. It's truly a valid point after all now, so there's genuinely no need to get truly upset about it. Everyone else in the house would probably say the very same thing now, and see exactly what he's doing as a real waste of valuable time. But he's quite the black sheep of the whole family, after all indeed, and he already has a full reputation as the reckless youngest son actual. A little bit more of weirdness from him wouldn't surprise anyone indeed. Besides, clearly it's not like reading many books truly harms anyone. At the final end of the very day, he's sure that Leonhardt is just now worried that he will probably fail at learning magic itself, and then simply fall into a truly deep despair. But this is quite the complete opposite really. Kyle truly has no intention of dying young now. He stands straight up and walks towards the older man there, then places a firmly closed fist on his own chest to reassure himself. He's definitely planning to do everything he can to indeed make sure that he survives longer than anyone thinks he can see. With that strong resolve, he leaves to find a more comfortable place now, to lie down calmly and finish his current book. Leonhardt is left quite stunned at Kyle's sudden personality change indeed. The Kyle Seltarian he once remembered then wasn't this incredibly strong-willed in the slightest now. One of his earliest memories fondly with the kid then was a memorable day in the training field now, where he simply kneeled down on the cold ground, crying sadly for his father when Leonhardt came to kindly ask what was wrong that day. He told him softly that the older lord had said that there was no real need for a young kid like him there. He truly used to be such a crybaby once truly, and now he looks like he was slowly growing into someone admirable. Quite admirable indeed. The blonde knight picks up a book quickly and heads towards the kid now, and that's precisely when Kyle keenly notices that his affection score has swiftly gone from -30 back straight up to 0. He has truly no idea why that happened so suddenly there. There honestly was nothing particularly special that he did at all that should really make it jump up so suddenly like that. He's almost a bit scared now as the older man approaches him closely, but all he simply does is gently place a book on the table before leaving, and politely offers to willingly wait outside his room still. Before the older man then fully left soon, there was indeed the faintest hint of a smile on his face just then. Kyle wonders if maybe he just genuinely liked seeing the younger boy read off, but if that's honestly the case, then why didn't his score affection level change so much while they were in the quiet library there? Well, he usually greatly likes seeing strong persistence a bit, so maybe reading multiple books in one single go certainly counts as persistence. Well, regardless now of the true reason now, Kyle simply chalked it casually up to him being quite a strange guy clearly, all the while still Leonhardt stood perfectly outside his room with a wishful hopeful smile fully on his own face. Now that the older knight is truly gone, and he's all alone now, it's time indeed for him to start reading them. He activates his sharp perception skill once again, and starts decoding all the books he had borrowed from that library. At once, as he expected fully of the skill itself, the decoding speed is dozens of times faster than his regular reading speed, and not just that alone either, but he can also decode multiple different books all at once too, so it was like he was reading each and every one of them at the very same time together. On top of that, any difficult parts of the decoded content itself were broken down into simpler readable data. The knowledge from each book also gets stored in his very brain as useful data. The more that he reads, the more vast knowledge he gains, surely, which then speeds up the decoding process even more so, which further increases his comprehension level, that then speeds up the complex decoding process even more swiftly, within just a matter of brief minutes. All the books in the area now had been fully decoded. With that much done, it's time to put his magic fully to the real test here. The very first thing he surely wants to try now is forming a circle easily, using all the decoded data. Thanks to the decoded knowledge now, he already understands the basic principles of circle formation indeed, and the minimum conditions required to form a first circle. First, he truly has to guide the mana along a golden trajectory, so he will finally be able to form a circle properly. He sits himself down and prepares to start forming the circle now, and with just a little bit more of concentration, the mana then begins to move along the trajectory slowly. Immediately it starts to feel like his very chest is burning near his heart instead, but he simply has to endure now. Otherwise, the mana will flow backward and damage his organs truly. He struggles greatly with it, and after a very long time, agonizing and painful process, he manages to form the first circle ultimately. Thanks to all this, his blocked pathway trait has been weakened greatly. This clearly means that his mana has become more active now, and he was definitely one step closer to beating his terminal disease completely. He can now finally collect refined mana within the circle itself, and with that alone, he should be able to use magic properly soon. However, he had indeed spent the entire night reading and trying to form that circle perfectly. So, just as soon as he stood up in celebration he collapsed in utter exhaustion His last thoughts, as he started to drift fully off to sleep, were if Leonhardt and Ursule indeed were going to nag at him rather for sleeping right on the floor. Later that very morning, Ursule comes into his room soon to bring him breakfast, and sees him passed clean out on the floor there. She rushes swiftly to his side to try and wake him now. She was truly confused about why he was out cold and what all these books were even doing in his room, despite the quite huge toll that the process was taking on his body. It's impressive that he had managed to successfully form the first circle truly in just a single night from now right on. A new life as the mage Kyle Celtarian was just beginning now. Meanwhile, Leonhardt returned the books fully to the librarian who looked like she was on the very verge of exploding from much stress. A delicious-looking tray of food just sits in the kitchen, while Ursule puts final touches on that last piece overall. After lots and lots of hard work, her meal is finally now done. She blushes so much while remembering the compliments Lord Kyle gives whenever she cooks quite well for him indeed. The mere thought of getting more such compliments from him makes her smile widely, and she grabs the plate promptly to go deliver it quickly to him. On her direct way out of the kitchen now, the maids that once harassed her before come quickly over to block the sole exit to the kitchen. They clearly notice the food upon the tray, and fully know that it's supposed to be for the younger Lord Soul. They stare directly down at her condescendingly now, and tell her flatly that she should go and rest up, instead of delivering the very food herself. This time they definitely want to deliver the food to him quite personal, since they've obviously noticed that his personality has been a lot better recently now. Besides all of this, serving Lord Kyle wasn't her specific responsibility once before, so she may return her position to its rightful true owner now and return at once to their very original arrangements soon. Her steely resolve declines their harsh proposal clearly. If they have any complaints precisely about her work or they want to change it now, then they can just simply talk to Lord Kyle themselves directly. With that bold statement, she walks past them while they call out for her to stop right away, but she wholly ignores their calls entirely, and bumps directly into a blue-haired maid right there at the door indeed. This one only looks at her now with a confused expression truly, while the other maid continues loudly to yell at her still. They exchange a look briefly for a moment now, before she quickly walks out of the kitchen promptly to serve Lord Kyle as she definitively leaves. The blonde-haired maid sends a nasty look precisely in her direction keenly, but doesn't say a single word as she delivers the breakfast to Kyle Fast, who digs into it very enthusiastically today, while she attentively watches over him now with a sweet smile. She tried hard adapting the recipe skillfully to fit what he had taught her well, and it truly seems like it suits his exact taste actually. Her cooking simply gets better and better always with each passing day now. Because of him certainly, she's been practicing very hard every day recently, and she even learned some newer recipes directly from the skilled head chef now. She really was quite diligent and very hard-working, and he greatly admired her for that thing. But his deepest thoughts on her were elsewhere entirely. He asks her now how she's progressing specifically with her spirit magic. She freezes slightly as he mentions that, and does not immediately respond. So he asks her then to bring her introduction to the spirit magic book that he had gifted her once before quite some time ago. She has carefully read about halfway through the important book so far, and judging by the worn, aged pages there, she has also clearly been studying it diligently indeed. Since she's from a prominent noble family indeed, that also truly means that she possesses basic education now, and her inherent learning speed is definitely not slow. However, he's simply not satisfied enough with her current pace. They do not really have the time now to take it slow. He deeply needs her to learn more now and become much stronger. In barely 2 months' time, the Seltarian family will formally hold the heir succession ceremony. On that very day, the second son now, Adolf himself, will lead a full coup aided by sinister dark spirit, and the respected Marquis family will inevitably fall. Everyone there in the villa at that time will be caught up in the coming chaos, and dear Ursi as well too, will be caught right in the middle, where she'll ultimately lose her life. To avoid that from happening, she really must become stronger indeed. To give her a little more time specifically for studying now, he decides right now that she will be put off cooking duties for just a while. For now, he'll just simply have one of the other maids take over serving him so she simply wouldn't have to worry so much about it. Arcel then immediately refuses his kind offer and tightly clenches her clothes. As fresh tears begin to rapidly build in her eyes, she earnestly promises to work even harder, so she surely can keep studying spirit magic while still cooking nicely for it. That way indeed, she won't be neglecting either of them at all. While still deeply crying, she then begs him not to let anyone else serve him now, so she truly can keep being right by his side still. Her very crying face genuinely moves Kyle's heart deeply. It clearly seems like she wasn't really considering her feelings before at all. Actually, her family had simply collapsed in an instant early, and she went indeed from being the daughter of a baronet to merely a slave now, then finally just to a simple maid. She even sadly lost contact with her family then, and sadly has really no idea if they are alive or actually dead still. Because of exactly that now, it makes perfect sense that she would be heavily insecure about her very life as a maid nonetheless, especially since she is only just adjusting truly. So far, she has only been able to live a somewhat stable life, you see, thanks to his kind help indeed. And now he wants to change all of that, for seemingly no real reason now. It makes more sense that he would be confused by absolutely all this now. She must have surely thought that if she couldn't properly perform her duties as a maid, certainly, then she would be locked straight out of the mansion. That must be exactly what she's truly thinking, since he never fully explained the whole situation properly really. Now that he has indeed taken the time to consider her deepest feeling, he decides then to fully explain this complicated situation to her directly. First, he reminds her of exactly what he told her when they first met them, and he brought her right here. He told her then that she belonged entirely to him, and he most definitely never abandons one of his people surely. That clearly means he will always protect them ultimately. The young innocent maid is quite taken aback by these bold words indeed, but he keeps right on going then, explaining now his reason for asking her to learn spirit magic as well too. She's quite an excellent maid with incredible cooking skills, yeah, and truly a diligent and meticulous work ethic entirely. If she were indeed to keep working hard like this always, then surely she would be promoted to head maid someday. However, there are plenty of other maids in the mansion besides her real, which just means that there are plenty of people who could replace her even at just any time now. Her face changes to an expression of sheer fear still, and so she tries to plead with him once again now, but he cuts her right off by placing a hand on her shoulder there. Then he asks her what would happen if she were to become a spirit mage instead. Spirit mages were rather rare and definitely respected mages greatly, which just means that if she becomes one ever, she's bound to become a truly great person in the future now. Everyone absolutely will look up to her too, and she even will become the greatest spirit mage that ever existed really. Her mind begins to daydream now about adventures they could have together with her, as a spirit mage indeed, and Lord Kyle right by her side so close. By then, there would be absolutely no one in the whole world who could replace her even, and she would be with him now for as long as truly possible forevermore. She still seems insecure now about whether she can truly pull it off at all, but Kyle assures her firmly that she can easily become the greatest spirit mage, with his own confidence as her drive indeed. She then takes the book right from his hand and agrees now to become a spirit mage, just as he wants, all at the very same time. Her affection for him simply goes up by 10 full points, and she pledges now to trust his own judgment on her indeed. After all that, he officially appointed Ursi as his personal maidservant, which certainly gave her a very fancy bow now. From there on, she began to handle all of his personal affairs closely, and he also moved her right out of the shared maid quarter, into her own private room, quite separate now. That way now, she'll surely be able to properly study, and she won't likely have to worry at all about clashing with the other maid. She seems so much more excited by the simple fact that this very room is close to his than for any added security at all, though he certainly hopes that with this move, they will both be able to work together closely and then grow strong as one. After just a short while, she happily settles into her new room now, filled with all sorts of books just for her to thoroughly read, while closely looking through her own vast bookcase there. One sunny day she notices both Kyle and Leonhardt just walking through the courtyard. Kyle keenly notices her looking intently at him through the window now, and sends her a warm wave and a bright smile right back. She giggles softly and leans against the windowsill, while watching him pass slowly by, while her affection steadily increases now to a level of 65. Meanwhile, back then, reports indeed of Kyle's change in behavior reach an unexpected individual it seems. It seems now that news of Kyle's notable change has reached quite a lot of people there. Recently, they've clearly noticed that he has been exercising much more often indeed, and effectively building his overall strength and power. On top of everything, he doesn't snap at people nearly as often now too, and he has recently begun dedicating a significant lot of his personal time to studying more magic and spell. It seems like somehow his personality has impressively increased greatly now, and he has finally fully grown up indeed. Somehow, it now seems like it was finally the right time for adult Celtarian himself to pay a long overdue visit to his once foolish younger brother. Ursel warmly waves back at Kyle as he steadily passes by now. He quickly turns to Leonhardt then and directly asks him to prepare a wide open space for him that's quite far away from the direct sight of other people now. There's definitely something he now wants to experiment more with in that wide space. He's truly hoping to try a magic experiment now. His mind drifts to a secluded place in the outermost part of the vast estate, a place where no one is likely to see them at all. The selected place is surrounded by a dense forest of towering trees, which consequently makes it hard to see anything really from the outside. That surely makes it perfect for this experience here. The young noble thus plans to practice intently. He instructs Leonhardt firmly not to let anyone get even close to them. Then he deliberately stands in the center of the field there, and carefully prepares himself now to unleash a potent spell. Leonhardt watches him from afar now with a palpable bit of doubt in his mind. Lord Kyle truly has never been able to use magic or even practice swordsmanship itself, due to his unfortunate Herm disease indeed. Simply reading a few magic books over a mere couple of days now isn't realistically going to change that core fact at all. However, the current Kyle just might have a unique way to break truly free of those limitations. Somehow the white-haired noble skillfully prepares a vibrant ball of magic in his very palm now, then quickly sends it out now as a magic missile straight towards a solitary tree there. The spell powerfully explodes in a dazzling bright light then, and immediately destroys the tree upon full impact. Leonhardt and even young Kyle himself are surprised by just how powerful the spell truly was. The tree slowly falls right over to the side as the two of them watch on now, while shocked fully at the output of power he just displayed. Kyle immediately then turns to Leonhardt there, and asks if he thinks the loud sound reached the mansion far off. Thankfully and fortunately, the knight swiftly managed to use his potent aura to suppress that very explosion. That fact means that they wouldn't have truly heard the sound of the tree falling now, as well as his quite fast reflexes managed to bravely save both of them from some quite uncomfortable questions later on. While that situation is definitely quite nice for both of them involved, there's a bigger question now left to be truly answered here. Just when and how did Lord Kyle form a full magic circle in fact? Kyle responds quickly that he formed it not extremely long ago now, after fully following instructions that the old book from the library fully said. Somehow fully with those very techniques, he bravely managed to tap deeply into his previously blocked mana sword, since he had now successfully cast magic and formed a magic circle whole. That means surely that he had now overcome his Hermamum disease completely. To show further proof now, he summons a magic orb right in his hand and shows it proudly to Leonhardt now. At that very moment, the promises that the young lord made flashed right through his very mind. He said clearly that he would do everything he could do to cure his illness then, and he had absolutely no intention of dying young at all. Somehow, remarkably, he had actually managed to pull it off somehow. Leonhardt had indeed felt something different about the white-haired one, delinquent once before some time. But he had absolutely no idea that this exactly was it here. He warmly congratulates Kyle then on his great accomplishment, and his affinity increases surely by 10 points, since he has truly started admiring the kid then. That's certainly to be expected from a true man of perseverance anyway. He is easily impressed indeed by people who achieve great things here. Based firmly on their hard work, however, so far, there were still unfortunately several questions to be asked also, like clearly the fact that he had only formed the first circle so far, and this power he just showed clearly is definitely more powerful than just a simple first circle spell. The basic power of a first circle spell is usually about the same raw strength as a punch from an adult human male, of course. But that blast he sent out had the power of a strong fourth circle spell, which is way more advanced than any spell a beginner should reasonably be able to cast now. Despite that fact though, he's still just a first-level mage overall, which makes his ability to cast such truly powerful spells incredible. Could it really be that Lord Kyle is actually some sort of prodigy, perhaps? No matter quite how you look at it though, this display of power is just way too noticeable here. Thanks entirely to his special mind's eye ability, he was fully able to read all the first circle magic books in the vast library. If it weren't precisely for that rare skill, it would have easily taken months to successfully form even one circle. That skill also decodes that magic is used quite differently now from how he directly remembers it in the game world. According strictly to the magic books here, he had to then draw a complex magic circle to fully use magic. Then after going through just a bunch of difficult equations and detailed calculation, he then had to activate the circle by circulating all the mana. The whole process is longer and much more old-fashioned than he remembered from the game quite well. In the game all he had to do was draw a simple magic symbol with mana alone, and then it would activate halfway easily. This simpler method was way easier to fully use, and a lot more powerful than the complicated methods he had to then learn. On top of that now, he had also learned all the magic symbols in the game too. Over the long amount of game time he fully played, since the methods were way too complex for his very liking, he decided then to use magic in a more user-friendly easy way, just like he did in the actual game. But the end awesome result is way more powerful than he ever thought it would be. If anyone ever found out about just how strong he truly was with these techniques, then that surely would be a problem indeed. It's really not time yet to reveal his full strength now, and it'd be way better if he fully kept it a very secret. He directly asks Leonhardt to keep what he witnessed today a secret indeed, even from the very head of the family itself. Leonhardt is quite confused about why he would truly want that, causing Kyle to try hard and convince him by making a cute face now. That only makes the knight's affinity drop even further instead, he decides carefully to tell Leonhardt everything now. The actual reason he wants to keep the vast strength of his powers a secret still, it's especially because of the upcoming succession ceremony soon, in just 2 months' time. It's a very important tradition indeed in the Marquis Altarian family still, that ultimately chooses the definitive next successor for them. The true successor is certainly not chosen merely by age alone, but through a fierce competition process instead. All of their various traits are thoroughly judged at once now, including their whole personality and true wisdom now, public firm support and definitely other factors too. All these specific things are surely used to fully determine who is the most promising heir to actually lead the respected family to even greater prosperity overall. Because of solely his promising personality mostly, his primary supporters were basically the family's long-serving retainers all along. Right now, indeed, there are two main people fighting intensely for this key position. The eldest son namely, Abel Saltarian himself, and the second son ultimately, Adolf Altarian then. These two distinct characters were incredibly important truly to the evolving story. Abel Saltarian precisely is the son of the legitimate wife of the esteemed Marquis of Saltarian now, and he was also the most likely candidate by far for the heir. He has a gentle nature undoubtedly and excellent swordsmanship skills too, and on top of all that, he's been groomed as the heir specifically since childhood, and he grew up surely with high expectations as a model elite soldier. Then of course, there's the second son too, Adolf Saltarian actually, who was also born from a legitimate wife indeed. He was often overshadowed largely by his elder brother namely Abe, and that meant then, he was overlooked ultimately for many long years. However, at some significant point during his overall growth, Adolf's very personality became far more composed natural, and furthermore, his swordsmanship skills improved exceptionally rapidly, which specifically caused him then to stand out clearly among the crowd full. That meant in short, that Adolf's strong supporters were specifically young and passionate knights altogether. He almost precisely had the clear vibe of a powerful gang leader indeed, and these very two overwhelming personalities that clashed fiercely in a hallway back at the mansion now. As soon as they truly met each other there, Adolf sent a deadly glare indeed in his older brother's direction now. Abel, on the other hand it seems, doesn't seem like he's bothered by it all. He greets his younger brother ever so politely, especially since it's been such a long time, truly since they've seen each other. In fact, he was so lost in thought that time, that he didn't even quite notice the younger man approaching him. At least, that's only what he says. But for someone who manifested his aura so young, at just 5 years old then, it was quite impossible truly to believe that he wouldn't be able to sense someone's presence at all. That was just a story from ages ago truly, and even if Abel calls it a mere fluke, that isn't even worth bragging about ever. It's still so much better though than his brother, who couldn't manifest his aura at all until he was 15 years old himself. The older men accompanying Abel then joke that the younger brother might just be slow, quite lacking in talent. And of course, some people just tend to start off rather slow now. After all, the casual insults truly are enough to cause Adolf's own subordinate to confront the older men in anger presently. But he firmly orders them to stop now. They were inside the main house, just right now, and acting recklessly could negatively affect him. Yes, it seems like he trained his followers quite well though. And Abel condescendingly suggests, even now, that he might truly be worthy of being a candidate there, and the rightful heir of the household indeed. Adolf only scoffs at the snobbish attitude of his older brother now. As far as he's truly concerned right now, Abel won't have any real reason to laugh much longer here. With that, he orders his subordinates to continue down the hallway then, and they simply walk off slowly, while Abel watches them leave with a suspicious glare still. Later on, Kyle calls a meeting with Leonhardt and Ursule in his own bedroom now. It's truly about the upcoming succession ceremony now, which is set to be held in just 2 months' hence. The ceremony truly doesn't care about those born by legitimate or illegitimate means. All they care about is their pure strength, and that surely means that any direct descendant of the lord of the household is clearly eligible to compete for the much-desired position of heir. Well, at least truly on paper it seemed. In stark reality, there were exceptions to the overall rule, and the youngest son just surely happened to be one of them. Due to young Kyle's illness, he was excluded from his competitions by default here. The third son, Duke, was also truly not involved in this very competition itself, not just merely because he is truly too young now, but also because in firm terms of his skills in sword fighting and magic combined, there is truly no comparison between him and the rest of their older brothers. Therefore, the most very likely candidates for the vital position were his 2 oldest brothers certainly. Neither of them would clearly like any random surprises at all, appearing now at this vital stage of the overall game, especially clearly since they were so truly close to the succession ceremony itself. So, imagine for a moment what would happen precisely if it became truly known that Kyle has suddenly developed a strong power now. At a time precisely like this, he was once seen as simply a fool before, who wasn't even truly worthy of being in their very sight. Now, he suddenly looks like he's truly about to rise as a dark horse instead. There existed only 2 possible reactions, realistically, to this news alone. They would either quickly try to convince him directly to ally with them first, or they would instead go directly after his head. Indeed, it seems like quite a drastic train of thought at first glance, but history has truly always been full of bloodshed specifically for the position of heir instead, so it's simply not the craziest thought ever now. According to the given game setting clearly, Abel is a fundamentally good person undoubtedly, meaning there was a rather low chance that he would even take the more drastic action here. Of the 2 grim options, Adolf particularly, on the other distinct hand now, is almost guaranteed to definitely try and behead his younger brother ultimately. That guy is clearly already set on simply killing his whole family from the beginning so grimly, so there's absolutely no way the older brother won't truly try to attack him then, if he ever fully finds out that he has learned powerful magic just now. Because of all that, the only option he truly has is to overcome his Hermimum and become much stronger now. He may well have a promising future still, but as the absolute youngest first circle mage of all, it was perfectly fine to either bring him in as a needed ally or to suffer no major loss, even if truly they didn't then. Now that he definitely has a more detailed understanding of the whole situation here, he decides then to trust Kyle's own judgment and just keep his real powers a secret still for now, but as soon as the succession ceremony is completely over and done, he will properly report this pressing matter now to the head of their entire family. Kyle's current secrecy seems to be surely reducing his affinity with the knight so far, but there's simply nothing else he possibly can do right now in this tricky situation still. Right now, Leonhardt is undoubtedly loyal still to his own father it seems, so he just can't possibly expect the knight to suddenly side with him now. It's certainly not impossible though. And this is without a doubt already a better scenario than ever before currently. Even so, he's already quite sure that he absolutely can make the older man follow him soon, one way or another now. His unchecked desire is indeed so strong that Leonhardt can truly feel it now. The knight then turns back to fully face Kyle now, and asks if he is really serious indeed about becoming a mage. The Marquisate of Kaltarian is widely known for their swordsmanship prowess, but it would also surely be beneficial if he became a helpful mage too. The very thought of the fact that Kyle will soon make positive contributions to the family here makes Leonhardt smile warmly, and his affinity grows by a large amount certainly. Kyle is quite shocked that it grew out of practically nowhere, and he truly has no idea how that even happened precisely. Could it be simply because they all ate together in his own room perhaps? That's exactly why the knight was complimenting Ursule on her wonderful cooking right after they had their talk just now. so in pure hopes of continuing to increase their affinity greatly, Kyle suggests strongly that they eat together in his room from now onward. Leonhardt isn't quite as thrilled overall with the idea it seems, and suggests calmly that they just eat at the knight's quarters instead this time. But Ursula is secretly very happy about the sudden request nonetheless. Later on now in the night, Kyle sits on the ground in his own room quietly, studying the magic symbols he knew quite well from the game before that. These very symbols allowed him to activate all of his magic as fast as humanly possible, with a huge amount of raw power as well indeed. But in this very world he's not quite able to control how powerful his spells truly are. It's already difficult enough to fully handle as it currently is, but now he'll indeed have to figure out just how to handle it all before he can truly use his immense magic in public view. For now though he decides to simply ignore all of that tension, and just try to properly seal the magic symbols up for now here. There will surely be a chance to show off his unique magic eventually later, but to truly avoid drawing too much unwanted attention, he will indeed have to only use basic magic for now. The magic activation in this world is quite slow and difficult to properly learn, but it allows for much more precise control over all magic. Then he gets a great idea, since the magic activation method allowed him to properly control his magic output, and also the symbol activation method in full allowed him to cast far more powerful spells in a shorter amount of time too. Then he should indeed be able to combine the two and really get the advantages of both right. He tries very hard to combine them both full, and the system immediately then gives him a loud warning now of a high risk indeed of magical explosion from what he's about to bravely do now. The notification window then suddenly appearing scared him quite enough that he jumps back in shock quickly, but it truly seems like the combination is actually quite possible. The system asks him directly if he's sure that he wants to proceed with it. Despite such risks and dangers however, high risks will usually mean that he'll get high rewards from it overall, and he's certainly not going to get anywhere without bravely taking any risk. Precisely with that specifically in mind, he starts now the very process of mixing both activation methods carefully, while his status window bravely continues to warn him of immense danger, specifically of magical explosion overall. Then it asks him one more final time if he wants to go through directly with, and he agrees to such excitedly now. Then the system immediately starts analyzing both his body and his experiences deeply, to see if he has the needed ability to carefully combine both activation methods directly. Once such a careful analysis is fully done now, the two powerful spells combine and he's quickly able to create a whole new form of magic, by carefully combining both his old spell casting techniques effectively into one spell. With that done now, he tries to continue playing around with the spell further, to see just how efficient he can fully make the spell truly, until his room starts to crackle loudly with fierce electricity, and he realizes a little too late now that something is quite wrong actually. Ursula calmly walks outside with a fresh pile of towels in her hand. She suddenly hears a rather large explosion coming from Kyle's room itself, and quickly rushes to see exactly what's going on in there, inside his very room. She then finds Kyle sitting on the floor surrounded fully by dirt and stone, while there's a giant gaping hole right in the wall indeed. His magic practice hadn't quite gone as he had originally planned at all, and he ended up simply blowing up his entire room outright. He should have probably just practiced outside in nature instead, maybe, once he clearly saw the obvious warning message itself. But next time then, he'll set up better conditions overall for his future grand experiments now. As they're talking casually, Leonhardt runs quickly into the room to check out the loud noise now, and also starts freaking out badly about the big hole in the wall also. He asks them to at least kindly help him clean the entire room up first now. However, the precious books are also ruined completely by the explosion here. A while later now, we find Ursula in the kitchen space, trying to whip up something quite tasty for our boy Kyle indeed, but judging just by the look upon her face, things aren't exactly going smoothly at all there. She can't quite fully figure out just what's off just yet. Her food smells bland totally, and she definitely doesn't want to hear Kyle complain about how tasteless it is again now. As she's lost in thought mostly, another maid strolls into the room now. This particular one is Daisy specifically, and she can't resist teasing Ursi about how serious she always looks even when she's intently cooking just for Kyle every day fully. But Ursi doesn't even flinch slightly. She just keeps her head down silently and says it's her job purely. So of course naturally she wants to do it with the utmost care too. Daisy is a little surprised by how focused Ursi seems truly, and decides right now to lend a helping hand as well. She suggests readily adding a pinch of nutmeg to the stew hot, and says it'll boost that flavor and make it much richer in taste. She even tells her to just simply try it and see if it clears up her doubts deep. Ursula looks a bit hesitant for now, but eventually, she sprinkles some more nutmeg into the stew then gives it a quick little taste now. and is actually amazed at just how much better it tastes indeed. With a distinct look of cute curiosity there, she asks her senior if she's so good indeed at cooking. Why not just teach her? Then Daisy smiles softly, though it's a bit sinister even looking, and agrees right away. She says she'd be happy to surely help if she can. But first things first, Daisy suggests they take the delicious food to Kyle now. After quickly loading up the full trolley, they wheel it together now to his room indeed. As they walk along, Daisy asks how Lord Kyle has been lately now, mentioning she's heard he's become much more truly composed. She admits she was really worried then when Ursula became his personal maid there, fearing he might trouble or perhaps mistreat her badly. Ursula kindly reassures her that Lord Kyle actually treats her indeed very well now. She mentions that she's also heard he's become quite responsible lately now, waking up early now for exercise and really studying a lot more. Ursula is intrigued now by how she is asking so many varied questions, but she eventually confirms it all. That Kyle really truly does work quite hard at his studies now. The scene then transitions directly to our boy indeed, where Ursula shares to him now how Daisy seemed truly very interested in him, and asked quite a lot of questions too, even specifically about who Kyle had been meeting lately then. Our boy then immediately asks her what exactly she told Daisy then. Ursula promptly replies that she didn't reveal all that much then, because she didn't particularly want to disclose anything about him yet. She asks if she did well indeed, and our boy gives her a definite thumbs up there, acknowledging clearly that she made the right exact choice by not revealing really anything to her at all. He also specifically tells her that moving forward now, it's quite okay to give more moderate actual answer. It will become hard to keep it fully a secret though, that he's overcome his Hermamum illness now, and has started actively learning magic fully. As Ursi heads on out, Kyle reflects now on how his second indeed eldest brother has actually started to make his specific move now. As night fully falls there at the mansion then, the Marquise's quite booming voice truly rings out in clear disbelief. The very head of the Celtarian family is stunned to newly learn that Kyle has truly overcome his old illness. The brave knight confirms it now again, saying it's indeed completely true now. The youngest son is now studying magic all on his own, and has apparently already achieved the first circle indeed. Though our boy's inherent powers go way beyond that first circle you see, Leonhardt decides wisely to keep this vital information to himself here, because such a grand revelation now would simply be too much for the head of the family to instantly handle. The Marquis still remains very skeptical though, and he is clearly finding this startling news too hard to fully believe. The weary father then recalls just how Kyle was in truly terrible condition the very last time he saw him throwing wild tantrums for seemingly no apparent reason at all. At that time way back then, he had to deal with all of it by giving young Kyle a good punch to quiet him down instantly. Momentarily he then pointedly asks how old young Kyle actually is now these days. The loyal knight reports dutifully that his 13th birthday has just recently passed now. That is finally when the head there reveals a really critical detail now, which is that to overcome her dear mom, you either need exceptional talent indeed in magic or swordsmanship, talents that usually do manifest around ages 5 or 6 truly. He wonders if there are any cases of someone overcoming Hermamum now, as late as 13 now. The knight admits he's not quite sure of any such cases ever, but claims he has personally witnessed young Kyle overcoming her mum then, and effectively using first circle magic here. On hearing this detail, the father wonders if it could be a genuine miracle perhaps. He then asks Leonhardt if he should meet his young son personally himself now. Leonhardt reminds him gently that it's entirely his decision to make freely, but the head of their family somberly says now he's not sure if he should meet Kyle just yet, as he very well might still harbor some resentment against his father still. But that's when the knight reveals the polar opposite to the Marquis now. He explains that Kyle actually truly wants to speak with his father now, and if there's truly something the Marquis wishes to say then, the knight immediately offers to deliver the important message clearly. Hearing this at last, the father decides he will meet Kyle in person soon. The scene then flashes straight back to a moment earlier, precisely when, before actually meeting the current head of the family now, the knight had indeed asked Kyle if he held any message for his father truly. That's also precisely when our boy here, boldly stepping outside the mansion's outer boundaries now, walks right into the courtyard space. The loyal knight reminds him that he's still under strict house arrest, and can't leave the annex, no, without the Marquise's explicit permission. Kyle, with unwavering confidence and poise, replies that this is exactly precisely why he wants to meet his father face to face with him. The knight is startled indeed, for a moment, by the sheer boldness in his expression, and he hesitates to clearly say anything at all. Kyle pleads earnestly with the knight, giving him an irresistibly cute look that, eventually here, the knight ultimately has no real choice but to agree to young master's entire plan. In the present, when the father hears clearly that his son doesn't resent him now, he's left utterly speechless. The knight clears his throat quite dramatically, and repeats firmly that Kyle simply wants to meet him. By the way, this man there is quite esteemed. Remtun Seltarian, now the head of the prestigious swordsmanship family Manhwa, Marquis himself of the Celestrians now, protectors, indeed, of the family from monsters for many generations past, and indeed one of the 5 famed swordmasters on the continent. He is of course Kyle's own father. When our boy notices a photo of the head of the family now, his own hand starts trembling uncontrollably now. He realizes deeply that it's the original Kyle's body reacting now. Remembering the deep fear and resentment towards his own father, he vividly recalls the harsh days the original owner of this body endured here. The inherent fear and apprehension still lingering within him now. The constant reminder directly from his father that he was simply a good-for-nothing son to him had left him devastated truly, and those memories now weigh heavily on Kyle's soul now. His father never hesitated to readily remind him of his own worthlessness, letting out a heavy sigh there. Our boy reflects now on how the recent memories of the original Kyle have now quickly become his own memories too indeed. Since Lee Hyunwoo and original Kyle's very souls have merged through possession now, the immense pressure and pain that the previous owner once keenly felt before are now fully transmitted to him wholly as well now. But that's precisely just why our boy intends to change this all now. He's truly determined to show everyone now that the Kyle of old, the scared broken boy, is past, is gone completely as part of this very body. Now, he promises now to prove Kyle's true worth to the world and to himself indeed. When he finally stands face to face right now with the Marquis, the man starts off their conversation by directly asking if he actually has something to say now. Kyle then responds with a crisp, loud strong voice saying yes Marquis indeed. The Marquis remains utterly silent for a long moment, noticing quite boldly how his son addresses him as Marquis instead of father clearly. It makes him truly wonder why this mere brat actually wants to meet him now. He then rather points out that Kyle had been given quite clear instruction not to dare leave his room without direct permission recently, though he acknowledges that Kyle was granted access to the library for studying indeed. So he sternly warns his son that if he dares cause any more trouble now, this time it won't exactly end with just mere confinement alone. He pointedly asks Kyle if he understands just what that clearly means. Kyle then begins to I tremble instinctively at his father's stern voice now, and can't help but truly feel the weight of the past. He points out keenly that there's no trust at all between him and his son, though he admits it's quite understandable indeed, given how much trouble the original owner of his very body caused them. He then gets curious quite about his father's strength overall, as one of the prestigious 5 sword masters truly, so he tries to assess all his stats using his system directly. However, the system ultimately fails him, unable to provide such information on such a high-ranking opponent too. Realizing he can't fully rely on the system info now, he decides instead to negotiate peacefully. He calmly explains right now to his father directly that the main reason he formally requested an interview now, through Leonhardt clearly, was precisely to avoid ever leaving his room without permission anyway. The Marquis perks up indeed, impressed completely by how efficiently his son has countered him then. He can't help but even remark how Kyle is now speaking much like an adult truly, just precisely as the very rumors suggested too. Kyle then truly acknowledges his past bad behavior, and simply admits he caused a lot of real trouble and annoyance indeed with his childish action. He completely owns up to all foolishness of the past now, and with quite a respectful bow, he sincerely expresses his deep regret. He promises to truly change for the better now. The father is utterly and truly baffled by the drastic and sudden change in his son's behavior. How could a brat like Kyle even think of truly apologizing? He's astonished that a mere child, who used to blame others often and get irritated every day, is now saying something quite like this now. While our boy decides to speak just once again, his father anxiously braces himself for what might come next indeed. Kyle then drops a bombshell that he wants to make a real deal with it. Curious, the Marquis asks what kind of deal Kyle has exactly in mind. Our boy first of all reminds his father that he must have already received a full report from Leonhardt about him bravely overcoming his Hermamum illness indeed. The father then confirms he has heard of it all, but finds this hard to believe at all. Such a miraculous thing could actually truly happen here. Kyle insists it's all quite true to prove his main point. He conjures bright fire right in his very hand, revealing this now to his dear father, that he now possesses first circle magic great ability. The father is completely and utterly blown away. Once again he didn't really believe Leonhardt's exact word, but seeing Kyle's true magic abilities firsthand now, leaves him certainly at a complete loss for words. He confirms he can see mana now flowing inside Kyle's body. Our boy also boldly claims that it's quite true indeed, and that he'll only get far stronger with the passing time. Mages who overcome her mom are known truly for their exceptional potential. Kyle adds that it took him only a few very short days to reach the first circle through intensive self-study here, and a mage of just this level is said to be as valuable truly as an entire knight order. Then he acknowledges that the Seltarian family now is famous for its remarkable swordsmanship. But having top-notch magic among the direct descendants too would truly be a great addition overall. He keenly suggests that if the family supports his growth as a mage he'll definitely keep honing his skills and contribute significantly indeed. He ardently hopes to become a great asset then and really help the Seltarian Marquis stand out so well, with both renowned swordsmanship and magic combined, elevating their whole family's status in the country now. Kyle wraps up smoothly by asking his father for his thoughts on the proposal here. He strongly reminds him that this is a deal that benefits both the entire family and himself greatly, and requests that his father consider investing in him now, as a truly capable talent indeed. After deliberately putting his father in a bit of a tight spot with his proposal now, Kyle also thoughtfully reflects on life's give and take actual nature that he keenly knows. The very best way to truly gain favor is to show what you can offer in clear return. The Seltarian family notably values its honor and overall benefit above all else then, and just merely showing family blood surely won't persuade his father at all. The previous Kyle simply tried to gain attention solely through trouble instead, but those methods only seriously backfired now. But our boy is way wiser indeed than the previous Kyle we knew, and he fully understands that aligning mutual interests can bridge even the toughest of relationships out there right now. Meanwhile, the father is currently at a true loss for words. He's left there wondering now if this is really the same old Kyle he knew, as he seems quite so different from the very child he once was. Kyle once again right now asked his dear dad to support him and help nurture his talent there. Of course, this sudden change in his son's behavior now has officially boggled his father's bewildered mind, and he's really not even sure how to best respond here. He keeps on wondering if this is really the same child he truly knew. The way Kyle speaks so efficiently indeed and negotiates so well was something his dad never quite expected at all from him. Achieving fully what you want through negotiation, and surely learning to use power and proper authority, is a truly crucial skill for aristocratic children too. It's hard to believe surely that the kid who used to throw tantrum is now indeed saying things exactly like this. The child he once thought was a failure indeed and had neglected so has shown quite remarkable growth indeed. Eventually now, he decides to fully recognize Kyle as a valuable asset to the Seltzer family. Not surprisingly at all then, the son is momentarily startled just when his father agrees right away now. The man then also promises clearly he'll provide all of the necessary fun and magic stones for his very studies too, and tells his own son to make absolutely sure he shows his full worth. Kyle smiles brightly in response now, and assures his own dad that he'll live up to all his expectations surely. A few days later, we see the surprised faces of both Leonhardt and Raciel now. Apparently, they're standing right in the new magic workshop indeed, that Kyle has quite acquired to nurture his great magic now. He looks quite pleased indeed and proudly asks for their opinions overall. He explains well how he's reinforced the entire place with a barrier so strong. Magic artifacts too. Equipped it well with tools for making potions and unique artifacts even, and he is also glad to note that there won't be any holes left in the walls really. Now Leonhardt, he was the very first to react quickly, and he clearly looks quite fascinated by the sheer fact that Kyle managed to afford all this. Given just how expensive it all must truly be, that's precisely when our boy then realized he had forgotten to even mention that this was all funded well by his dad. He explains simply that all he had to do was charm his dear father a bit, and he gladly did provide the funds readily. Leonhardt is a bit creeped right out by this act, finding it very hard to believe now that charm could actually fully work on someone quite like Remton Seltarian. Kyle then opens up another subroom in his new workshop, and cordially invites RCL to come take a good look inside now. She sees even more fine equipment neatly laid right out on shelves, but that is surely not the main highlight at all. Here Kyle fully explains that it's difficult indeed to use spirit magic fully freely in main room, so he made very sure to set up separate space for this. This new special area is equipped well with soundproofing and dustproofing, so she can practice spirit magic without any real worries at all. Archie looks quite anxious now as she glances around, because she is not so sure if she actually deserves this much here. Kyle happily tells her that it's for her to use, as much as she likes indeed. He reminds her that he doesn't quite want her to be just a maid alone, doing only menial tasks daily, and he wants her to grow into an irreplaceable spirit mage now that will quickly become his trusted aide close. Not surprisingly at all, the girl bows her own head then, moves deeply by how highly her master regards her truly. She even starts to cry softly and promises to work hard now, learn diligently quickly and become someone who will be truly helpful to him surely. As she makes this heartfelt promise full, her favorability rating then rises now to 70 quickly. Just as they're both sharing this heartfelt moment so deeply, the stones on all the shelves then begin to react there, and bright energy soon starts illuminating the entire area quite well. They look all around widely and see that the spirit magic circle is suddenly activating now on its own fully. Kyle asks her quickly if she's done something there, but she quickly denies it now. But it doesn't quite take him long at all to realize what's now happened. The blue energy then starts to coalesce and turns into a cute thing. A fluffy creature indeed, now with wing, that quickly rushes fast toward RCL and hugs her tightly now. Our boy confirms to us clear that what we just saw now was a spirit summoning ritual, and that the cute thing, fluffy ball, is a familiar creature now. Given that it immediately clung tightly to RCL right there, it's clear now she's the one who summoned the very spirit. He's not too very surprised though really, considering her clear talent for spirit magic of course. He compliments her quite on her skills too, but RCL points straight out that she literally didn't really do anything herself. Kyle in swift response explains clearly that spirit magic is different than casting spells in particular, or reciting some incantations by chance. It involves feeling keenly the spirit's energy in nature now, and connecting deeply with it through the soul surely. When her own emotions were heightened truly, the spirit stones right in his workshop did respond quick, and then summoned the spirit especially for her. He then specifically tells her to look at the shelves now, where all the spirit stones, that were previously there, are now totally gone. Archie is quite bewildered to see that it's indeed true, and feels understandably a bit uneasy about it, but the young boy reassures her that it's quite fine, as they were ultimately meant to be used anyway. As the summoned spirit clings lovingly to the girl now, Kyle keenly reflects on how he didn't expect her to summon a spirit at all so quickly. He's quite curious now about just what kind of spirit this is anyway. When he actively tries to use his system to fully examine it, the system reveals directly that it's indeed a high-ranking spirit, and thus cannot be identified accurately with insight alone. He then directly asks her now what kind of spirit it truly is. Archil warmly chats now with the little furball, and responds clearly that the spirit is actually known as a Shirat, an ancient kind spirit of pure light. Kyle is quite shocked by the very revelation now, and he finds it particularly hard to initially believe that this little spirit here is actually the very legendary one. Ancient spirit of light, indeed. Well, it seems like he might have annoyed the spirit a bit by calling it Chub. Apparently these ancient spirits are so incredibly rare that even top-level spirit mages might only manage to summon just one, after pouring absolutely all their spirit stones into the whole process, and spending many days and nights focused intently on. The plain fact that RCL was fully able to summon this spirit in one single shot is simply and utterly mind-boggling to consider. What is even more truly fascinating here is that she was fully able to summon the very spirit unconsciously. Meanwhile, the poor spirit is still fuming somewhat about being called Chub, and starts pinching our boy relentlessly for his thoughtless comment. RCL then quickly explains with care that this isn't the spirit's full true form, and if it reverts back to its true normal form now, the entire grand mansion just might even collapse. The startled bird finally stops pinching poor Kyle. RCL then sweetly reveals that the lovely spirit wants to be close friends with her. Kyle quickly realizes indeed that the happy spirit must be suggested they properly form a contract, since it was truly summoned by RCL herself. The young girl then promptly sweetly asks the spirit there if it's quite okay to form the contract now, and the furball chirps a positive response right then. A yellow light illuminates as the circle fully activates, and RCL officially asks the spirit of light itself if it will form a solid contract with her indeed. After some brief formalities, it's time to give the spirit a name. Kyle quickly suggests the name Padaki, and Ursula agrees too, bestowing the unique name upon the new spirit now. The system confirms clearly that the spirit's name is now Padaki, and the important registration is fully completed. The little furball quickly flies straight over to its master, and Ursula states warmly that she looks forward to working with Padaki. Starting today onward, the spirit chirps a positive response once again now, as they share such a tender moment of affection that Kyle reflects softly on how well his talent discovery project is surely going. A few days then pass and we see our boy catching up with his older brother. Adolf the big bro starts off the very conversation by apologizing, saying he did not give much needed attention to his little brother lately, as his older brother indeed, Kyle, remains quite modest and replies simply that it's truly nothing, as he should have sought out his brother quite first. It's very clear they're not just exchanging brotherly affection at all, as there's a thick tension right between them indeed. RTL serves the tea to Adolf and quickly walks directly away. As she leaves, Adolf intently watches her with a purposeful gaze now, and quickly recognizes her as the slave completely. Kyle had bought from the market yesterday. He can't help but comment on how beautiful she now looks for a simple maid. Our boy responds that his main intention was simply to get a maid now. His brother then asks if he can perhaps take RCL with him right away. As soon as these foul words then fall into Kyle's ears quickly, he is unable to take another single sip of his tea now and remains silent, inwardly calling his brother absolute trash completely. However, he keeps his cool composure full, and politely asks if there's no other child he might prefer instead too. He starts now pretending as if he is romantically interested in RCL herself, as well of course, because this is the very only way he can avoid offending his evil brother surely. Adolf takes this bait and then quickly dismisses the strange idea altogether, claiming he's not the particular type to steal a girl from his younger brother ever. We then truly hear Adolf's deeper thoughts as well, and the real reason he's avoiding taking the maid is so very clear, which is that he simply can't afford to make an enemy of his younger brother just yet, by so boldly snatching away his girl right now. Besides that, he's heard some rumors that Kyle is not that mere troublemaker brat anymore at all, but seeing him around women at such a young age now only further confirms to Adolf that Kyle is quite likely heading down a dark path still. For Adolf then, this makes it even easier to lead his brother further into the shadows so easily. Adolf then quickly begins teasing him lightly, saying then that if he had known his young brother was such an interesting young man at all, he would have eagerly tried to get closer sooner than later. He keenly points out just how much Kyle has improved now, to which our young boy simply readily agrees still, mentioning now that daily life really has no major issues at all. Now as her mom isn't fully recovered from it all just yet, but it's all gradually getting better steadily. Looks like the big bro clearly was not expecting to hear this said, and he promptly asks him now if he is actually recovering well. Kyle explains gently that it's a longer-term illness indeed, so it's difficult to fully cure all at once just yet, but it's certainly improving step by small step now. He then proudly shows his brother some new magic, telling him it's quite a spell he personally created. That's about 1.5 times more powerful than regular magic normal. He then asks Adolf what does he think about it now. Well, the big bro is quite impressed truly to see that Kyle can create spell. As well, what shocks him much more is that Kyle is learning magic rapidly. Even though he is not yet fully recovered from his illness currently, he begins to really worry that our boy might well become some obstacle to the true heir's succession. He also simply can't help but to keenly notice that Kyle's attitude has suddenly changed much, as if he's gradually becoming quite a different person entirely. His own magical skills are steadily growing day by day also. He now wants to be very cautious, but at the very end, he just thinks of Kyle still as a 12-year-old kid, so there is actually nothing to be so very cautious about now. He then coldly decides to manipulate his own junior brother for his own advantage, and if he becomes truly useless somehow, Adolf simply plans to coldly discard him as mere trash then. So he directly asks young Kyle if he might perhaps be interested in joining his very own faction now. The sudden invitation truly surprises Kyle now, leaving him quite unsure of just how to properly respond here. A heavy, tense silence descends as Adolf eagerly waits for his reply so intently. Kyle then smiles purposefully as if he's finally figured out his proper answer at last. Adolf decides he will inform their father about the tense situation quickly, and Kyle quietly thanks him for handling it so smoothly. Afterwards, as Big Bro prepares now to leave the room, he opens the heavy door with a loud creak and then Leonhard appears, standing right outside, hears the sound, and promptly now pays respects to Adolf properly. Adolf then recalls that Leonhard is clearly another obstacle directly in his path now. This brave knight certainly isn't an easy opponent at all, as despite facing any potential temptations here, he hasn't switched sides yet. He then throws a sharp jab directly at Leonhard now, remarking loudly how it's quite a depressing sight to see indeed, that the mighty knight has been reduced to merely guarding a snot-nosed brat final. With that final decision, Adolf walks away now with his escort. Afterwards indeed, the knight simply turns right around and enters the room once more, where he finds Kyle still calmly enjoying some refreshing tea indeed. Our boy then quite happily informs his loyal knight that brother Adolf asked him personally to join the subjugation squad now. He further very clearly explained that his specific role will involve working directly with Baron Jerome, a close aide indeed to Adolf's renowned 5th Legion. This important mission will likely serve as a significant test of loyalty to the brother, and presents a prime opportunity to earn true merit itself, and ultimately gain real recognition for their family name. Leonhard is quite surprised now by the immediate news, and very quickly says that if Kyle is joining the subjugation squad now, he also wants to quickly go as well. However, of course, our clever boy turns him firmly down, explaining clearly that having a loyal knight there would put brother Adolf on high guard, and he just wants to sincerely earn his big brother's trust entirely on his own now, and can't readily have someone from their father's close side with him now. Leonhard keenly points out that the delicate mission is indeed dangerous, but Kyle explains clearly that brother Adolf won't so will easily trust him otherwise. He'll likely want to see how useful Kyle truly is in real combat, and might even deliberately expose him to some danger indeed. My guy then quickly flicks his very fingers now, and fire begins burning brightly in the palm of his hand. He quietly reassures his own knight that he's learned quite a few new tricks to protect himself well, so he's actually not too terribly worried at all. He adds that he surely won't reveal all his abilities just during this mission, and then pointedly asks Leonhardt if he's ever heard tell of ogre perfumes before we can possibly get more key details on that matter. The unfolding scene transitions swiftly to the green countryside instead, where soldiers have already set up a camp right in the dark wood. Apparently, we are clearly in the very south of Tristan now, territory quite well known for its heavily monster-infested forest indeed. The notable Seltran family regularly sends special subjugation squads there to clear out the monster, and as fully expected, Kyle is indeed part of this specific team. In the camp now, a thin, mustached man introduces himself fully as Baron Jerome, the new partner of our boy right here. And they certainly will be working side by side for this subjugation mission then. Our boy smiles back warmly at the man, and mentions that it's his very first time in real combat, so he is looking forward eagerly to working together with someone experienced, as Baron truly is. The man reciprocates this gesture and promises to protect him now, no matter what might happen however. While Baron appears quite supportive on the surface, our boy keenly senses something off here. The man holds a negative affinity score of 40 exactly, which really isn't a great sign. It's quite unclear what our boy might have done to upset him in the past, but he decides to stay extremely cautious. Baron then decided firmly to head out now to prepare for the upcoming task. As our boy walks away now, Baron reflects that Kyle is just a circle mate, new and inexperienced, so Baron decides to keep a close eye on, assessing his raw skills and ensuring his overall safety. After all, what true trouble could a recently bedridden kid possibly cause? After a short while, we finally see these little goblins there are being taken down swiftly by our boy's incredible magical prowess now. The very soldiers standing on the sidelines now can't help but praise our boy there for his impressive skills indeed, as he deftly takes down goblins left and right now. His affinity for it continues to swiftly rise now, with just a simple snap of his fingers there. The other horde of goblins is immediately set ablaze brightly. The knights all around him clap and cheer loudly for his performance, and young Kyle could not help but bask in the glory felt. Baron keenly showers him with praise deserved, declaring our boy to be simply incredible truly, and points out here that this subjugation battle has been the easiest yet they've ever quite experienced right at that particular moment now. Baron's own affinity jumps sharply from -40 to +50. Almost instantly here, this unexpected new development fascinates Kyle greatly, because he's simply never seen anyone quite so easy to quickly handle. The soldiers on the other hand right now keep their gleeful happy dance fully going, and Baron is quite confident that his brother, Adolf, will be pleased indeed to hear about Kyle's sterling performance now. This truly puts a wide smile on our boy's smiling face, since his initial plan has already been secured firmly, and it's now indeed time to move onwards to part 2 now. As the night now falls, everyone gathers back at their camp here for a booze-filled grand celebration of their easy win. Stress-free victory. Kyle downplays his vital role now, saying there's nothing much to congratulate him greatly for, but Baron still insists on acknowledging his incredible magical skills too. The other soldiers wholeheartedly agree too, admitting they initially really misunderstood their young lord. They even point out how he's still quite so young still, and had merely been living in the mansion only, leading them to believe he would struggle greatly with both combat and camping. Their prior expectations are now completely upended now, when not only does Kyle bravely participate in this battle, but he also doesn't complain once about the rough camping conditions also. In fact, he proves to be quite more mature for his young age too. When asked all about it, our boy explains that since his brother Adolf here must surely have dealt with these challenges during monster subjugations, that he felt he should also act quite brave and very mature now, just like his awesome big bro Adolf indeed. Everyone is so deeply moved indeed by his very word, and some even tear up slightly at the thought of Kyle's profound admiration for brother Adolf. It seems our boy's clever strategy worked perfectly well here. The soldiers quickly agree now to report back to brother Adolf directly about the insane performance altogether, and they are quite eager now to inform Adolf so soon about just how much his young brother likes him now. The favorability also rises swiftly up to 60%, as everyone feels such a warm appreciation for him presently. As midnight fast approaches and all the soldiers are deep in slumber, Kyle decides to just take a quick look around before heading off to bed. The patrolling guard requests him politely not to go too far far off. And with that simple request our boy promptly leaves quickly. Kyle is actually very pleased that these bunch of stupid heads here don't happen to suspect him of absolutely anything at all, just merely because they see him only as a kid after all. He also reflects now on how most of the valiant knights have fallen fast asleep after celebrating their hard-earned victory. Now, all through the night there are a few brave guards still on duty though, but they don't really seem to be much of a true threat certainly. Right at that very moment, he pulls out a bottle of perfume now. It then turns out to be ogre perfume of course, which indeed can summon ogres within a 10-kilometer radius now. He used it to farm experience with these creatures in the game now, so naturally he's familiar quite well with its effect. The whole scene transitions back just a bit now to when Kyle first mentioned ogre perfume, actually, in front of Leonhardt himself. The knight quickly confirms outright that he's never heard of it before. In response then, Kyle says that if no one knows about this yet, then he simply must be the very first creator of it there, which also clearly confirms the very fact that the recipe for ogre perfume simply isn't known in this world just yet. He fully explains that it's a perfume that summons ogres within its radius now, with the overall quality clearly determining how large the radius actually is. Leonhardt reminds him sharply that the goal of the subjugation squad itself is to tackle a goblin den soon, and also, ogres are quite high-level monsters now, so the squad frankly will struggle against them then. Kyle keenly confirms that this is exactly what he's aiming for here. He keenly points out that there are 12 high-level expert knights right in the subjugation squad now, so while mere goblins would be manageable quite easily, ogres indeed are a different story though. Furthermore, even still, the rest of the soldiers in the 5th Legion, merely a bunch of rabble. Despite being actually called a knight squad itself, their loyalty toward Adolf is quite unquestionable, yes, but their individual skills, unfortunately, are really lacking sadly. Apparently, this whole legion is made up entirely of mere street criminals, whom Adolf actually brainwashed using some dark powers there. The powerful brainwashing turned them directly into outright fanatics now, allowing Adolf indeed not only to expand his own vast influence, but also still to demonstrate his strong control over even the most hopeless individuals. Really, they are now very loyally controlled at this point, and if Adolf ever were to give a command during the succession ceremony then, a true tragedy would likely unfold right then and there sadly. With his knights willing to really go to any extreme lengths for him truly, even the street thugs are now part of this estate, yeah, and the brainwashed high-level knights truly are particularly troublesome now. To mitigate the risk of such blind loyalty turning sharply against him later, our boy now plans to significantly reduce the 5th Legion's overall strength as much as humanly possible right before the big succession ceremony itself, starting primarily with the 12 high-level expert knights we see here. He fully intends for them now to die heroically while fighting the ogres bravely. Kyle's main crucial role is definitely to survive this deadly battle here, and safely return there with the grand achievement of fully subjugating the ogre, thereby securing his own powerful position and clearly demonstrating his true value. As the potent aroma from the ogre perfume swiftly spreads across the countryside now, the fierce ogres are powerfully drawn to the strong scent immediately, and quite soon after this, the entire camp suddenly comes under a fierce attack. The frightened soldiers are quickly thrown into utter confusion now, completely unsure and terrified of exactly what's happening around them. One of the high-ranked knights valiantly tries to reassure all his comrades boldly, telling them now not to falter because it's just a mere ogre that's attacking. However, their shaky confidence is soon utterly shattered there, when this same knight is brutally crushed, just like a mere tomato reel, under the truly giant and terrifying hand of a monstrous ogre here. The terrified soldiers tremble badly and recoil sharply in sudden fear now, realizing truly that if a high-level knight can be defeated so easily, they stand indeed no chance against these terrifying monsters. That's really when Kyle jumps into the intense scene, urging everyone around to pull themselves together tightly. He directly scolds them now for cowering down, reminding them that prestigious Saltarian knights don't behave that way ever. He further stresses clearly that if they retreat back, the vile ogres will invade their territory surely, so they must fully stop the ogres right here, no matter the eventual cost. At that moment then, Baron Jerome arrives swiftly on his horseback, relieved truly to see that our boy is alive and safe too. He tells Kyle now to make his escape as he takes care of the monster, emphasizing clearly that his safety is the top priority always for him. But our brave boy firmly declares that he won't run ever. He makes clear that he will stay indeed and fight with everyone, until the very end, because he can't face brother Adolf then, if he abandons all his followers and runs away alone now. He asks the thin mustache directly if there's anything wrong truly with his decision. Baron is quite deeply touched by the bravery our boy is showing now, and looks back at him with true admiration indeed. That's precisely when Kyle casts a spell instantly, giving Baron an extra magical boost forward. As the quick spell takes full effect now, Baron feels much lighter and more invigorated suddenly. Kyle explains clearly that since he is still a first circle mage alone, he will support and control everything from the back here. He boldly tells Baron to take the clear lead and fight bravely there. The man quickly agrees to his young lord's command without delay. With a confident grip firm on his sword there, he dismounts swiftly from his horse now, and reflects deeply on Kyle's bravery and unwavering stance in battle here. He acknowledges then that our boy is indeed an irreplaceable asset absolutely to brother Adolf, and so he decides right now to report to it that his little brother truly is quite loyal to him. With a determined stance, Baron then unleashes a terrifying amount of great power, causing the very ground to shatter fully under the fort. He boldly challenges the ogre to come at him now, and charges headfirst towards the giant fearsome creature there. The soldiers watch onward in awe as their senior marches forward directly without a shred of hesitation. Inspired greatly by Baron's fearless stance indeed, they realize fully they can't afford to look pathetic at all now. Motivated strongly by their senior, they resolve truly to follow him now at all costs, and fight bravely with everything that they've got. Kyle gives strongly a final push, encouraging all the soldiers to march forward there, and face danger itself with all of their might here. The knights, truly motivated by his very word, marched toward their grim deaths without a single shred of hesitation. Meanwhile, Kyle grins to see his sinister plan unfolding, just as he had meticulously planned. Although the brave soldiers are quite strong, his dark perfume has summoned extra powerful ogres indeed, 2 or maybe 3 times more formidable than usual it seemed. He continues to rally the devoted 5th Legion onward, while inwardly, he could not help but feel quite happy now that this will surely be their absolute final standout here. The weary soldiers are caught completely off guard sadly, and are mercilessly slaughtered by the enormous beast, 2-headed giant ogres. Despite all of this gruesome mess happening, Thin Mustache fiercely charges at one of the ogres now. With his sword clearly drawn, his very eyes blazing with pure vengeance, he shouts loudly for the foul monster to die soon, and swings his gleaming sword with all of his might and strength. As he continues bravely to battle the giant ogre, one of the weary knights looks all around slowly, and realizes with horror that most of their high-ranking knights have already been tragically killed, with only a few remaining here. The soldier now begins to shiver terribly with terror, wondering quite if he can even make it out alive somehow, as the daunting enemy proves to be far too powerful now to contend with. Meanwhile, Kyle continues to smile intently, seeing this whole situation as his only true chance to thin out his brother's knights greatly. Initially, there were approximately 12 high-ranking knights present, but currently, only 3 remain still standing, including the Thin Mustache Baron, of course. Baron also now has been pushed to his absolute limit, and is uncertain currently whether they can achieve victory itself. He deeply contemplates using his final, desperate option then, which in reality, is the immense power of darkness alone. Before fully unleashing this terrifying immense power, he recalls brother Adolf's serious warning that Adolf had explicitly told him that the power of darkness would indeed make him stronger now, and greatly allow him to sense a raw power unlike anything else he had ever felt before. However, fully unleashing it now would surely come at quite a cost always. He simply would be totally unable to revert to his old self ever again, transforming into a frenzied terrifying beast and wholly losing his humanity. Therefore, Adolf advised him strongly not to release this ultimate power recklessly at all. Thin Mustache truly wrestles with the decision, knowing that using this power could be his last resort now. In their truly desperate situation now, despite the great danger, he decides to unleash his dark power then. He knows that while he might be able to defeat the twin-headed ogre, he won't be able to quite contain his rage at all, and losing control is still much better than dying like a lamb real. However, just as he prepares to unleash all his power, a sudden bolt of lightning descends from the sky above, striking the beast and stunning it entirely now. It turns out that the lightning was indeed from Kyle himself. He instructs Thin Mustache to penetrate right through the enemy line, while he provides backup support from the shore now. Thin Mustache brims now with admiration for our brave boy. He quickly agrees to the battle plan then, while he also feels quite reassured that he finally does not have to resort to using his dark powers after all. Kyle then casts a powerful spell known as Mind Cleansing now, which rapidly heals everyone there within its great range now. Thin Mustache is both shocked and quite surprised by the full effect, as they feel invigorated indeed, and their minds are cleared now. This truly rejuvenates their resolve now, reminding them clearly that they are the 5th Legion under Adolf's full command. Energized and fully focused, they recommence fighting the twin-headed ogre there. With renewed, fierce determination still, one of the elite knights strikes the monster hard, right on its overgrown head up there. But the ogre sends him flying back with a single slap even, and with this one now down, only 2 elite knights fully remain here. The monster slowly turns around, grabs the remaining knight fat, and smashes him hard against a tree with such great force here that nothing truly remains but just a splatter of fresh blood. This sadly leaves just 1 elite knight alive now. Baron Jerome Kyle just smiles darkly after seeing his true plan come to full fruition now. You see, his primary goal truly was to eliminate the 12 elite knights themselves, empowered greatly by Adolf's dark magic then. And with 11 now dead, only Baron Jerome remains frightened. His thin mustache trembles much in fear now, as he sees the gruesome remains of his comrades scattered all around him. Despite this palpable fear still, he remains resolute still and tells Kyle to cast that spell once more again, promising clearly that he will soon end the life of the mutated ogre now. Kyle on the other hand though, just flashes his trademark smile as always, and he finally casts the spell ensnare indeed, and these hand-like appendages pop right out of nowhere now, to grab the knight tightly from all sides there, rendering him utterly unable to move freely. The knight is completely bewildered quite by his inability to move now. Kyle calmly tells him then to keep his eyes forward too, because the ogre is right there in front of him even. That is when the orc truly begins grinning at the sight of its prey there, immobilized completely, raises its hand high and crushes thin mustache with a brutal swipe surely, leaving the other soldiers in shock and great dismay now. They are at a loss clearly now that their senior is dead indeed. The ogre then turns its full attention toward the remaining soldiers still, but before it can act now, a storm of fire hits the monster greatly, burning it alive completely and leaving the soldiers in absolute awe now. The ogre slumps right to the ground finally, defeated and scorched quite badly. Kyle descends from the hill there, and lands directly above the roasted body of the ogre beast. With precision itself, he pulls out a crystal from the monster's body now, which appears to be part of an elite unit force. With his complex plan officially played out as intended so, he decides now to wrap up his charade carefully. He announces then to everyone that the mutant ogre has been vanquished well, and he gives credits to Baron's ultimate sacrifice bravely, which gave Kyle the prime opportunity to strike hard and defeat the monster fiercely. He also praises those 12 valiant knights who fought selflessly onward. As the bright sun rises, Kyle concludes his speech saying that they have finally succeeded indeed and live to see another day now. At first glance, everyone is wide-eyed and unsure how to react well, but soon enough, they begin to beam with true happiness at their hard-earned victory. They celebrate loudly with their hands raised high in the air freely, reveling loudly in the triumph achieved. As the brave party starts their long journey back to the mansion safe, our young boy reflects deeply on the noteworthy success of the subjugation strongly, the total extermination of the mutated two-headed ogre greatly, along with the original clear goal of annihilating the goblin tribe, is a truly significant achievement indeed. However, it came at a heavy cost now, and the sacrifices were not small now. Once they finally reach the mansion wall, Brother Adolf is utterly shocked now, and quickly asks if Baron Jerome is actually truly dead now. Kyle somberly responds that Baron fought the mutated ogre fiercely to the death then, and without his fierce brave battle then, no one, including Kyle himself then, would have survived. Absolutely devastated by the grim news, Adolf pulls back the heavy curtains then, covering the cold dead body of his most loyal subordinate right there. He is indeed shocked now to see that Baron Jerome is dead really, but what troubles him even more now, is that it appears Baron had not tapped into the true power of darkness. The loss of Baron there, Jerome and the high-level expert knights is a very painful blow to Adolf now, and it drives him into a truly furious rage now, though he doesn't voice his intense anger directly then. Instead, he pretends to be deeply concerned, and expresses relief that his dear little brother is still now alive. He acknowledges that Kyle's clear victory over the mutated ogre is commendable indeed, and says he will inform their father right away, and ensure he is properly rewarded justly for his grand achievement. The junior brother responds back with a broad and warm smile, and thanks Adolf sincerely for his kind word. As they finally begin now to enter the large mansion, Kyle smirks subtly to himself then, wondering quietly if he has truly succeeded in deceiving his big brother now. Night falls softly, and we find our boy hanging out now with his knight and maid, looking quite pretty pleased overall with himself really. He's narrating just how he managed to kill 2 birds with just 1 stone. He weakened the 5th Legion's raw strength and gained Brother Adolf's true favor. Plus, he snagged skillfully the core of the mutated ogre too, which will be super useful indeed for treating her mom very well. Come to really think of it, it's more exactly like hitting 3 birds with 1 single stone. Anyway, Leonhardt is relieved deeply that he made it back perfectly safe, but he notes honestly it was pretty dangerous indeed. Kyle just simply shrugs it lightly off, saying that 1 mutated ogre was really no big deal for him now, and he is quite sure that he could have handled it with no sweat indeed. He simply wanted to pretend to be much weaker now, to show everyone present that he is just a harmless kid actually. Leonhardt then asks if he plans to stick with Brother Adolf's camp there, and what his exact plans are for Lord Abel later. Kyle just smiles in response and tells him just to wait and watch closely, confident indeed that brother Abel will come looking for him on his own later. A few days later now, the major members of the Seltarian family gather in the conference room as we see, to review closely the results of the subjugation now, and decide clearly how to distribute the spoils finally. During the whole discussion now, the Marquis mentions clearly he wants to talk more about Kyle's role in the ogre's defeat at last, and opens the floor right now for any possible objections here. There's a murmur indeed of surprise and disbelief among all the family members, who find it hard to believe surely that Kyle was even fully involved in defeating the fearsome monster here at all. Now on the other hand here, Adolf sits calmly with a smug smile now, already plotting then to keep Kyle firmly on his side now. One of the members in the conference room there finally raises their hand high, pointing out clearly that Kyle's supposed significant role indeed in the hunting party itself sounds quite like a bit of a stretch for sure. This particular critic is Baron Hemington himself, a rather portly figure much known for his bluntness. That the Marquis now asks clearly for clarification first, and Baron Hemington responds calmly that, while it's quite well known how much the Marquis adores his youngest son and often praises him too, the reality indeed is that Kyle is just a first circle magician instead, essentially being an apprentice new to magic completely. Considering the trouble our boy has caused severely in the past now, Hemington argues strongly that merely participating fully in the subjugation and returning safely still doesn't warrant real credit for the monster's real defeat later. It's quite hard to believe that someone could mature so quickly overnight even, and play such a pivotal role then. He also goes on next to highlight still that Kyle has truly always been a troublesome child. Up until now indeed, the other family members seem to nod along now, clearly worried now about what kind of mischief Kyle might be cooking up still. Now Kyle, meanwhile too, is somewhat fascinated very much by the fact that these loudmouths there have absolutely no qualms indeed about speaking ill of him. Right in his presence it seems so. The original Kyle is living up to his reputation exactly as a troublesome kid always, which isn't too terribly surprising I think. At that very moment, Kyle himself decides to speak up now. He addresses the Baron directly in person, pointing out very clearly that he was present when the mutated ogres were rampaging still, and simply surviving and witnessing such a harrowing event there is a significant achievement very much in itself. So, he urges the Baron very strongly to reconsider his initial opinion here, emphasizing clearly that only someone who has faced a monster like that firsthand personally can truly understand the genuine terror involved. He further challenges the fatty there by asking quite directly if he thinks dealing with such a major threat is as very easy as it sounds still now. Of course then, Baron Hemington is visibly startled now by our boy's challenging tone here, as he stumbles slightly for a response now. Lord Abel also speaks up clearly. He points out truly that even regular ogres are tough to deal with here, even indeed for several high-level expert knights now. Considering carefully, the ogre Kyle faced was a two-headed one too, twice as strong truly as a regular ogre now. The fact indeed that Kyle returned alive is nothing short of a miracle now. Our boy feels clearly a bit bewildered to see his oldest brother defending him now, which is a rare show of support indeed. On the other hand, quite clearly, Baron Hemington tries to counter that by arguing now that Kyle's survival was due to the knights there risking their lives to protect him. Of course, he emphasizes now that all 12 high-level expert knights died certainly, which clearly suggests now that Kyle's survival was more a matter of luck certainly, and indeed the sacrifices of others as well, rather indeed than his own prowess shown. Lord Abel then speaks up again and stresses fully the fact that the blow that killed the mutated ogre then was delivered swiftly by Kyle's powerful spell, as confirmed precisely by the surviving brave knight. He acknowledges this fact. While Kyle may indeed have been a troublemaker way back during his childhood, he still made truly significant contributions in this subjugation now, and is now focused on studying advanced magic diligently currently. Abel thus argues clearly that it would certainly be fair for Baron Hemington now to set aside his prejudice and recognize Kyle's amazing achievements now. The fatty attempts to argue further on still, but Adolf cuts him sharply off with a raised commanding voice now, asking if he truly believes he has any right to bring up Kyle's distant past misdeeds and criticize a direct descendant truly of the Seltarian over merely baseless claims really. Adolf then directly questions if he is trying to overstep his own authority. This causes Hemington to shrink instantly back in palpable fear now, quickly denying any such intention whatsoever. Meanwhile back there, Kyle indeed, the man of the very hour, is utterly bewildered by what's unfolding. Both of his brothers actually are defending him fiercely. Adolf finally calms down now, clears his throat and turns to their father then, declaring firmly that his vote is indeed in Kyle's full favor. He fully recognizes his dear little brother's achievements now, and insists strongly that they must surely be acknowledged here. He reminds his father then that the famed 5th Legion is directly under his command always, and all of the boys testified bravely that his young brother fought bravely then, with both Abel and Adolf certainly in agreement full. Their father then delivers the final stern verdict. Now, if indeed both brothers fully agree there are absolutely no objections to acknowledging Kyle's full contribution at all. Marky declares then that from now on Kyle is officially free now to come and go from the main residence surely, and he may very even leave the estate entirely. Our boy now lights up with much happiness at hearing his father's final verdict. However, his father goes on to say that the spoils recovered from the mutated ogre will now be distributed then, based purely on merit alone, and that Kyle will not receive any of them yet. This surely catches our boy off guard now, as he wasn't expecting Shirley to be cut out fully like that now. With those very final words spoken, his father adjourns the meeting promptly, and everyone is allowed to leave now, but young Kyle stands right there still, completely bewildered now by the last part of his father's verdict issue. He truly has no idea why, despite being acknowledged for his contributions clearly, he isn't getting any spoils at all. Before his father leaves the room, Kyle quickly calls out to him then, trying to charm him there with his innocent expression so cute, and asks indeed if he's really not going to get any spoils at all, after all of his hard work truly that is. When his father leans in much closer to his son's very ear now, and whispers quietly about the ogre core that Kyle already swiped beforehand. As soon as his father's whispered words start to sink in then, Kyle's very breath catches sharply in his throat now. He quickly responds instead, saying he doesn't need the spoils anyway at all, and that just having his house arrest lifted finally is more than actually enough for him clearly. Then from behind him now, Adolf calls out to him too. When Kyle turns right around now, his big brother reminds him gently that he surely kept his promise indeed, of informing their dear father about his grand achievement, adding smoothly that he did it all out of pure love for his little brother there. Kyle, however, can clearly see straight through the flatterer, knowing precisely where Adolf's honeyed words are truly coming from deep down. Meanwhile, Abel is also standing off in the distance now, quietly reflecting further on how much Kyle has remarkably changed in just a few days' time. He is definitely looking forward eagerly to meeting his little brother all alone soon. It seems our boy's initial prediction has come entirely true after all. In the next unfolding scene, we see Abel and Kyle catching up now. Right off the bat, Abel drops a bombshell of serious news indeed, claiming plainly that he doesn't actually have any serious real skill, and this is truthfully the first time he's ever mentioned it to anyone at all. Not even their own father truly knows. Kyle simply goes along smoothly with the flowing conversation, but silently in his head, he's deeply thinking now, why is my own brother suddenly dropping such secret bombs like this right now? Kyle had ultimately been ready to fully talk with his own brother Abel, but he surely didn't expect the whole conversation to take such an unexpected sudden turn thus far. Before we dive further ahead, let's rewind a bit back. Right after the meeting promptly ended, Abel approached our boy and then gave props for the hard and dedicated work he put into this subjugation. Now, he points out plainly that Kyle has now successfully proven himself indeed, in real proper combat now. So he confidently gives a title indeed, of a proper mage to our boy there. Kyle, however, clearly downplays it so modestly, saying he's still very far from that high title. After all, he's only a first circle mage then, and he chalks his recent success right up to sheer luck itself. Once Abel takes solid control of the whole conversation now, he promptly invites his little brother to come to dinner too, saying simply, he'd love to hear more about all his exploits during this subjugation after all. At that time our boy readily agreed with a warm smile then, but now, just sitting across from his brother right now, he knows the real, true reason for this invitation soon, which is that his big bro is now trying to recruit him straight to his side now. But what our boy simply can't quite figure out still, is why his big bro is suddenly dropping such a deep personal secret now. There simply doesn't seem to be any ill intent present, but he's still struggling somewhat to understand fully what Abel is truly trying to achieve at all, by revealing something quite so private here. Whatever the case, our boy's keen mind is also on the bigger picture now. If he wants to safely navigate the Marquis of Keltarian rebellion fully, then Abel's strength surely needs to grow as Adolf's influence crumbles fast. Only with solid support truly from the Marquisate of Celtarian now will Kyle even have a chance to survive this complex fantasy chess game here. So he knows he has to be very careful indeed with his words now. With that thought fully in mind, he turns to his big brother and asks that why he is revealing such a truly significant secret to him that not even their own father even knows about now. Abel responds quickly by simply asking now if his dear little brother isn't interested in hearing the full story first of all. Our boy admits quietly that he would truly love to hear what his senior has to say full, but after learning indeed such a big secret just now, he's unsure right now how to react and what Abel truly thinks of him currently. The senior very quickly picks up fully on Kyle's sincere concern presently, and directly then asks if he feels worried that there might truly be ulterior motive behind revealing such very crucial information now. Kyle sheepishly smiles now and kind of agrees to what his brother said then. He further openly admits that he simply can't ever win against his big brother in the cunning games of wit. So he decides to be more straightforward now. He makes it very clear that while he is currently aligned with Adolf for now, he doesn't truly firmly support him after all. However, this surely doesn't mean he plans to join Abel's side either at all. The intense scene then transitions to the practice grounds of the Grand Mansion, where we find Adolf venting his building frustrations on the training dummies there. Clearly quite agitated, one of the maids stands nearby now, watching him closely with a stark mix of concern and also apprehension. His deep frustration apparently becomes fully evident as he expresses his irritation even more that his eldest brother paid a visit to Kyle's residence before. The maid furthermore confirms this now and adds that there were guards stationed outside around, so she was truly unable to overhear their private conversation overall. Adolf firmly states that he already well knows why Abel wanted to meet Kyle, and what they discussed. He makes it abundantly, truly clear that he, Adolf, was the very first to set his sights intently on our boy, and is certainly not going to lose him to Abel easily now. He then coldly instructs the maid to poison young Kyle's food if he ever shows any faint signs of considering actually joining Abel's side, emphasizing directly that this is precisely the key reason she was stationed there. The poor lady looks anxious and clearly scared by these stern orders given, but she reluctantly agrees to firmly carry out the grave task. The tense scene shifts swiftly back to Kyle and Abel's important meeting, when the senior brother asks him bluntly why he isn't interested in joining his side now. Our boy hesitates quite visibly to respond clearly now. Well, we all just actually saw what Adolf is plotting so fiercely against our dear boy if he joins Abel's side quickly indeed, so it's no genuine surprise that he truly does not want to join, no, but he simply does not say anything at all to Abel directly regarding this serious matter. Instead, he actually surprises him greatly by plainly saying Abel is a genuinely kind person. Well, this utterly unexpected response certainly catches the senior quite off guard there, while our boy keeps sincerely saying how kind his eldest brother surely is now. Apparently, young Kyle's words spoken are remarkably genuine now, especially considering now his system clearly shows that Abel's affection level toward him is zero still. This is actually a rather positive sign indeed, given that most people usually have negative scores in affection indeed toward our boy right here. Abel, on the other hand now, admits he's truly glad to hear such kind words said. However, he also deeply feels regret for not fully paying attention to his younger brother now, and only coming around precisely when he needed something still. Kyle reassures him promptly in response though, saying he really shouldn't feel guilty about that. He duly acknowledges his own bratty behavior in the past time, and frankly admits he also dislikes his former self quite honestly. He is just truly glad that his senior brother now didn't just bury him quite for being a total brat though, and he's very thankful indeed for that kind act. Abel burst into rather hearty laughter now when he hears the pretty funny remark from his junior boy. He jokes that if he had truly known his little brother was so smart and perceptive now, he would have definitely met him sooner than then. Abel gets incredibly serious and tells Kyle that whatever Adolf has promised him so far, Abel can surely offer the same, and even much better. He asks him earnestly if there's any real chance for reconsideration here. Our boy finally speaks up clearly, saying directly that if he joins Adolf now, he's quite sure Abel wouldn't hold any real grudge, but if instead he joins Abel's side, Adolf would definitely be ruthless and might even kill him outright. He further genuinely explains that Adolf is genuinely merciless indeed, and would definitely go to any real lengths to eliminate him surely, if he just becomes any hindrance at all. He adds firmly that he just barely got through a trial then, and as just a first circle mage now, isn't truly strong enough to properly defend himself if Adolf decides to target him directly. Our boy highly doubts he'd stand any chance at all really. Abel remains quite quiet upon hearing this rather extreme evaluation now. He notes that our boy here is the only family member who has ever expressed such a strong opinion precisely about Adolf. When Kyle directly asks if he agrees with this very assessment, Abel simply nods along in swift confirmation. Before diving even deeper into the intense conversation, Abel finally reveals now that his seemingly insignificant skill now is actually a keen intuition indeed. He plainly explains that since his very childhood, he's always indeed had a nagging feeling within when something quite bad was soon about to happen. This strong intuition has indeed helped him avoid many dangerous situations. However, just as they approach the succession ceremony then, these ominous feelings have strongly intensified now, especially greatly concerning Adolf now, who is giving off some seriously quite dangerous vibes definitely. Abel freely admits though, that he doesn't have concrete proof to absolutely confirm any ill intentions at all from Adolf, so he can't surely be entirely too sure now. This startling revelation kind of fascinates our boy wholly. He even starts wondering now if Abel is actually fully aware of what's happened around him, What's quite surprising really is that this level of insight should be just a low-level foresight now. But Abel also seems to sense dark energy strongly, and he never had that ability ever in the game before. It makes him question just what's going on around here. Could it perhaps be that since he entered this game world itself, just as Kyle clearly developed new abilities, that other NPCs might have also drastically changed too? He remembers how Urshel, who was supposed to be just a minor character only, has developed an innate talent for spirit magic regardless. Abel speaks up once again right now, saying that even though Adolf is his younger brother now, and second in line for the Marquisate position, their father doesn't think he'll cross any truly dangerous lines though, even if he perhaps gets a bit extreme now. Abel's just clearly trying now to stay quite cautious because of this ominous feeling he truly has about Adolf though. He admits that this much isn't quite enough to really convince others now, which is precisely why he's kept it quite a secret. Our boy points out that if brother then Adolf becomes the true successor of the Marquis of Saltarian now, the whole place will surely fall into chaos, and none of them will then be safe there. Abel certainly seems to get the logic behind all this, so he asks Kyle if he really has a concrete plan now. Our boy finally reveals here that he's going to pretend sincerely to be on Adolf's very side. For now, keep a close eye on all his movement, and act precisely like a loyal follower to make him drop all his guard. Then he'll indeed take his big chance. Abel then highlights clearly that this does not look as simple as it sounds at all. Kyle then explains that's exactly why he truly needs help here, and asks his senior brother if he'd be totally willing to support him now. Abel is momentarily quite surprised, but quickly recovers his composure and chuckles softly, while saying how he just can't refuse his adorable little brother's earnest request. Just like that, he agrees wholly to support Kyle from within the shadows now. With that all settled, our guy says he has just one more favor to specifically ask. But before we can even hear all about that particular favor, the scene transitions sharply to give all of us a good look at the Grand Mansion. A few long days have definitely passed now since the important conversation with his brother. Inside Kyle's room now, we see a grand pile of platinum coins indeed. Leonhard gasps sharply in shock now, as he claims that just one of these very coins is worth several times his own monthly salary, and he asks young Kyle how he managed to get so much money there. Our boy then cheekily replies that he stole it all from his older brother. Right. The knight is totally shocked and asks then if he stole it from Abel. Kyle responds quite positively now, and the scene then flashes all the way back to the past. There, we clearly see Kyle asking his dear brother for a large sum. Abel agrees now, without any hesitation at all, asks how much he truly needs and promises to prepare the money right away, saying it's just a little gift indeed for his younger brother now, so he simply does not need to pay for it in the present time. Our boy happily reveals that he had no real idea his older brother was so generous. Amid all of this, Leonhard also notices a shining ball in the pile of coins there, and curiously asks his master right about it just then. Kyle explains clearly that it's a personal communication orb that his brother gave him, so they can easily stay in close touch. The knight truly finds this quite absurd, and points directly out that these orbs are incredibly expensive. He could buy a mansion with a lovely garden for the same amount too. Kyle acknowledges the very high value of these items here, but corrects his brave knight that the orb is a simplified version now, as it can only be used exclusively for direct communication with him. The knight then keenly looks at Kyle direct, seeing the sheer happiness spread on his very face, and figures surely that his talks with Lord Abel must have gone quite well. Kyle happily confirms that they did indeed go well, and that his own older brother is truly a remarkably good person. He then promptly offers all the money to Leonhard, saying he can simply keep it as he'll surely need it soon. Leonhard keenly asks what he now plans to use all this money for exactly, since they've already finished renovating their entire workshop, and recently bought more magic and also spirit stone, so they shouldn't really need more money again for a good while. Kyle quickly mentions he plans to make even more money with this sum here, and that it's actually just his initial investment capital now. In the following next scene, we get a vibrant panel showing Urshel skillfully performing spirit magic now, as she intently chants her long spell. Padaki suddenly begins to glow like a very bright sun in the white sky, leaving Urshel completely bewildered by this truly unexpected outcome now. She had originally truly intended only for her staff to glow brightly, but instead, Padaki responded quickly to her chant now. While Padaki snuggles right up on Kyle's head there, the girl shouts right at her to stop climbing onto his head now, but our boy reassures her gently that it's totally just fine though, and even jokes playfully that it's like having a helpful headlamp too. Leonhard, ever just the simplest guy truly, just facepalms in frustration quite deeply and quickly asks them what exactly they're even doing in the dungeon right now at all. Well, this is indeed kind of a good question truly, and I also want to know what exactly they are doing here as well. But our boy still remains vague when asked about their current activities though, simply stating factually they're in a dungeon just because it's a dungeon. Honestly, Leonhard is clearly quite annoyed deeply, demands a clearer answer now instead. He reminds Kyle quickly that they had left the mansion early, with the clear intention of visiting the neighboring territory called Empalum. So he urgently wants to know why they're now instead in a dungeon instead. Kyle continues to be rather evasive still, explaining plainly that there's a dungeon right on the way to Empalum too, and since they were simply passing by there, they then decided to take a quick look around. Once again, Leonhardt is frustrated greatly with his master's vague response. Indeed, he ultimately decides to give up on asking questions, and simply states firmly that they should get out of the dungeon now, since it's simply not a place to stay for very long. Kyle counters sharply, saying that their exploration of the dungeon has only just now begun. Leonhardt stubbornly reminds him that it's truly dangerous now. He points out directly that as they progress deeper into the dark cave, the overall number of monsters has steadily decreased indeed. This quite likely means a fearsome boss monster resides further inside, as low and mid-level monsters tend to avoid boss territories often. Leonhardt reveals that he's managed to handle things up to right now, but he's unsure what new challenges they might face if they continue onward. He firmly insists they should turn back while they still clearly can. That's exactly when Kyle makes it clear that they are not turning back now, because the boss monster is precisely what they're after here. Leonhardt is quite shocked by his master's sharp revelation now, and asks directly if leaving the house under the pretense of going to Empel was all truly just a cover story. Kyle responds simply that it wasn't entirely incorrect, as they indeed do have business specifically in Empel. However, truly, he explains that he just happened to know there was a dungeon right on the way. If he had mentioned this from the start, that they were going to explore the very dungeon itself, I certainly wouldn't have been able to leave the house all alone. Twice as many guards definitely would have followed them all. He is quite sure that his second brother's spies now, and his older brother's guards absolutely would have too, accompanied him as well, which is not a good situation at all. Truly, it would have been wholly impossible to explore the dungeon with such a crowd. And further, if a big fight had broken out among them, everyone there would have been quite caught in the middle now. Additionally, there are indeed issues with young Urgel now, since Urgel is training deeply in spirit magic art, which Kyle specifically wants to keep a very deep secret. He has only informed his father intimately, and simply doesn't want his brothers to know this just yet at all. Therefore, bringing Padaki out right in front of people would be problematic. He then addresses clearly the elephant in the room always, revealing clearly that the biggest issue is sharing all the loot, if they bring even more people along. But Leonhardt keenly points out that with just 3 of them, it's actually quite reckless now. He readily acknowledges that he might be an upper-ranked expert knight indeed, but Air Shield has only just begun to learn spirit magic currently. While the knight quietly keeps his protest going, Kyle finally speaks up firmly, with a truly fiery tone that leaves the knight stunned and completely silent. Kyle sharply reminds him that just because he acted rather weak back in the mansion, it certainly doesn't mean he should take it just at face value at all. The sheer power of his magic now, which has overcome her Mamo itself, is drastically different indeed from regular old magic type, and Leonhardt himself is a direct witness to precisely that power. With all that firmly in mind, Kyle asks him if he still holds any hesitation. He strongly emphasizes that they currently have a solid and strong team, Leonhardt himself as their sturdy tank, Urshile as of course the dedicated healer, and himself very much as the DPS, with literally everything they truly need in place now. Our very boy sees absolutely no reason why they shouldn't explore the dark dungeon, for just one last time now. He firmly tells his knight to stop underestimating his master now, and show true faith and trust indeed. He then boldly challenges Leonhardt by asking if he still harbors doubt, to whom he would truly choose to be loyal, his father or Kyle. Before Leonhardt can respond at all, Kyle makes it utterly clear that he doesn't need a knight who serves actually 2 masters. He solely wants a knight who serves him alone now. This puts Leonhardt in quite the dilemma, and he hesitates much to answer. Well, our boy surely understands. The hesitation comes from the very fact that Leonhardt is only here now, as per the Marquis's direct order, to guard his son no matter how loyally he serves young Kai. His one true master is the Marquis still. Our boy has realized that simply showing sentiment alone won't be truly enough to secure Leonhardt's full loyalty, and forcing him would only backfire severely then. The fact that Leonhardt hesitates still reassures Kyle that the knight at the least acknowledges him as a true master worth considering now. With that all settled, they continue their journey deeper still into the dungeon. Leonhardt, with renewed conviction indeed, swears to truly be the impenetrable shield of Versina. As they step confidently forward into the main boss chamber, they find the massive creature sitting quietly now. The room is revealed to be the Minotaur's secret sanctuary itself, the very name of the dungeon itself. You see, Kyle notices that the Minotaur is much larger than he expected before, especially since, in fantasy defense terms, this dungeon was widely known as a beginner farming spot that it had no traps whatsoever, a very short path indeed, few mobs inside, and most importantly you see, the rewards were incredibly generous compared to its mere difficulty. This is exactly the key reason he kept the party small indeed, because he simply isn't about to share such treasure with anyone else now. Leonhardt then boldly reveals now that the Minotaur is clearly said to be 3 times stronger than a mere ogre. Kyle agrees completely, pointing out that while the Minotaur doesn't use magic at all, it has incredible strength to say the least. If Leonhardt even tries to block its giant hammer without sword energy infused, his bones could easily shatter completely. Kyle instructs him now to take the front line directly, draw the Minotaur's aggro and block its hammer attacks swiftly. He promises then to cast a shield spell to boost Leonhardt's defenses greatly. With the added shield and intense sword energy combined, Leonhardt should now be able to withstand the heavy, fierce attacks coming. However, Kyle warns that there's one attack to be especially cautious of always. When the Minotaur becomes enraged so much and charges like a mighty bull, it initiates a fearsome whirlwind attack then. Kyle advises Leonhardt now to dodge this very attack entirely quick, because even the strongest shields simply won't hold up against it all. He suggests luring the Minotaur to the outskirts quickly, while dodging its wild attacks as much as physically possible right now. Once the Minotaur's full whirlwind attack then stops, the monster will be exhausted greatly and quite dazed for sure, and that's precisely when Leonhardt should unleash his true attack there. Leonhardt acknowledges all the instructions now, and Kyle turns swiftly to Ursula and tells her to cast buffs on him and Leonhardt too. Before the big battle starts, since this is truly her first real fight, he gently suggests that if she perhaps gets scared, she should just hide safely behind a rock now. However, Ursula confidently replies that she's certainly not scared, but the real issue at hand is that she hasn't fully mastered spirit magic. Despite all that, she is determined to support Kyle and show the true results of her training. Kyle is quite impressed, honestly, by her resolve, and agrees to let her join the battlefield, but earnestly warns her not to overdo it out there. He wisely advises her to always maintain a safe distance, and retreat quickly if she feels like the situation is getting much too dangerous. He further explains to her that as the party's healer and buffer now, her most crucial role is definitely not protecting it, but ensuring, indeed, her own personal safety. He clearly reminds her that as long as she stays safe now, they will all have plenty of great chances to succeed then. In essence, she holds both his and Leonhardt's very lives in her hand. Ursula is quite moved, realizing how our boy is putting so much deep faith in her now, which deeply makes her blush as she promises to diligently carry out her task. Leonhardt, on the other hand now, stands quietly and simply could not help but notice how much Kyle surely knows. From the location itself of this hidden dungeon deep to the crucial importance of a healer alone, and the specific strategies employed to defeat the Minotaur too. These are all things one only truly learns through actual experience gained. Leonhardt simply can't resist directly asking Kyle then how he seems so very knowledgeable indeed about dungeon raid, despite this actually being his first time even entering one ever. Kyle is quite caught off guard by his knight's sudden question now, and struggles somewhat to come up with a convincing quick response here. He mentally curses hard himself for acting quite like he knows too much at all, forgetting now that he's supposed to be just a 13-year-old small kid right now. He keenly realizes that despite any intense magical genius he might have truly, it would be simply unusual for someone exactly his tender age to possess such notably extensive knowledge about deep dungeon raids still. Eventually, he cleverly comes up with a quick excuse then, claiming he fully learned some basic helpful tips during the goblin hunt then too, when dealing so with the ogre directly. Leonhardt finds this whole explanation hard to truly believe, questioning just how Kyle could have learned about the Minotaur's trait and attack patterns from knights who were then struggling with ogre. Well, it seems like our boy now is not getting anywhere with his lame responses. He's unsure quite why his knight is pressing so many questions just now, and fears deeply that Leonhardt might be quite close to discovering that he's truly not the real Kyle. He imagines now a true nightmare scenario, where Leonhardt stands up tall in front of absolutely everyone, and announces loudly that this person is not Kyle at all, but an imposter, and chaos wildly erupts then. And our boy here can practically even hear the crowd cheering so, as they pummel him hard with everything they've got. Then he pictures himself all tied up tightly in front of his senior brother, who are convinced fully that this brat must be possessed by some demon. They've been truly suspicious from the very start here, especially seeing since he's changed so very much in just a few short days. The mere idea of being burned alive now sends shivers right down his spine, so he quickly blurts out now that he read about it all in a book. The knight still looks unsure now, and is trying to piece it all together deep, but Kyle tries to firmly convince him that it's indeed true, mentioning that he spent a lot of time in the library quite often, and oh yeah, he might have secretly read some crucial strategy books too as well. The knight is totally baffled and confused here, but then his entire expression quickly shifts now. He starts to truly admire his master again now, saying that it all makes a perfect sense now. He points out how Kyle's been hitting the library lately now, studying intensely like a man on a deep mission. He's impressed that his master didn't just learn magic power, but also got got the hang of monster fighting strategies quite well. Leonhardt is feeling incredibly proud watching his master grow strong. He's practically buzzing with pure excitement to report back to the Marquis soon, sure that he'll be totally thrilled with his youngest son's great progress now. Meanwhile, as they both chat calmly, Kyle notices his clear affinity with Leonhardt rising quite closely. Whatever the real case, it's a small but indeed significant victory for him now. After all, he was just very about to get screwed badly, and barely managed to save himself from ultimately getting killed there. Later on then, we see Ursula in action now. She casts a healing spell, and tiny spirits rush quickly to Kyle, instantly beginning their vital work there. Her powerful magic boosts his health and defense by 30% now, enhances both his mana and his sword energy quite remarkably, and restores lost health while providing automatic healing effect. Over time, our boy really can't help but compliment Ursula on just how much her spirit magic has improved here. It's clear she has gotten a lot better ever since she first learned it. With that done, the trio then is finally ready now to take on the Minotaur indeed. While the fearsome monster is still sleeping soundly, Leonhardt swiftly charges right in there. But the Minotaur wakes up and swings its massive, heavy weapon, just as Leonhardt himself is about to strike out. After a brief, fierce clash, the knight steps back to a safe distance, and notices how much more solid and lighter his own body feels now. Thanks to Kyle's shield and Ursiel's helpful buffs there, the Minotaur, now fully awake and quite furious, lets out a massive, echoing roar. It demands to know who these intruders are, and why they dare greatly to disturb its slumber. With a menacing growl now, it threatens to smash everyone into pieces, if they're here solely to steal its treasures now. But the Minotaur's loud mouth is quickly shut right up by Kyle's crystal attack, but it only merely tickles the beast there, which just makes it even much more annoying. Kyle just simply stands there with a smug grin still, letting the Minotaur know that the real party indeed has just begun now. He then unleashes forth his powerful ice lance, but the Minotaur blocks that very attack with its massive weapon, and growls in utter irritation. Leonhardt sees his grand chance now, and lands a solid slash directly near the Minotaur's throat now, making blood pour out quite like a leaky shower now. Kyle is totally pumped indeed to see his knight in action now, and could not help but admire clearly how badass his knight looks now. Our boy then cheekily simply tells the Minotaur that Leonhardt is far much more capable indeed than he realizes still. The Minotaur grows even much more annoyed now to hear this, and lifts its giant weapon quite high to crush Leonhardt now, but Kyle uses Stone Shield just in time now to block that attack. The poor knight on the other hand just now trembles still under the Minotaur's massive weapon there, thinking he was just a hair's breadth truly away from having his bones crushed. He's thankful Kyle used the shield spell at the perfect exact moment then. Otherwise, his arms would have been shattered beyond all repair now. What really blows his very mind is Kyle's ability to predict every move, and cast the spells at just the right moment indeed, seamlessly leading the entire battle. Kyle's battlefield instincts and spell casting skill are top-notch now, and he's got everything fully under control now. Our boy then casts another spell that strangles the Minotaur tight, making it utterly unable to move at all. He follows this up now with a barrage of light bullets quickly that hit the monster's overgrown body hard. The Minotaur roars in agony from the sizzling hot shots there, while Kyle stands there then, like a total Giga Chad. Definitely, both Ursel and Leonhardt there are left utterly bewildered truly by his incredible display of skill here. Even the mighty Minotaur can't help but give a nod to Kyle's mad skills now. He's seriously impressed that a mere human has pushed him this far indeed. But don't get it twisted though, he's still got quite a grudge against human, and views them as absolutely nothing more than ants really. He decides it's truly time to show who's boss definitely, and starts preparing his formidable ultimate attack right now, the whirlwinds now. The air around him starts to churn as he swings his axe with true fury. Kyle quickly warns his party members that things are about to get real bad. He tells Leonhardt to really keep the Minotaur's full attention, and lead it quickly to the very outskirts of the entire battlefield. That Leonhardt, ever the incredibly diligent knight right there, takes off like a shot instantly, while Kyle makes doubly sure to boost his knight's defenses up, readying him completely for the storm that's definitely about to hit hard. As Leonhardt gets even closer to the savage Minotaur now, he throws his sword sharply at the beast from a safely good distance. The fearsome Minotaur roars out in total anger. His rage is reaching fierce new heights as he charges fast after Leonhardt, who runs directly toward the outskirts exactly as they planned. It's quite a high-stakes game indeed, of cat and mouse, with Kyle and his team playing all their parts to sheer perfection. Our main boy starts the tense countdown from 30 now, and as he does that, we flash back to his earlier sound advice to Leonhardt which is simply to avoid the Minotaur's dangerous whirlwind attack, and not face it straight head-on after unleashing such a massive ability. The Minotaur would be really exhausted and need a moment now to catch its breath, and that's precisely when they all can strike back hard. Back now in the present time, There are merely only 5 seconds now left before the Minotaur exhausts itself completely. Those intense 5 seconds certainly feel like an eternity right now, as the monster almost brings its truly giant weapon down, crashing straight down on Lanehart directly. Just as the final crucial second ticks slowly away now, Lanehart narrowly dodges the fierce attack indeed, escaping closely by a mere hair's breadth only. He's absolutely quite terrified now, amazed indeed at how close he actually came to being hit badly by that massive weapon, though he is quite also glad that his close call really paid off well. He's now left truly wondering if it was all just a mere coincidence perhaps, or if Kyle had timed everything perfectly from the very start. Our boy then quickly uses another great spell, summoning pure ice crystals that fully show the vast extent of his magic's power now. After throwing the crystals right at the Minotaur now, the fierce beast is finally defeated indeed, leaving behind only its massive, giant weapon. After the intense battle is officially over now, Ursula is hard at dedicated work patching up Leonhardt's wounded hand, and once he's fully healed, he warmly thanks her for her support shown. Meanwhile, Kyle is totally over the shining moon about the treasure left behind now, thrilled indeed to claim it all solely for himself presently. The treasure shining pile is packed fully with very valuable loot now, starting off with a staff that radiates quite an aggressive aura indeed. This potent staff not only allows for slightly faster magic use now, but can also efficiently store up to precisely 3 spells as well. Stored magic spells can be utilized fully without consuming mana later, and further have a maximum spell circle of the clear second now. Kyle fully explains that in fantasy defense also, acquiring this amazing staff from the Minotaur's very dungeon is a truly essential strategy clearly for all skilled mages now, offering very powerful benefits until one becomes a high circle mage indeed. He's quite thrilled now that this staff here means he won't have to worry much about his weaponry now, for a while at least. Leonhardt meanwhile now eyes a sword he found among all the treasure there. At first quick glance, he can tell that it's clearly a high quality blade after all, with some magical properties too. No wonder the Minotaur was so protective of it then. As he looks intently at all the treasure, his mind quickly flashes back to the proposition our boy threw toward him now, which was mostly about pledging full loyalty whether to the Marquise herself or to Kyle himself direct. Leonhardt is definitely feeling quite guilty that he is now being rewarded with such generosity from his young master overall, even though he can't even truly get himself to pledge loyalty to him now. Uriel is also certainly feeling a pang of guilt too, for always just receiving things freely from Kyle direct. She openly admits she simply wants to be of help to him really, even if just a little bit, but she's unsure how she could ever repay him back if she fully accepts such very valuable loot now. Kyle reassuringly reassures her not to feel that burdensome way, emphasizing quite how much both she and Leonhardt truly have contributed greatly to today's heated battle. But still Leonhardt fully agrees with Ursula completely, saying simply that the sword is too precious for him now. Kyle sighs deeply at their very absurdity, and tells them firmly that the equipment isn't just any simple reward. He expects them to only get stronger with this high-grade gear now. He stresses strongly that they need to enhance their combat power urgently now, as they're somewhat short on valuable time. This equipment is specifically meant to help them significantly indeed boost their crucial abilities for the challenges soon ahead. He also openly acknowledges the standard rules about reporting right now, and distributing any high-grade dungeon rewards found now, through the proper, established channels of course, but he admits plainly he doesn't intend to follow them this very time. He wants now to keep their newfound great strength, and the treasure's vital secret fully from the rest of the family. He tells Ursula now and Leonhardt that they're certainly the only ones he can truly trust fully right now. He urgently urges them to take the potent artifact, improve their abilities further and be of help to him in the face of looming darkness within the Seltarian family now. He emphasizes strongly that becoming stronger is crucial for their survival. After this rather serious conversation indeed, Kyle decides now it's the right time to start their journey to Infilum. His both friends acknowledge his powerful words with a positive attitude, ready to embark fully on their journey and face the challenges right ahead. A few days later on now, at the Infilum mansion in the breadbasket region, chaos fully erupts now, when Count Frantel Neuron, the very lord of Infilum himself, discovers that the Seltarian Marquise family has arrived quite unannounced. In a total state of shock, Frantel is shouting and rushing down the stairs fast, frantic to surely find out whether it's the first or second son arriving, who has unexpectedly shown up now. His assistant, a bespectacled man there, explains that he's not so sure now, but they certainly carry the Seltarian crest emblem, which only direct descendants of the esteemed family can ever possess. Frantel is totally freaking right out now, wondering indeed if the Seltarians perhaps are considering dragging his domain quite forcefully into their extended family succession drama. His assistant is also deeply worrying about the same thing, and further keenly points out now that it's an unwritten rule, truly, to avoid involving other family in succession disputes, but it seems they're fully caught up in it now. When they finally do reach the guest room itself, Count Frantel Neuron pauses just for a moment, to regain his formal demeanor. He opens the door then with a very broad smile, ready to warmly welcome his esteemed guests from the Seltarian family now. But his warm greeting gets caught right in his throat when he sees Kyle, sitting comfortably there in the guest room, sipping his tea and enjoying some delicacies so fine. When Kyle sees the actual lord of the mansion right now, he promptly greets the lord himself, and apologizes there for the lack of advanced notice beforehand. Frantel, on the other hand here, exclaims in sheer shock, now asking who the hell even this boy is. But a real shocker comes indeed to Frantel, when he realizes that Kyle is actually the same good-for-nothing fourth son of the Seltarian family there. He is so shocked now that he even blurts this line out quite loud, but he quickly tries to cover over his reaction with his own hand, as Leonhardt is right beside Kyle at this moment, shoots him a cold glare that clearly now says he's quite not impressed with the lord's distinct lack of decorum, in front of his own master now. Our boy quickly tries to diffuse the rising tension by saying it's all good, and boldly tells the lord now to chill out. He readily admits he was indeed a troublemaker until very recently, but now says he's actually had a marked change of heart ever since he fully recovered himself from her memo. He's been indeed reflecting on his past self and wants now to do better. Frontal seems quite surprised by this very news, and then asks if he really now has overcome his former illness. Our boy confirms, saying he's now bravely forming a group to practice pure magic, and hopefully hopes it will certainly benefit the whole family. Frantel is still struggling now to properly process this, because he now clearly remembers the youngest as such a hopeless troublemaker, and he was truly the kind of kid even the Seltarian family had given up on before. But now seeing him so clearly, he realizes he's quite different from the past rumor. His very eyes show absolutely no sign of confusion at all. He is also quite polite, and his posture is impeccable too, not to even mention, our boy even has the admirable intention indeed, of helping the family, which leads Frantel to firmly believe that the bad rumor he had heard about him simply must have been false all along. He beams brightly with happiness now, as he realizes that Kyle is actually a genuinely good guy now, contrary to what the widespread rumors say exactly. He then rightly points out now how proud our boy's own father must truly be with his youngest son indeed, and the main reason for his father's utter happiness is that, in all generations of brave swordsmen now, our boy is the single only one who's managed to even produce magic, making the very future of the Salutarian Marquis family truly look incredibly bright indeed. With the pleasantries now aside though, Frantel quickly gets right back to crucial business. He's certain that Kyle didn't come all the long way to Infelra just for a truly casual visit, so then he asks Kyle what brings him to the town itself. Kyle smirks slightly at first, apologizes politely for the unexpected, unannounced visit now, and explains further that the Marquis family is now in a sensitive situation regarding a certain succession issue at hand. He truly didn't want to draw attention to all his movement, so he did indeed not try to announce his arrival at all. The real reason now for his unexpected visit is solely that he wants to purchase grain just from Infelrum here, which is the single largest granary located up in the north. This certainly surprises young Frantel deeply, who points right out that they're already trading grain still regularly now with the Seltarian family itself, so he truly wonders if Kyle himself is looking to make an additional purchase here. Our boy right here directly confirms this claim, explaining clearly that the grain is indeed for his personal use now, and it is separate now from their regular existing arrangement. He wants it strictly for magical research only and can't really go into details just now. He also mentions clearly that this won't be just a one-time deal, because he fully plans to continue buying regularly from now on in the future. He's heard tell that Infelrum has indeed had good harvests recently, resulting in a surplus of grain that's quite hard to manage now, so he wants now to buy up that entire surplus stock. Kyle then snaps his fingers sharply, and his knight steps forward promptly, opening a box with a handful of platinum coins gleaming brightly. Even though the actual number of coins is relatively small, Frantel and his assistant are quite blown away indeed. Their very jaws drop as they try hard to wrap their heads around now how this young man truly has such a vast fortune. Frantel quickly gathers himself quite professional, and says that selling the old grain shouldn't be much of a problem, as they truly do have excess stock available soon. He acknowledges keenly that magical research is highly confidential, so he certainly won't pry further into his important work. Kyle smiles back warmly, quite glad to be working with Frantel closely. However, the Lord is curious though, and asks how a young person just like our young boy came by such a substantial amount of money. Truly, transactions with unclear funding sources surely could lead to trouble soon, especially with such a very young buyer indeed. Our boy reassures him gently, saying that the money is a gift from his dear brother. When Frantel pointedly asks if he precisely means Abel, Kyle then confirms he indeed does, saying Abel truly is the only person he'd call his oldest brother. Of course now, This only makes Frantel even happier and more inclined to trust young Kyle. The very fact that Abel readily gave his younger brother such a substantial amount of money too, shows quite clearly they have a truly close relationship. He figures now that having Kyle and Abel right on his side is certainly a better deal than having a relationship with their third brother at all, Adolf, who seems now to have sinister intentions brewing. With that very thought in mind, he says if Abel is vouching for young Kyle, he's clearly willing to trust young him too now. Once our boy secures Frantel's crucial trust now, he immediately starts the delicate negotiation. He offers just 4 silver coins per sack after all, instead of the initial 7 silver coins Frantel had demanded clearly. Frantel and his assistant look now at our boy with their rather clueless faces, but Kyle continues bravely with his ongoing negotiation still. He argues calmly that 7 silver coins for old wheat is indeed a bit much, especially so since the extra old wheat is taking up valuable storage space now, and incurring storage fees quite daily. He suggests that selling it for merely 4 silver coins is truly the best option for both parties involved here. After a lot of back and forth negotiating now, Kyle finally settles on 5 silver coins per sack indeed. Once the negotiations are finally done now, and they get to the guest room for a little rest, Kyle is over the moon with joy. Leonhardt is also quite impressed by his negotiation skills then, and curiously asks if he learned them from books itself. Kyle is caught quite off guard by this question, and sheepishly says that the library has every book he could imagine for sure. However, the plain truth is, he's picked up these keen negotiation skills from haggling in online marketplaces itself. The knight then asks how he plans to make money by purchasing grain soon. Kyle explains that he intends to buy grain when it's pretty cheap then, and sell it when demand surely rises to make a better profit. The knight calmly responds that the current grain supply is quite stable, and their Dresden territory has secured reserves until next year. In fact, he further keenly points out that it might be difficult to make a profit by putting old grain there on the open market. Kyle simply explains that they're preparing well in advance, because they really don't know what might happen in the future at all. You clearly see our boy knows exactly that a great famine is ominously coming. Very soon after the Salterian Marquis family succession grand ceremony, unprecedented extreme weather anomalies will inevitably lead to a severe famine, causing all grain prices to dramatically skyrocket so high. At that crucial point, it won't matter indeed whether the grain is new or old. People surely won't be able to find enough food even if they have much money. Kyle understandably keeps all this quietly to himself, figuring he just can't quite explain it to someone exactly like the knight yet. However, it actually seems he doesn't really need to explain it anyway. The knight thoughtfully acknowledges that everything Kyle has done so far has actually had a valid and good reason, so he firmly trusts that this will be the same indeed. As the knight says this now, the favorability level substantially rises now to 50, which truly boggles his astute mind, since it was really in the negative when they first met indeed. Later that very night, RCL then entered, and explains that Count Frantel Neuron now has something quite crucial to discuss before dinner, and asks now if Kyle could spare a brief moment. When Kyle arrives at Count Nyron's room and gently knocks, he enters and says he's heard the Count wanted to see him promptly. The Count quickly reassures him that it's nothing too serious here, since he simply wanted to introduce Kyle to someone else. Our boy curiously asks to whom he's currently being introduced to. That's exactly when a young girl stands up and introduces herself as Nyron's daughter. In fact, as soon as our boy hears her pleasant voice and sees her face, he's visibly shocked. It turns out she's Iris Nyron's clearly, and Kyle clearly and truly wasn't expecting to see her just yet. To understand now why our boy is so shocked to see her again, let's break it all down for you. See? Iris Neuron is truly not just any character, mind you. She's a total standout really, with her cute looks and top-tier magic talent. She's got a massive fan base now in Fantasy Defense as well, especially during the early game phase, when everyone's still leveling up. But with all these positives in play, there is a negative side to her as well now, which is indeed that she's super arrogant though. Sure, she's quite beautiful for sure, but she's clearly also a bit of a tyrant, loving to step all over others always, and hating on anyone weak at all. She quite enjoys the luxury of simply being so talented, but her personality was equally quite messy as well indeed. Trying to get on her good side usually ends with you broke truly, thanks to her gold-digging ways in particular. As the game progresses onward, her shine starts to gradually fade with the rise of strong S and SSS class magicians. She finds herself quite abandoned by her loyal fans now. Currently now, Kyle is stuck wondering if he should even recruit her to his side then, especially since he's not keen on exactly going bankrupt really. Just to keep her happy always, he pushes those thoughts quite aside for now, and starts wondering aloud why Count Neyron is introducing his dear daughter to him soon. At this precise moment, the man now, on the other hand, happily continues on, mentioning clearly that his daughter just turned 11 this very year, so there's truly not much of an age gap. Since Kyle is 13, he's hoping they could become good friends too. Then the Count adds further that she's even studying magic these days now. He insists firmly he's not just saying this because he's her loving dad. She really does have rather great talent indeed. Since Kyle is also actively learning magic then, the Count figures quickly they could learn from the other one and have quite a blast together. Truly, my guy truly is a bit at a complete loss for words current, especially since judging just by the look right on her face directly, it's completely clear she's not exactly eager at all to make new friends today, even though her very own dad is clearly pushing hard for it now. Eventually, our boy greets her quite politely, introducing himself very formally as Kyle Seltarian Precise, the fourth son indeed of the Marquis of Seltarian currently. He's trying really hard to be smooth, looking forward to their time. Just even as he says all this aloud, he swiftly activates his appraisal ability now and quickly reads her full stat, not surprisingly at all. Her characteristics line up perfectly well with what we had heard indeed before, and she has a whopping negative 48 favorability towards him as a result too. But what really catches him quite off guard is actually her talent. Mana's companion. You clearly see, Kyle himself even has mana stagnation here, a broken talent he's never once seen in anyone else ever. In the original game itself, Mana's companion was truly the top talent in the mage category there, available only to the very top 0.01% of SSS class mages only then, so he's truly baffled as to how Iris now, an A-class mage even in fantasy defense, has this talent now. It's pretty clear she's gained some extra abilities indeed, just quite like Abel and Ursiel then. That clearly means new possibilities have opened up fully for her definitely, and Kyle can't help but really wonder what that then means for their dynamic now. He reflects back on how despite her quite off-putting personality traits making her such a target for avoidance specifically during the gameplay, if he could get his own hands firmly on an SSS level talent though, everything would certainly change then. He simply can't afford to miss this grand opportunity now, no matter the ultimate cost. On the other hand here, Iris, with her signature sassiness always, fires back sharply now. She points out that he's the fourth and last in the Seltarian family line, teasing him cruelly about how she's never heard of him just before, even though she knows all about the great achievements of Abel and Adolf indeed. Keltarian with quite a smirk there. She claims she's already advanced in the second circle, while he's still stuck firmly in the first. She wonders aloud what they should do regarding the power gap now, acting like they're truly on completely different levels at all. Meanwhile, Kyle is doing his best now to maintain a straight face firmly, but inside he's silently cursing her out inwardly. He can't help but wonder exactly why she's like this always, and wonder, did she really have to be such a twisted character even? Ever since she was just a kid, Kyle calmly replies now that yeah, he's a first circle mage truly. And it's only been like 3 short months since he started learning magic right. When Iris keenly hears this, her eyes widen slightly, as she realizes he's reached the first circle in such a short time frame. She can't quite help but think that he is progressing way faster than her. In fact, possibly twice as fast it seems. He then fully explains that he only started learning magic after turning 13 now. Iris reminds him with a subtle hint of sass that he's a little late indeed, saying sharply, "It's really common sense to start learning magic at around the age of 10 you see." At the very least, Kyle responds rather positively nonetheless, agreeing calmly that he did start a little bit late truly. But in his head now, he's comparing her to a feisty kitten playful. Her natural aggression in her tone now makes the subtle insults almost bearable surely. He decides then to share a bit more intimately, telling her he sadly suffered from a hermetic illness seriously, and has only just quite recently recovered from it thankfully. Iris is genuinely now surprised indeed to hear that Kyle has overcome his serious illness dramatically, and she blushes a slight bit, gently saying softly, "That's actually truly impressive honestly." But she quickly snaps right out of it rather defensively too, insisting firmly that she's not admiring him for that now or anything. Her father then gently reminds her that overcoming such a grave illness typically requires truly extraordinary magical power indeed, or the inherent potential to become a truly great knight. The mere fact that Kyle managed to conquer it at just 13 years old now is pretty remarkably impressive. He kindly explains that Kyle is only going to grow stronger surely. As he continues to grow further, he suggests that Iris should study with him now, hoping sincerely they can learn much from each other now, and positively influence one another greatly perhaps. Iris, however, stays quite adorably stubborn still. She reminds her father that our boy is still only in the first circle still now, so she's really not quite sure just what she could learn from someone in a lower circle maybe than her now. Meanwhile, Kyle stands there with a smile plastered right across his face now, thinking quietly about how her characteristic contempt for the weak now is kicking in strongly. She's underestimating him quite a bit, assuming readily he's actually weaker. Surely he thinks deeply to himself how her personality is a bit problematic now, and he figures he might need to help her fix that quite bad habit now. Finally, he decides that Iris Neoran is the third talented person indeed. He wants by his side quite intently to impress her a bit now. He tells her firmly not to judge a book by its very cover. He steps closer still and confidently says that he'll prove he's not weaker than her in any way, and once he does that, she won't be able to ignore him anymore. Then Iris starts blushing deeply when she sees Kyle so confident now, and she can't help but be a bit wavered by his very demeanor too. She then quickly asks him how he plans to prove his strength at all. In response, Kyle rather boldly invites her to a duel, saying that if he loses indeed, he'll admit she's stronger after all. But even before he can finish talking yet, she cuts him off now, insisting she'll take the challenge too, and adds with a sly smirk that if she truly wins, he'll have to get on his very knees and lick her bare feet then. Well, not gonna lie either. This doesn't sound half bad at all actually. Her father, however, looks utterly shocked now, trying to figure out just where she picked up such a bizarre kink here. Iris sheepishly admits she read it in quite a romance novel. Her father starts shouting loudly at her now, demanding to know just what kind of twisted romance novel she's reading exactly. He quickly prohibits any more books now, and bans her right from reading them ever again it seems. As Iris's eyes start to well up slightly from her dad's yelling that, Kyle steps right in and assures them all that it doesn't matter what the challenge actually is. If he loses he'll accept it for sure, even if it means licking feet or toes. Indeed, this only freaks her father out even a bit more though, while Kyle makes it quite clear that if he wins this, she will have to accept him as her teacher then. He also tells her to promise that she will never look down now on anyone weaker or of quite lower status even. Iris pauses momentarily for a moment but eventually agrees to it, cockily claiming she won't ever lose to someone in the first circle who just started learning magic itself. With that strong resolve, she stomps right out of the place, full of confidence now, while her dear father claims that her personality is quite problematic indeed. He explains further that it's because she was raised by a family instead that's always been incredibly proud of her, since she was very little indeed. He worries greatly that if she continues growing up this way still, she'll become increasingly hated more and more by the world, making it much harder for her to get along well with others too. Right now at this moment, she doesn't have any true friends her age, and it's quite true that her reputation in social circles isn't great at all. Our boy is truly amazed to see that despite being a doting father he's fully aware now that his daughter is a problematic child somewhat. It makes him respect the Count just a little bit more now, realizing fully he's not just overlooking her many flaws of course. The Count then highlights too how Kyle had a stormy childhood himself certainly, wondering now if that's why he can understand Iris's mindset and actions precisely. He believes strongly it would be beneficial for her to experience defeat often, once in a while even so. He gives our boy full express permission to certainly not hold back and teach her the harsh painful lessons she deserves so much now. When Kyle hears this news, he can't help but smile now. Now he surely has the parents' permission to teach her a true lesson, and he's really looking forward to it greatly. Meanwhile, Iris is still stomping angrily down the halls there, muttering quietly to herself about how he just can't teach her a thing when he's only at the first magic circle. She's definitely feeling pretty annoyed indeed, but then her mind flashes right back to that recent moment, that heart-pounding moment they shared between them, and she just can't deny he's actually a rather handsome guy. Still, her arrogance immediately kicks right in now, and she stubbornly tells herself he's just a first circle mage only, determined strongly to make him lick her feet no matter now what happened. Oddly enough, despite her harsh attitude right now, her favorability towards young Kyle starts steadily to rise more. I guess that's indeed just how tsundere characters always work anyway. A little while later our boy finally returns to his own room here, and Leonhardt keenly points out that Count Naren's introduction of his daughter here likely has another hidden intention behind it, perhaps even now. His master directly asks him what he truly means by that, and the knight then reminds him that even though she's merely 11, it's still an age suitable for discussing marriage proposals, clearly. Plus, the age difference with our boy is not that big indeed. This thought sends a sudden chill running down Kyle's spine right now, and he sharply yells at Leonhardt now for even thinking about him getting married to an 11-year-old girl. Leonhardt very calmly reminds him now that nobles usually marry quite earlier than commoners do, so it's not uncommon at all to get engaged in their early teens too. My guy suddenly feels like he's about to puke immediately, as he finally realizes now why Count Nairon was so remarkably eager to introduce his daughter to him. Leonhardt even tells him now not to go too hard in tomorrow's duel at all, suggesting lightly that they truly never know what might happen between the two of them later. In the future he adds thoughtfully that while Iris may be a bit arrogant honestly, she's still just a young lady indeed. Kyle says with a devilish grin spread, declares loudly that if Iris's father is trying to set him up for marriage, then he truly needs to crush her even more thoroughly now. He makes it abundantly clear indeed that with the kind of attitude she has, there's simply no way he's going to marry her at all. Absolutely not, he flatly refuses, period, indeed. Instead, he decides he'll use all his strength to surely fix her twisted personality. Suddenly, RCL perks up rather at the mention of marriage and proposal. Judging strictly by the look on her face now, it's obvious she certainly doesn't want to see Kyle marrying Iris. The very next day finally arrives now, and the rules for the duel are laid out. It's strictly a one-round match now, using magic only to subdue the opponent without causing any serious harm. Leonhardt adds also that if things get very dangerous, he won't ever hesitate to intervene at all. He then pointedly asks both of them if they agree to the rules now. Kyle then gets quite sassy and pointedly reminds Iris that, since his knight indeed will be the referee, does she currently have any objections at all? The young girl keeps her usual nonchalant attitude ever, simply replies that she truly has no problem at all now. Iris explains quite clearly that Sir Leonhardt is a famous, high-level expert knight, and well known indeed in the Enfile, so she knows truly he won't give a biased judgment now. With that thought, Leonhardt finally decides to begin the duel now. Iris strikes her fighting pose and quickly unleashes a fiery attack toward him there. Kyle just simply smiles in quick response, very impressed by how fast her incantations actually are. It's truly hard to believe she's just 11 with such great skills now, but he knows clearly she's still far behind him for sure, and he quickly counters right back with his own wind magic too. Their raw powers collide then and the wind effortlessly blocks her fire arrow now. Iris grits her own teeth in slight frustration, but she quickly swings her magic staff again right then, thinking very intensely to herself now that she hasn't even truly begun to show her full strength now, and won't lose here to a first circle mage quite like this ever. She throws yet another fire arrow once more, this next one even more intense than before now, but Kyle saves himself again with just a flick of his very wand that he can't help but greatly appreciate her fiery personality too. She clearly truly doesn't know just when to give up now. Her magical power is quite impressive indeed for her current age, but he's absolutely determined to teach her quite a lesson here. Kyle raises his own hand and throws a lightning attack right now, known simply as Magic Missile. A fierce spell that now combines both lightning and his wind powers. Count Neron simply watches in utter shock right now, realizing that his potential son-in-law now can perform double casting right now, which is clearly a very refined technique. That's almost unheard of indeed for a first circle magician here. Iris sees the lightning attack heading straight for her now, and quickly raises her shield now to try block it now, but her shield is dispersed almost instantly now here, and before she knows it, Kyle is standing right in front of her very fast. Wand now in hand, Leonhardt declares out loud, "Our boy now is the victor." And as my guy walks away with a truly satisfied smile on his face now, he can't help but feel now a sense of great triumph. But this arrogant girl now, on the other hand here, is really struggling to accept that she just lost to a first circle magician for sure. To save her own face, she claims that it was just pure dumb luck that he actually won, because she was just in a rather bad condition for a fleeting moment there. So she stubbornly demands a proper rematch now to truly prove her shaky point. Kyle quite quickly agrees to the requested rematch this time, but he firmly makes it crystal clear that the results won't ever be any different, no matter what happens after a while passes. They face off fiercely again, and this very time, Iris loses badly once more, falling to her weary knees in total exhaustion. It's now the painful fifth round that she's actually lost, and honestly, it feels pretty brutally harsh for someone as utterly arrogant as her. He gently informs her that no matter how many more times she tries again, the disappointing results will simply stay precisely the very same. He sternly tells her just to truly end it all right here now, since she's likely completely out of magical power by this point now. As cold, hard reality deeply sinks in her troubled mind now, Iris then starts to genuinely feel the burning heat of her utter defeat indeed, and begins to suddenly cry loudly just like a little child. Count Neron gets suddenly anxious and quite worried for her well-being. It's truthfully not surprising to see really, though. Despite her obvious arrogance, she's clearly still just a small child after all. Even Kyle truly starts to feel a pang of guilt now, thinking about how he's made a young girl cry so. He surely didn't want it to come to all this real, but he knows it's a necessary lesson for her indeed. That very night at Count Neron's mansion now, Kyle finds himself staring at the fancy clothes here the Count provided for the grand banquet. Looks like he's not really feeling the whole dressing up vibe here. Leonhardt, indeed his knight, chimes in reminding him that even though it's a small family gathering here, it's still a formal occasion and it's always best to dress appropriately then. But Kyle is not sure why they even invited him to this banquet though, after he literally made their dear daughter cry like that. Leonhardt replies that Count Neron then said it was just fine to teach her some harsh lessons there. Besides, he probably expected something like this would happen maybe. Leonhardt further points out just that, since our boy fairly and squarely defeated her, Lady Iris so Count Nairon seems even more determined to make him his son-in-law too. Kyle now lets out a sigh, saying Iris might hate him even more so. But his loyal knight insists that's truly not the real case, judging simply by her immediate expression. It's quite likely that Lady Iris actually likes him quite a bit. Our boy finds this odd indeed and asks if that's really true. That Leonhardt just tells him to focus solely on getting ready for the grand banquet, while Ursel very quickly starts helping him properly dress up now. As Leonhardt intently watches them in the background over there, he can't help now but lament how Lord Kyle seems to truly know everything about the wide world, but is surprisingly still clueless indeed when it comes to love and romance. Once RCL completely finishes adjusting his elegant hair, she steps a bit back and tells him he's quite ready indeed. When we take a full look, my guy absolutely looks like a total lady killer now. Both the brave knight and the sweet maid perk right up, impressed indeed by just how handsome he simply looks today. With that now settled, Kyle decides it's definitely time to head on out, since they're now all ready after properly getting ready for the special event. Kyle very finally arrives at the large main mansion, where he's warmly welcomed now by other guests his own age range. A guy, now with brown hair, introduces himself formally as Meyer, while the fellow, the one with purple hair, says clearly he's indeed the second son of the famed Nairon family. Looks quite like Mr. Purple Hair is going to be Kyle's future brother-in-law now. After all that, meanwhile elsewhere, Count Nairon is frantically scanning the area now. Clearly he is on the lookout specifically for his daughter. He surely is not sure exactly why she's running quite late. He even tells one of the servants there to go check on Iris right now. Kyle overhears all of this and starts to quietly wonder if she might be upset now because of it, and is indeed avoiding the grand event because he made her cry perhaps. Eventually then, one of the maids escorts Lady Iris into the main hall, and she immediately calls out brightly to her father that she's arrived there. Despite her rather young age still, she has a surprisingly mature vibe now and looks quite incredibly elegant, rather than just cute, but she quickly gets slightly flustered then, like any young lady certainly would when she spots Kyle directly, who is also looking every bit the stunning lady killer right now. She approaches him now, and Kyle immediately starts thinking hard about how he fully expected her to cry and sulk, but contrary now to what he originally thought, here she is instead, which is quite indeed surprising given her known nature. Meanwhile now, Iris's head is swirling with all her own private thoughts. She truly didn't expect him to honestly look this very handsome. I mean, she already knows that he's good looking of course, but the aura and charisma he has is just so otherworldly now, especially now in the fine clothes he's wearing tonight. Finally, the Count Nero then tells everyone promptly to take all their seats and start dinner now. The Count also makes quite sure that Kyle sits right next to his future beloved wife. However, Kyle truly doesn't seem too especially thrilled about this at all, because he's currently worried that she might suddenly start crying here, or genuinely get angry that he's even sitting right next to her like this. He then quickly activates fully his powerful mind's eye ability, and keenly notices that her core personality characteristics haven't changed all that much it seems. Despite all this indeed, it truly looks like her favorability toward him has clearly increased now by a big 30 point, which has rapidly gone up quite a bit from 40 to a high 7. This suddenly shocks Kyle quite a bit now, because after absolutely everything that happened here, and how she fully faced such a humiliating defeat there, he expected her favorability rating to drop even further now, not rise, absolutely, but then, he wonders greatly if this is due to the appearance worship trait she has inside. There's a fair chance she sees him as nothing more than a decorative item only. Anyway, Kyle enjoys a pretty good dinner indeed. The very atmosphere during mealtime feels warmer than fully expected, and Iris is awfully quiet now, behaving quite normally before her family without acting arrogant at all, while simply picking up the salt on the table calmly. They both also accidentally touched each other's hands then, while Kyle was trying to help her by serving her some salt close, and that totally unexpected touch flusters the lady right now. Right after that, the girl turns her head away now in slight embarrassment to avoid any eye contact at all, while indeed Kyle is probably thinking much about whether she still wants the salt or not. Actually, he decides to just place it back on the table fully near her, and she promptly thanks him well for his kind gesture too. Kyle isn't quite sure what's going on now or why she's acting so strangely here. Even though her favorability has clearly gone up so much, her attitude toward him has also oddly gotten weirder though. I guess Kyle is actually pretty oblivious to all romance. After all, well I mean that, who really could blame him for this? He used to be just a Coomer who did nothing in his past life really, except play games all day, The next day then arrives now, and the very first thing we see is a clueless look on Kyle's face for sure. Apparently, Lady Iris is sitting right in front of him at this moment, and he wasn't expecting her to come personally just to meet him here. After just a graceful sip of fresh tea now, she reminds him that she is here to keep her promise indeed. Now that she has clearly lost, she will become his new teacher there. So she requests him to explain just why his magic is so strong really. She explains that his method is quite a bit different from the usual kind, and she has never quite seen anything like it in any magic book at all. She is quite desperate to fully know who taught him that. She bombards him with a whole ton of questions really, like whether he developed those unique powers just by chance, and how precisely he can perform double casting so easily after all. She truly is so excited to learn absolutely everything now, that she literally stands right up from her seat in the real heat of the moment, and quite politely, yet enthusiastically tells him directly to share every single thing he knows. Kyle now feels quite overwhelmed by all her many questions, and tells her politely to give him just a minute to process everything quite first. He starts right off now by reminding her that, if she actually truly wants to become his disciple and learn real magic, she needs to work quite hard on her attitude as well too. At first, Iris just doesn't quite fully get what he's trying to say now, so Kyle tells her directly that she has to be polite to others always, and not really be unreasonable whatsoever anymore. She will need to think maybe 3 times before getting angry with anyone ever. Well, it seems like this is just too very much to ask of her. She tries to loudly protest, asking why she should even have to follow these rules when even her own dear father doesn't force her to do so either. But Kyle lets her know plainly that if she can't quite change her attitude truly, he can't fully teach her magic either now. The lady definitely immediately tries to argue back then, because she simply thinks he's being far too demanding of her there. But Kyle reminds her gently that he's surely the only one who can use magic itself, with the quite special method he has uniquely developed still. He then reveals to her that he has uniquely created mixed drive magic definitely, which has truly never been published anywhere else at all yet, so she just can't properly learn it from anyone but him now. He even willingly gives her a little demonstration right now too. Sure, that since she is also presently learning magic too now, she understands fully the significance of his skills indeed. Of course, the girl quickly acknowledges all of this clearly, saying it's true enough, but she still doesn't feel comfortable at all, as much as she truly hates to admit it so. She reluctantly and quite annoyingly accepts his conditions now. In the very end, Kyle flashes a sly smile, saying he knows all too well indeed the innocent face she's trying to put on, and that she can't fool him quite so easily. To help her keep truly her part of the deal now, he reveals now that he has made some vital preparations in advance already. The girl is shocked again entirely and asks what he's talking about at all, but she soon gets her direct answer when she sees a contract paper before her. He clears up now any lingering doubts by reminding her that if she really wants to become indeed his disciple, all she has to do clearly is accept the set conditions and just sign the contract now, as she truly knows. Breaking a signed magic contract triggers absolutely an ultimate penalty, imposed now by the ancient very gods indeed, so he asks her to just take it quite serious. Plus truly no magic can simply cancel a magic contract at all. She exclaims aloud and asks precisely why he's going to such lengths to make her sign, wondering aloud now if it's maybe because he simply doesn't fully trust her. To this, Kyle doesn't shy away at all from admitting that yes, indeed, he doesn't entirely trust her, not quite. You see now, Kyle is wholly convinced that, if her attitude problem could have been so easily fixed with just mere words, it wouldn't still remain such an issue even after 11 long years. It's quite a tough trait to truly change, and he certainly wouldn't have gone through all this trouble here if it were such an easy fix at all. He further tells her straight that this potent magic contract was originally given directly to him. After the intense duel yesterday for sure, her very own father came directly to Kyle requesting him to teach his daughter well. After personally seeing Kyle's exceptional skill firsthand, he was quite certain that only our boy could truly get through to her full. The doting father was almost in actual tears then, even said plainly that if Iris refused fully to listen to him too, Kyle had explicit permission to use this magic contract directly on her now, one of the only 2 genuine contracts within their whole family line. Now, back in the present time, Iris feels genuinely embarrassed and quite confused now, realizing her own father is indeed the one who roped her into all this. She's fully convinced he'd never truly say anything quite like that, so she directly tells Kyle he'd better absolutely not be lying here. Truly determined now to finally get some answer, she quickly starts to rush right back to her father to ask him personally now, what's going on here? Kyle just sits as she immediately begins to head off now, but then quite suddenly, he lets out a tired sigh that he clearly calls out, telling her to stop immediately right there, adding now that if she turns back now at all, their exclusive contract will be entirely null and void here, and if that sadly happens, he simply won't be able to ever see her again, let alone teach her any true magic as well. This shocking news catches Iris completely off guard clearly. Kyle however now remains very firm and tells her to decide fully now. He asks directly if she's going to sign and truly learn his magic now, or if she'll possibly refuse and then leave this room for absolutely good. He firmly makes it very clear that if she chooses the latter clearly, they'll certainly never meet again. He asks her one final time now if she wants to learn real magic, or will she refuse and leave this very room, after which they'll likely never see each other once again. Kyle now smiles inwardly there, thinking this might actually be her very last day of throwing tantrum, and putting on quite an attitude indeed, and he's looking forward now to seeing her change for the better soon. He knows fully that while Iris has a rare SSS class talent somehow, if her current character keeps causing such trouble now, he'll truly have no choice but to give up completely on her final. He definitely needs trustworthy colleagues and subordinates always, not someone he has to constantly appease in every single situation here. Iris on the other hand now finally gathers enough courage to speak after taking the pen in her hand here. She stubbornly declares right now that if she says she'll do something eventually, she'll certainly do it with that vow. She finally begins reading that contract now, albeit quite reluctantly indeed. Kyle just gives her a warm smile, and tells her now to make sure she reads all the very terms carefully always, before signing properly in that contract there. Party A is Kyle of course, while Party B represents Iris instead. As we now look at the contract page here, it's no real wonder she's feeling reluctant now to sign. The set terms go way beyond what she truly can tolerate, and should she break any of the outlined rules here, she'll face quite a stomachache as the penalty. The young girl asks if these stomachaches are really necessary at all, to which Kyle simply smiles softly and says calmly, a little stomachache just won't be so terribly bad. Even dear Iris seems a bit quietly surprised by this. She expected the penalty to really be far more dangerous, but this instead is something she actually thinks she can handle alright. So eventually now she agrees to all the binding terms, figuring now that since the pain truly won't be too severe, she doesn't really have to worry too much about following everything that's strict. But then something quite suddenly strikes her mind, and she clearly notices that the penalty now for Rule 7 is pretty strict indeed. She'll soon have her magic circle terminated should she not follow it. She directly asks now if she'll have to join this battle, and Kyle firmly confirms it without any hesitation then, reminding her calmly that if she's afraid at all of fighting, there's no real need for her to learn stronger magic spells. He raises a firm question, asking why she even wants to learn magic at all. She goes unusually quiet for just a moment then admits quite openly that she wants to truly be better than others, because she simply enjoys beating and subduing all of them. She wants everyone now to look up to her and deeply admire her, and she's always truly loved being the very center of attention. That's exactly why she started studying magic in the first place too. But lately, now learning magic has become quite fun for its own sweet sake. She started really to enjoy learning newer things and improving herself daily, so studying all night truly wouldn't even feel very difficult now. Kyle is truly blown away greatly by her fresh perspective, and a slight smirk spreads swiftly across his own face now, as he keenly sees the extraordinary strong desire to win and improve now shining so brightly on her youthful face that he's quite genuinely looking forward to fully seeing her grand transformation. You see, the very best aptitude for becoming such a mage doesn't really depend on the actual amount of magical power one possesses now, but rather more on sharp intellectual curiosity itself, eagerness to learn fully about magic and a burning desire for pure power. Without these core qualities, she won't truly become strong. These are the integral traits that accompany mana power. She deeply wants stronger magic and greater overall power, and with such resolve, she finally signs the pivotal contract. Both the contract document and the pen magically float in the still air, and then directly fly swiftly toward Kyle now. He simply extends his open hand for a friendly shake, looking forward eagerly to working alongside her in time to come, hoping sincerely that Iris will become a strong and trusted companion of his. For just a brief moment, she remains completely quiet, but then when the spoken words truly sink completely indeed, she feels totally embarrassed at just the prospect of being solely his companion. She really freaks out so very much that her long ponytails nearly fully come undone. Kyle attempts to clear the tense air quickly, by now reminding her firmly that he didn't quite mean companions like that, but merely just as a vital part of the whole team. However, Iris directly tells him he should surely have chosen his words much more carefully. Now that they're truly done, she abruptly quickly leaves the whole room, and it seems clear this clueless guy still truly has no real idea why she acted that exact way. Even his knight standing right behind him truly gets it now, thinking Kyle could stand to be a little bit more careful with his very word, especially with a face quite as handsome like his own. And then now there's Urgel indeed, who truly doesn't look too thrilled at all about the new competition here. In this unrequited love later that very night, Urgel bluntly and directly asks Kyle if he's planning to marry Iris soon. Of course this unexpected question nearly chokes him badly, and he exclaims right out, asking what in the world she's actually talking about. He reminds her plainly that Iris is only just 11 and he himself is only just 13. They're not even nearly at the age to even think seriously about marriage yet. It seems Kyle still truly has no clue why Ursel would ask him such a strange question now, and he simply wonders why everyone is in fact so eager to get him married off quite soon. So young Ursi then pointedly asks if he's really quite not thinking about it now, to which he quite quickly responds that he decidedly is not. Besides, he has way too much pressing work to do now. Meanwhile, truly in the back of his worried mind, he's thoughtfully thinking about how the whole world could well end soon, and he simply doesn't have any real time for mere dating or even proper marriage. So he simply tells this curious young girl there that he'll think about marriage and stuff like that certainly after he's at least a mature 18. Ursil calmly acknowledges this point, then casually mentions right now that her mother is a very beautiful woman, so she's quite sure she'll grow up to be beautiful indeed too. With that comment she dashes quickly off. Wishing him a pleasant good night, Kyle is left behind alone. Feels both quite embarrassed and a bit flustered now, wondering just why she would even bring something like that up really. Kyle thinks about how kids in this era all seem a bit more mature now. Even Ursil seems quite concerned about marriage already truly. He feels flustered much as he considers that she's already quite pretty though, but she'll likely become even much more beautiful truly as she grows up now. Then he remembered quickly something specific about her mother here. Ursil came from the prestigious Helia and Baron family line, but sadly after her family dramatically fell into ruin sadly, they were harshly stripped of their social status now, and she was unfairly sold then into harsh slavery. Her dear father and brothers all are confirmed dead now, but her loving mother and sister are supposedly still actually alive though. However, truthfully he doesn't know just where they are. He figures Ariel must surely be curious about her family perhaps, but she hasn't willingly brought it up at all, which truly makes him wonder if she doesn't want to know where they are now, or perhaps if it's simply too painful still for her to talk about now. Whatever the full case, he's determined to find out exactly what's truly going on here. A few more days later on now, Kyle and his whole party take the carriage back now to their grand mansion. As it smoothly rolls off, Kyle waves his final goodbyes now to Count Niren and his dear family. Iris feels a sharp pang of sadness then, and silently wonders why Kyle had to leave quite so urgently so soon. He certainly could have easily stayed a few more lovely days there. Seeing her pensive expression, the Count can't help it now, but notice just how much his beloved daughter seems to like young Kyle. He tries hard to cheer her right up, telling her not to be too upset really, since Kyle will soon be back next month now to teach her magic skill. Annoyed and a bit embarrassed by her own father's comment right there, Iris insists boldly she doesn't like Kyle at all in the least. She just finds him so annoying. She even tries to now act nonchalant truly, saying matter-of-factly that when he duly comes next month soon, she won't even open the door for him now. But right at that very moment, she feels a sharp ache in her stomach. That makes her double completely over and collapse to the ground in great pain. The Count then remembers Kyle's very word, about how Iris really should think thrice before getting so angry, otherwise, her stomach would really hurt. This makes him believe that the stomachache she's feeling so intensely must be indeed from the magic contract surely. He quickly tells her not to be so angry then, and to think thrice before ever saying anything quite irrational. If she just holds right back her anger now, her stomach will definitively stop hurting too. But of course, how can she not truly be angry? She can't help but tear right up and calls Kyle a total jerk. She's so very loud that even Kyle can clearly hear her from his carriage, and he can't help but truly think someone is cursing him from afar now. After that quite memorable stay at Count Neyron's grand mansion, Kyle and his closest friends finally return back to Enfilemnet. The first exact thing we see is Kyle's bewildered expression. He looks thoroughly shocked because his brother Abel there has apparently bought a truly massive amount of grain now from Enfilemnet for some completely unknown reason now. Kyle's pretty darn sure he never mentioned anything at all about the dew famine to his brother there, so he can't understand just why Abel would suddenly buy grain there. Abel explains clearly that after listening to his little brother's word, he just simply had a strong gut feeling stirring about it, so he decided to buy some too indeed. When Kyle pointedly asks how much he bought there, Abel gestures vaguely with his fingers though it's hard to make out clearly exactly what Abel is trying to say now, since the overall scene is blurred out. But whatever crazy amount it is really, it's enough surely to shock Kyle right to his core. He's utterly stunned to learn that his own brother has bought 100 times more grain out there than he did indeed. Abel just says he had a strong feeling that the more he bought out there, the better off it truly would be. Abel further reassures Kyle then that, even if he ends up suffering a serious loss on all that grain, he won't blame his little brother since the firm decision to buy all that grain out there was entirely his very own. Truly, Kyle acknowledges this indeed, and confirms that he's not really worried about just that. In fact, he can't shake the nagging thought of how Abel is going to rake in some serious profit there, out of pure curiosity. Kyle tells his brother that he's sure Abel could win anything now, just by simply buying a lottery ticket once ever, to which Abel replies then that he's never thought of buying a lottery ticket ever, because it doesn't quite suit someone of his high status. Of course, he's never really tried it since he's already quite rich. Kyle feels kind of jealous maybe. as he admires the foresight and good luck his brother seems to have. The scene then transitions smoothly to the training grounds outside, where we see someone swinging a sword just like a total Chad indeed. This very sword swinger is none other than Kyle's own father himself, whose exact name I seem to have forgotten sadly. Kyle arrives promptly on the scene right now, looking as if he's been properly summoned by his dear father. His father asks keenly if his trip to Enphylum went quite well overall, to which Kyle quickly replies now that he's grateful indeed to Count Naren for treating him so well, and that he truly had a comfortable stay there. While wiping the sweat gently from his very face, the father then states that he just received a letter from Count Naren himself, where he learned that Kyle promised to teach Lady Iris some magic. Kyle acknowledges this fact and adds that it sort of just happened by sheer fate, explaining further that the daughter of that esteemed house is quite a unique and talented lady after all. His concerned father believes this situation could be a good experience indeed for him, so he encourages Kyle to try his absolute best in actually teaching her. However, Kyle starts to imagine Iris's rather arrogant personality sadly, and isn't really so sure he can actually have a genuinely good experience with her then. Kyle further curiously asks his father now if the Count mentioned anything else, besides just the magic lessons at hand. His wise father thoughtfully thinks for just a moment, then recalls that Count Naren did bring up the general subject of Lady Iris there, and a possible engagement in the future. However, he quickly assures Kyle calmly that it's simply not the established Keltarian family tradition to get engaged so very early, especially now, when neither of the elder sons are engaged yet. This all comes as a big relief indeed to Kyle, who's been trying hard to avoid this topic for a while now. He fully agrees with his father in thought, stating firmly that there's still a lot he has to learn first. He further reminds his own father now that he truly needs to make up for the lost time due to his past illness, and so he hopes his father can convince the Count to hold off on those engagement plans. For now indeed, his father agrees readily, and Kyle thanks him sincerely from his heart. Kyle lets out a deep sigh of great relief, glad now to realize there won't be any more engagement talks after this point. His father calls out to him sharply again, reminding him that he has absolutely no intention of forcing him into any political marriage. Kyle is puzzled deeply by this statement and asks immediately for clarification. His father then explains calmly that he was never officially married to Kyle's mother at all, and it wasn't just due to her low status but rather simply because she never truly intended to marry him ever. She simply went along with it and even had children, but she never formalized the marriage at all. Kyle's father even tried to ask her about all her reasons, and reassured her directly that he didn't care about her social status itself, emphasizing quite strongly that there wouldn't be any issue, since she soon was going to give birth to the rightful successor of the Keltarian family. Precisely, he firmly mentioned that even his subordinates strongly supported his own decision to marry her. However, Kyle's own mother told him that she had been the late Marchioness's maid faithful, and now wished to apologize greatly to the former Marchioness sincerely. She then expressed that she didn't truly think she could fade the two young masters who had just so recently lost their mother deeply. It seems likely like Marchioness was the former wife of Kyle's father ultimately, and that Abel and Adolf indeed belonged directly to her truly. This wholly explains quite why Kyle has stark white hair while his older brothers instead have blonde hair indeed. Marquis then tells his beloved son that he truly loved his mother which is exactly why he was born. He advises Kyle then that when choosing a spouse, he might thoughtfully consider the family's benefits now, but he really doesn't necessarily need to worry much about differences in status right now. His father promises strongly to support him in any case at all. No matter what happens, he assures his dear son that he truly means whatever significant decision Kyle ultimately makes, he will certainly be by his side to fully support him always. All this tender talk leaves young Kyle utterly speechless indeed, as it was wholly unexpected directly from the Marquis himself. He wonders thoughtfully if the Marquis actually has a doting father's heart after all, and furthermore, if he genuinely feels some sympathy for him presently. However, deep down, this simply can't be the true case, because the youngest child is usually certainly never considered a viable candidate for succession, primarily due to their distinct lack of direct influence now. If the youngest child ever marries the daughter of a powerful, strong family, and consequently gains great, substantial influence later on, there truly is a high possibility of major conflict arising directly over succession. His father surely is a man who greatly values lineage success above basic family relation, and specifically until the succession structure is completely and fully stabilized. Kyle certainly wants intensely to avoid getting into any serious trouble at all. Now he truly understands what his father is concerned about now. Kyle finally agrees indeed with his father's point, and tries to brush it off quickly by saying that, since he is young still, he doesn't know much about such complicated matters. For now, it's very important to remain as the harmless youngest child. By the way, I finally remembered now that our boy's father's name is Remton. Anyhow, Kyle directly asks if he has permission now to leave, since they've discussed everything indeed he came for here, and he very much needs to go study now at the library soon. When Remton gives Kyle clear permission to leave now, our boy quickly begins to stride out of the place quite promptly. As Remton carefully watches Kyle indeed leave, he reflects now on how quickly his own son changed the subject, when his very own mother was actually mentioned then. What truly bothers him even more is that Kyle doesn't even call him father now. He slowly pulls out a pendant, and as we take a much closer look, we see a photo clearly of Kyle's mother Aisha right there. Gazing fondly at her image, Remton slowly wonders if she too harbored such resentment truly toward him. Meanwhile, as Kyle smoothly walks through the quiet corridor now, he replays his father's sincere words about supporting him in his mind deeply. For just a brief moment there, he considers whether Remton might actually truly care about him now, but just exactly as he is thinking it through carefully, he abruptly snaps back to true reality quickly, suddenly remembering he forgot to even tell his father about the loot acquired he got from that very dungeon place. He completely overlooked it because of the intense topic his father brought up earlier. Kyle wonders now if he should go back now and share everything soon, but the simple thought of talking to his father again leaves him hesitant somewhat. He had instructed Leonhardt specifically not to inform the Marquis about this dungeon yet, until Kyle personally reported in himself first, and now our boy right here is quite curious to see if Leonhardt will honor his specific word still, or prioritize his obvious loyalty to the Marquis at all. Still feeling uncertain about whether he should indeed report to his father soon, or handle the entire matter completely on his own overall. His young mind is conflicted completely between heading towards the library quickly or even talking at all about the very dungeon right away. As he now wrestles deeply with these conflicted thoughts still, he unexpectedly bumps directly into someone nearby now. The man Kyle collided with quickly apologizes now, but as this newcomer takes a much closer look there, he realizes it's Kyle. It doesn't take too long for Kyle to recognize that the person right in front of him now is Duke Hiltarion indeed, the third son of the family so known. Kyle finds it quite amusing that just as the topic of their mother comes up soon, he coincidentally runs into his third brother at once. He can't quite help but notice how much taller the third son has gotten for sure, since the last time they clearly met back then. Even though Duke is only but 2 years older than Kyle now, he still indeed is in much better shape now. Kyle figures it must be due to the strict training he's received as a knight here, from a young age indeed. He's heard tell that the third son became a junior officer not so long ago now. The big bro Duke then promptly asks Kyle just why he's here quick, given that their father has explicitly so instructed him not to approach the main building at all. Kyle explains now that he was released from detention just now by their father's important decision now, after he recognized his very achievements in serving the citizens well. Duke is clearly quite unsure of just what that truly means now, so he bluntly asks Kyle what he's planning exactly to cook next this time, and just what kind of trouble he's trying hard to stir up also, by pretending to be so mature this very time here too. Well, there you simply go again. Truly, this particular guy seems like a big bully, bro indeed. To understand just why the third son seems quite so hostile towards Kyle later, we learn that the Duke deeply resented his little younger brother now. Kyle, who was actually 2 years younger than him, had always indeed caused their beloved mother Aisha that constant worry, and her failing health sadly declined too, from all the added stress of fearing Kyle might even die quite young someday. One fateful day, while the Duke himself was grappling with great guilt over their mother's coldness indeed, Kyle simply stormed in and casually asked just why their dear mother was so very quiet all the time. That's truly when the third son broke the awful news to him directly there, that their beloved mother had sadly passed away now. Kyle, who had been quite spoiled and somewhat insensitive back then honestly, just merely chuckled lightly in response only, remarking clearly that he never thought she'd die before him at all. This infuriated the third son greatly, who lashed out fiercely, pinning Kyle right to the wall there, and yelling loudly at him for speaking so carelessly now about someone who had cared about him deeply for so long now. The Duke outright blamed Kyle for their mother's tragic death, but Kyle just got angry, then jerked strongly his brother's hands away swiftly in order to free himself quickly. He made it quite clear that if their mother died simply because of it, then whose fault was it specifically that he could die at any given moment? He believed firmly it was somewhat his own mother's fault in a way, for bringing him into this world with this kind of frail body itself. The Duke's patience wore quite thin, and he punched Kyle hard right in the face, sending him crashing violently hard to the cold ground. He called Kyle even worse than a mere animal honestly, and said firmly that he had only held himself back all this entire time because of their own mother, but he wouldn't let Kyle cross any more limits ever. Now simply with that said, he decided just then to walk away quickly, after stating solemnly that he does not have any younger siblings anymore now, right in the present moment now. Kyle finally understands clearly why the Duke hates him so deeply, and he is very sure that this kind of conflict won't be resolved easily at all. The Duke continues now with his taunt, calling Kyle out directly for pretending to be mature now. He tells him bluntly to just get lost soon, and never ever come back to the main building there again. Even though Kyle truly understands the reasons right behind his brother's hostility now, he isn't going at all to act like a punching bag for those insults now. So he responds back to his big brother simply by saying that, since the very head of the household now has officially released him now from his confinement, and allowed him freely to enter the main building too, what the Duke currently is demanding is basically now a challenge to the authority of the house's true head. To drive his crucial point home now, Kyle asks clearly if the Duke's orders now are truly more important than those of the household's head, right? This fierce remark not only silences the Duke momentarily now, but also annoys him to no absolute end. Indeed, he balls up his fist quickly in utter frustration, ready now to hit Kyle, but his attempt ultimately fails, when Adolf suddenly appears quickly and grabs the Duke's hand midair now, before it can connect right with Kyle's very face. Kyle is quite shocked to see Adolf right here, because he didn't even notice him swiftly coming. Meanwhile, the Duke looks completely bewildered for sure at his big brother's sudden appearance now. Adolf tells the Duke directly that hitting young people isn't truly fitting for someone quite like him, especially not inside the main building, where their father is currently present. The third son's very eyes well up quickly with fear indeed, and he doesn't waste any of his time before immediately apologizing. But Adolf tells him to apologize to young Kyle now, not to him. Certainly not surprising. The Duke refuses outright to apologize to Kyle just yet. After offering a quite half-hearted apology to his big brother once again, he decides then to take his swift leave shortly, leaving Kyle there in utter silence, completely confused precisely about what just happened then. Adolf deeply reflects on just how stubborn the Duke truly is, and quietly wonders who he takes after to be quite that way. Meanwhile, Kyle cannot help but shoot dubious looks directly at Adolf for conveniently popping up out of practically nowhere just now, making him wonder if Adolf had been intently watching them from afar all along indeed. Anyhow, Adolf directly asks Kyle if he's truly hurt anywhere, and assures him that the Duke simply doesn't usually act quite like that really. Kyle quietly acknowledges this fact, and openly admits he has indeed made a great many mistakes in the past then, so it's understandable perhaps that the Duke doesn't quite believe him now. That's precisely when Adolf gently puts his hand on Kyle's tiny shoulder, and quietly leans in even closer now, to whisper softly in his ear that he genuinely trusts his little brother. Kyle sincerely thanks his big bro outwardly indeed, but inwardly, this is simply exactly what he truly wanted to hear right now. Adolf then clearly reveals that the Duke has been actively learning swordsmanship directly from him lately, but truly no matter how much the Duke trains so diligently, his swordsmanship skills simply don't seem to particularly improve it seems. It's quite like he's almost reached his limit due to his average talent and aura itself. With that being said, Adolf reminds Kyle that he's a mage indeed, who has overcome his Hermamo disability right now, and is now really on a completely different level than any average Duke. The simple fact that Adolf is saying all this aloud shows he finds Kyle even more interesting at this point, and truly wants to teach him swordsmanship instead of just the Duke. He suggests that since both the Duke and Kyle don't get along well, he can effectively teach them completely separately. Kyle is quite surprised indeed to hear that the Duke is learning swordsmanship from Adolf, but he can also sense that Adolf perhaps intends indeed for him to clash directly with the Duke, and he sees right through it all now. So Kyle just simply laughs it off lightly, saying he's still really only in the first circle now, and has a lot more still to learn in the future course. For now, he simply wants to head to the library then, so he takes his leave quickly as he walks onward. He still wonders just why now Adolf is interested in teaching an average person such as Duke anything still. You see here, Adolf is definitely not the simple type to take good real care of his younger brother exactly, and there's absolutely no valid reason for him to go through all that trouble here, just to provoke Kyle then in the Fantasy Defense's original storyline alone. The Duke doesn't survive any at all of the routes after the rebellion later, and was it really just simply a coincidence that Adolf killed the Duke too? In every single route here, it seems highly unlikely at best. This truly makes Kyle very certain that the Duke might just be hiding a secret still he doesn't currently know about now. The very scene then transitions smoothly to the beautiful countryside itself, a very serene place indeed where I wish to live my whole life truly. There we now meet Leonhardt in casual clothes today, carrying a parcel with him at present. To find out just what he's doing away from the mansion now, the scene flashes back a bit to when he had a deep conversation with Remton. He reveals then to his senior that Kyle did well in film this time. Remton fully acknowledges this fact, and reflects how this report also precisely matches what Count Neyron mentioned there in his letter sent. He then directly asks Leonhardt right now. If anything else truly interesting happened on the way there perhaps, or during the very return to the mansion itself. The quiet knight goes silent for a moment now. Hesitating now to respond, he remembers the sacred promise he made with Kyle himself, about keeping the dungeon and all the found loot a secret for now still. So he responds accordingly now that there wasn't anything truly noteworthy back then. Either that, or they only encountered quite a few low-level monsters around. But they actually were not that very threatening back then. The head of the family smiles to even hear this then, and tells the knight to surely take good care of Kyle as always. He truly feels relieved that someone as capable as Leonhardt is here, is now by Kyle's side, right back in the present time. Leonhardt reflects deeply on how he ended up prioritizing Kyle's orders so much over his master's even now. We also learned that he's here to meet his father today. At that very moment, a familiar man calls out to him aloud, and when Leonard quickly looks up there, he spots his own father standing right in front of him now. Once they both sit down closely to catch up his father asks keenly how long he'll be on vacation this actual time, to which Leonhardt replies calmly that he'll be free for about half a day at most. His father is not really thrilled at all to hear this answer, since it's been forever indeed when they last spent proper time together. Leonhardt responds gently that he'll come whenever he simply has time free. His father then mentions now that he's heard a rumor going around that the young master Kyle himself has suddenly matured quite a bit these very days. This unexpected question startles Leonhardt there at first sight, but he quickly agrees now with his own father, claiming strongly that Kyle has indeed become much more dignified lately too. He further even mentions now that he didn't expect to end up escorting Kyle for this long truly. Initially, his grand plan, after escorting Lord Kyle just once, was to return to the Knights of Seltarian and continue diligently his work. His father looks at him now and can read the confusion there on his face. So, he deeply tries to open up. He asks his dear son if his own thoughts have changed since then. To this, Leonard admits he's really not quite sure just what he wants to do. His mind then quickly wanders back to a time when Kyle decided to generously provide him with a brand new sword. Kyle tells him calmly that the sword he used before was simply too weak to handle the aura of an upper-level expert knight. If he bravely poured everything he had deeply into it, the sword would surely break. So, he always had to suppress his aura to some true extent. Leonhardt frankly asks how he exactly knows about this, to which Kyle coolly replies that he has carefully studied similar topic, because mages definitely need a basic understanding of not only magic now, but also aura. But truth be clearly told, our boy learned precisely all this after playing this game all day long. Kyle then further states now that Leonhardt has been lacking a new sword for quite some time now indeed, since he was quite busy with his guard duty all the time. Yeah, he simply didn't get the chance to get a new one then. So Kyle always deeply felt bad about that matter, but now that Leonhardt has a shining new sword now, he feels quite relieved. Leonhardt is rendered speechless indeed in response now, and quickly assures Kyle that even if what he said is truly true, he shouldn't feel bad solely just because of him there. But Kyle wins over Leonhardt's very heart even more now, when he flashes a bright smile now, and expresses just how deeply he cares about his loyal knight. Those tender words, "my valued knight," strike a very deep chord within Leonhardt now, as he'd never ever heard anything so heartfelt from a Marquis before this time. In the present moment, Leonhardt reflects now on how Marquis Rempton has many quite loyal aides, who have been truly by his side since his early youth. Leonhardt has always truly felt a bit left out indeed, knowing he just can't truly find his true place among them all, whether it's skill level or maybe his bond with the kind Marquis. He truly feels he has nothing that quite compares to those around him now. But that's exactly when his wise father clears up his deep confusion, encouraging him to just freely do whatever he truly wants, and if he really wants to stick closely with Kai, he should gladly do so. His father reminds him of how it was similarly the same when he first joined the esteemed Knights Academy. Although they belonged to just a barren family, they were nobles in solemn name only indeed. The family's dire circumstances weren't truly good back then, and they didn't have the luxury of hiring a proper swordsmanship instructor. Certainly, however, when Leonhardt turned 15, he took the entrance exam entirely on his own, passed it cleanly and became a noble knight. His father reminds him that the true answer is already within his very heart. He just simply hasn't been fully able to openly say it yet. He tells young Leonhardt to feel confident in whatever firm decision he makes, assuredly telling him that the Marquis would surely understand the good reasons behind his important choice. Then his knowing father asks if he's the sole knight the Marquis has employed. Leonhardt replies thoughtfully that there isn't a simple answer to that complex question, but he does readily agree that for Kai, he is the only true knight they have at all. Just as they're chatting casually away there, they hook a large fish and it seems Looks like they're surely going to have a good catch for dinner later. Meanwhile, now back at the Grand Mansion, the first thing immediately we see is Adolf's shocked face. When he learns the news that Abel came to recruit Kyle, in fact, he quickly tosses the heavy book away he was holding before, and asks Kyle directly if he agreed to join them there, to which Kyle then reassures him quite positively now, saying plainly if that were truly the full case, he wouldn't have come back here to report this news then. Kyle feels quite annoyed at how Abel tossed the book aside like that, but he does not express his disapproval out very loud now. Instead, he then responds directly to his brother's sharp question, explaining calmly that he was just as truly surprised as well. When brother Abel suddenly approached him closely indeed, and invited him to quickly join, he admits given the big age difference clearly, brother Abel had simply never spoken to him before today, so it felt a little intimidating to Kyle. Adolf then responds with a cold, hard, annoyed tone, truly saying now, there's simply no way Abel would approach him without some deep ulterior motive. He goes right on claiming that Abel has always been exactly like that, and simply never moves unless there's some clear benefit involved always. He's very sure Abel must have noticed Kyle learning new magic now, which is exactly why he's now acting like a concerned older brother figure. Adolf reminds Kyle that during the entire long time he was quite sick indeed, Abel never once came at all to check on him in person, as Adolf continues strongly, trying to persuade Kyle by specifically pointing out how awful Abel's whole character is really. Our boy Kyle is left utterly speechless then, not quite sure what to even say after losing one of his greatest key men, Baron Jerome, already gone completely. Losing yet another capable person now would be a distinct shame indeed, so he truly can't afford at all to lose Kyle to Abel now. Even though Kyle currently is still just a one-circle mage right now, Adolf clearly sees tons of untapped potential in him surely. Kyle meanwhile smiles rather inwardly now noticing how Adolf criticizes Abel sternly for not visiting him while he was sick, when the same stinging words could be said for Adolf too, who also never came to closely check on him then. Kyle thus reflects on how both of his brothers only truly seem to approach him when they deeply need something now, but he keenly realizes he's rather guilty of the exact same thing, especially now since he deeply wants to defeat the Dark Immortal, threatening the immediate safety of this very continent. So the raw power of the renowned swordsmanship of Kaltarian is absolutely necessary indeed now for all that. However, clearly for the overall survival of their family, Adolf truthfully should be the one indeed to take the hit. Adolf now mentions that Abel has been acting quite shady lately, noting strange rumors that he's bought a lot of grain from in film. It's certainly puzzling, and he simply can't figure out why Abel would actually need such large quantity. Kyle keenly adds that he too bought grain for his ongoing magic research, suggesting there's a decent chance Abel might also likely be trying to study magic now, just like him. But Adolf quickly reminds him that Abel indeed doesn't have a magic circle now. We all can tell that Kyle is just bluffing now about the whole magic learning thing, but it seems Adolf has bought the lie completely, and thinks that Kyle simply just doesn't realize that yet. Abel doesn't have a circle, right there. Kyle keeps playing along still, apologizing and saying he doesn't know much at all about Abel anyway. Adolf then grabs the book Kyle tossed earlier on, and tells his brother that they surely need to grow even more in the future. He asks Kyle now to help his big brother grow up very quickly indeed. Kyle grins widely as he grabs the book and agrees with it, saying he'll definitely help his big brother out for sure. With that, he decides to head on out for now then. Meanwhile, outside of the door here, we see RCL standing right there now, just exactly as she's waiting still. Daisy arrives then and immediately starts explaining herself fully. She tells RCL that her entire family has been taken hostage now by Adolf, and if she doesn't do exactly as he says at all, he'll do just anything to fully achieve his main goals indeed. So she felt she had truly no choice but to comply. But Urgel flatly tells her not to show up in front of Lord Kyle again soon. Daisy grows impatient now and her face twists with clear annoyance, as she reminds Urgel that since she doesn't really have any family, she does truly not have to worry about it either at all, which quite explains why Urgel can't fully understand her predicament. Urgel stands her ground firmly and does not let Daisy's words sway her ever, while Daisy storms off quickly after dropping those brutal bombs indeed. Right at that very moment Urgel's familiar arrives then, after sensing the emotional turmoil she's feeling deep inside now, since her pet is so closely tied to her own emotion. The little familiar gently tries to cheer her up now, but Ursi reassures her that she isn't offended by anything Daisy said at all, as long as she truly has Kyle right by her side always. She doesn't feel truly alone at all ever. The little furball kindly asks her about her family too, and Ursi replies sadly that they're quite hard to find now, and she doesn't even really know if they're still alive at all. Besides, she truly doesn't want to cause any more trouble for Lord Kyle anyway. She knows full well what happens to the women who are sold off sadly, and if she hadn't indeed met Kyle back then truly, she might just not have been here now to see this very day. So she's quite determined to become even stronger now for Lord Kyle, the one who saved her life, the very next scene takes us straight to the training ground, where Kyle can surely be seen working his magic mojo powerful, with fire energetically dancing right over the palms of his hand. He then unleashes a powerful attack well known as Fire Arrow. Now, the Fire Intense Blast is powerful enough indeed to scatter the target into bits and pieces immediately. Well, this feat was only possible truly because Kyle has now finally reached that 100% proficiency mark with this potent fire arrow spell indeed, which happens to be a second circle magic spell. It's just like hitting bingo. Not only did he swiftly learn the fire arrow spell, but he also perfectly mastered how to properly use second circle magic spell. Ursula and her own little furball friend are quite pretty glad actually about the progress Kyle has now fully made. With all the rigorous hard training he's indeed been going through so far, so she now thinks he's at the very least entitled surely to a little bit of well-deserved rest now. But he quickly catches her entirely off guard then, when he finally reveals that he still has some important matters to take care of himself. His next bold move is to visit a place called Prina's City to recruit some new talent he surely has in mind closely. When his knight quickly finds out where Kyle actually plans to go, he responds rather dismissively to him indeed. Seems like Kyle isn't fully sure why Leonard is so against visiting Prina. Well, this honestly only makes Leonhardt even more annoyed now, thinking his master is just being rather obtuse, intentionally so about the entire situation with Prina's full. But it looks like Kyle actually knows what's quite apparently Prina's is a true city of desires and various pleasure. Drinking auctions surely. Gambling, even prostitution itself. These are definitely the main things running the city's very economy. If you're a spoiled adult with clearly a lot of money and unethical desires to properly satisfy yourself, it's basically a true heaven for those people certainly. But for someone just like Kyle exactly, who's still currently a minor now, it's strictly forbidden indeed if he starts chasing mining holes. Furthermore, the main reason Leonhardt is so dead set against his master's whim, visiting that particular place now, is because he truly hasn't forgotten just what happened last time. The very last time Kyle went there then. He gambled rather wildly in a casino and lost absolutely everything. Quite literally everything. He even lost his own clothes, you see. Hell, he almost even got sold to the slave market that time. That's just how balls deep he truly was in that entire mess indeed. But after all that, Kyle reflected deeply on the sheer irrationality of his actions then, and made a solemn vow to never ever visit that specific place again. Some certain guys in the comments were actively saying that I was roasting the OG Kyle here unnecessarily because he's supposedly the traumatized victim. Really? Like bro, seriously. Just because you're potentially about to die from some illness now, doesn't really give you the inherent right to act like a spoiled brat, for truly no reason at all. Now carefully explain to me then why it was so damn absolutely necessary for him to gamble his whole life away at a place utterly and totally forbidden to all minors even like him. Even our boy shares the very same thought. Those blunders the OG Kyle made still truly haunt him to this day. So he tries hard to convince his knight that he's simply not going to indulge in any desires. Rather, he has a quick errand at the arena after all. But of course, given Kyle's past track record, it's only natural indeed for Leonhardt to perhaps get the wrong idea and assume our boy is just visiting so he can bet on some gladiator. As far as Leonhardt is now concerned, the arena is even worse, really quite sorry. But he makes it completely clear he won't let Kyle ruin his reputation. He's built quite well over the past few months now, so he sternly suggests Kyle stays put in the mansion then. With those final stern words, he leaves the room quietly, leaving our boy grumbling loudly and expressing just how badly he wants to get to Prina's somehow now. Let's certainly not forget about Ursula here, who has a totally quite different reaction indeed when she finds out what kind of place Prina's really is now. If anything, she truly seems jealous now, and mad indeed at Kyle for thinking of exploring other holes now, instead of clearly making her the real primary goal here. Seeing her rather sour reaction like this, Kyle can do absolutely nothing but slump further down in his chair now. Initially, he only truly had Leonhardt to deal with directly, but now Ursula seems like another person indeed he has to convince soon. With absolutely barely any true time on his hands like this, he has absolutely no real clue how to convince them quickly right now. After all, this is certainly the only real chance he has to track down his target now. A guy named Saren indeed. Let's get some real context on who this guy actually is real. Apparently Saren is a plausible protagonist character of fantasy fully now. Defense being clearly the main core character now. He has decent core stats and potential to rise even further soon. His default class here is Swordsman, and he can advance in other skill trees later. But if you fully focus all his core learning potential on Swordsman solo, he can easily become a powerhouse unmatched truly anywhere on this continent soon. Since Saren is born clearly to be the absolute greatest fighter, recruiting him as absolutely soon as possible indeed is the much better option. He could easily become an irreplaceable key ally in subduing the Dark Immortal soon. Later now, as for where Saren is presently, he's currently in the Prina's underground arena now. Promptly now, the scene cuts away to the underground arena itself. The gladiators who are soon supposed to fight have started showing up then. With the battles very much about to start up indeed, the audience immediately goes completely bonkers, as they can finally make their pricey tickets worth it here. The gladiators there seem to be chickening out now, because they're all about to face the undefeated champion indeed of the arena, the feared lord himself, the legend of this underground world, who goes by a fearsome title, Sword Demon. This boy has an uncanny and unsettling aura right about it. He is rather scrawny, and exudes gloomy feeling, melancholic vibes there now. Even the tough guys watching this so-called Sword Demon for their first time are disappointed by this scrawny warrior in front of them all. They find it actually laughable that this small kid even qualified to enter this dangerous gladiator arena, let alone fight a group of 3 men at once too. Then one keen guy reveals an interesting little tidbit now. While the kid truly looks scrawny and rather weak, he's climbed this far indeed with just that one sword he's holding there, making him quite a formidable force to reckon with now. Another observant guy assures his anxious friend not to be fooled by the kid's deceptive appearance now. After all, he's come this far bravely wielding only that one sword, which fully explains just how terrifying he must truly be. Rumor has it that his very personality changes upon grabbing his trusty sword, and exactly just like the ominous rumors do say, bro goes totally berserk and fiercely lunges at the 3 poor bastards there, cowering pathetically now for their very lives. They literally scatter wildly as the relentless Sword Demon chases them right down. He looks just like a bloodthirsty fiend wanting to devour his weak enemies alive now. He finally catches one unfortunate guy and slays him swiftly on the spot, with fresh blood splattering violently everywhere now. The other 2 trembling lambs can only fervently pray for a real miracle now. The merciless Sword Demon then immediately turns his fierce attention to the other 2, who had utterly lost their will to bravely fight even before the match had started too. Predictably really, these 2 poor bastards inevitably meet the very same bloody fate as their fallen friend. I really feel bad for these guys now. They literally died quite unnecessarily indeed. But it seems like this bloodshed wasn't all that completely unnecessary, because the violence-loving, war-craving audience is truly loving it so much. They hadn't expected anything less at all from the Sword Demon. It's always truly one victory after another here. The matches might seem quite predictable now, but the way the Sword Demon slaughters all his enemies now makes it damn entertaining indeed. Meanwhile, the Sword Demon craves more violence now and wants to spill much more blood. There's this dark lust for blood completely taking over his head, urging him to shed it all totally now. But he suddenly snaps right out of it quickly, coughing quite violently and losing his grip on the sword now. A little while later, he can be seen caged and confined surely with shackles over his hands now. He is breathing heavily and yet he doesn't truly seem to catch his breath now, with all the immense pain coursing entirely through his body too. The watchful guards notice him squirm in pain now, making them truly afraid that this kid might even die here. The other guy decides then to just leave him quite alone. The clear reason this guy is in such pain is that he hasn't fully recovered as yet, so even slight moving around really hurts him quite badly. But once he's fully healed he'll be just fine though. It's kind of morbid indeed to think that out of all people, this young kid here is the fearsome Sword Demon for real. Seriously now. These guys are forced to ponder deeply where they even find someone like this young one. Rumor has it that he's been wandering often from arena to arena even as a kid, with absolutely no place to truly call home at all. No one really knows if his parents died or sadly abandoned him there. The kid himself barely even remembers clearly his own true name. One guy is even surprised that a wild beast like this one has a name at all. When he asks directly what the Sword Demon's real name is then, the scene abruptly shifts to our young boy now, who says quietly his name is truly Saron here. He's only 13 but in Prina's right now. He's known widely as the chilling Sword Demon indeed. He's explaining all this now to Ursula here, trying to further convince her to let him truly go. Soren, potentially, could be a huge asset for Kyle if he manages to recruit him well. So, he definitely wants to get him directly on his side, before even leaving the arena together with Soren soon. That'd actually be the 4th member of Kyle's entire talent acquisition project full. The scene smoothly shifts to the dining area indeed, where a spread of food is carefully laid out so, while Leonhardt's digging enthusiastically in, our duo anxiously now wait for him to consume the food full, which they've discreetly slipped some sleeping potion quietly into. They've ensured that the night will be knocked out very deep now, when they sneakily make their escape tonight soon. Seeing Leonhardt finally gulp down all the food somewhat relaxes them soon enough. It's dead of night really, and Kyle and Ursi sneak quietly all around the big mansion, extremely careful not to draw undue attention as they now step outside softly. The carriages are already patiently out front so, and with Leonhardt supposedly sound asleep really, all they ultimately have to do is fully leave the mansion grounds now. Now that Kyle thoughtfully thinks about it deeply, there's truly no real need to sneak now like thieves, since Leonhardt isn't quite around here. But then quite out of nowhere now, said Leonhardt is literally standing right behind all that. He's already caught on indeed, hell, he even knows now the food he ate was drugged well. Kyle's freaking out, seeing his knife fully away. But we all know a sleeping potion isn't enough surely for Leonhardt. By now Kyle's forced to simply admit he severely underestimated this very high-ranking expert knight. He made that sleeping drug all himself, and infused magic to make it even more potent overall. But seeing his brave knight survive all that stuff just clearly shows how resilient this man actually truly is. Back on track again, Leonhardt expresses some disappointment that his own master planned all of this behind his back now. He's even way more disappointed in poor Ursula for tagging along on the trip all the way to Prinny. But before he can throw more shade and truly scold the poor girl even more still, Kyle stops him, clearly clarifying that Ursula didn't do anything entirely wrong, as he was the very one who convinced her specifically to come. So it's not really her fault and Leonhardt shouldn't be scolding her at all. The concerned knight sighs deeply. Mildly dejected, he reveals the real reason he's against this trip now. Apparently so. Prinessa's security has gotten considerably worse since Kyle last visited here. In fact, the city is now the continent's worst den of vice by far, especially not a suitable place for a young girl like Ursula at all. Going there is just plain reckless indeed. Of course, Kyle is more than capable enough of protecting both Ursula and himself. Capable enough indeed to blow up the entire city if he truly needs to. But Leonhardt isn't sure if Kyle really wants to attract the unnecessary attention exactly like that situation. Hearing this, my guy cracks a faint smile just because he truly does want to cause a huge mess indeed in the city, though he isn't really sure if he can do it all alone. If he truly has to be completely honest now, his real ultimate goal is to destroy Prinessa's gladiator arena completely. He wants to ultimately free the gladiator slaves trapped deep in the underground cell. That's really his only strong motivation for going now to Prina. But to successfully pull it off, he needs Leonhardt right by his side. His decision indeed to go Prina's might sound very sudden, but truly, he's been planning to free all the slaves for a long time now. It bothers him so endlessly to even think about kids his own age suffering greatly like that. That's precisely why he desperately wants Leonhardt to join this noble cause here and help him fully through it. Of course now, the duty-bound knight simply can't help but feel a huge, immense amount of admiration for his master now. Being righteous is truly Leonhardt's biggest weakness right here, and that's exactly what young Kyle's playing on slyly. Since bro is clearly already planning to recruit Saron Shirley, saying he wants to free all the slaves isn't exactly a complete lie either now. A few days later we then find ourselves in a gambling arena grant, where Kyle is steadily winning one bet after another constantly, like it's honestly nobody's real business. Seriously, with the countless games he's clearly won, he's already stashed quite a ton of chips greatly. He's surely having the time of his life surely, winning essentially every game one right after another fast. Even the dealers themselves have been quickly switched 3 separate times now, but Kyle truly remains undefeated still. Thanks to his raw talent, the real reason they are here now is the simple fact that they weren't allowed to go directly to the underground play gladiator arena. So first, they made a quick stop at the casino here. But in the casino, Leonhardt forbade Ursula from tagging along then. So now, Kyle waits in the casino for the perfect opportunity soon to sneak right into the arena, just as Kyle expects a fat opportunity now. Literally walks straight into the casino then. This fat cat's name is Riddle Remington actual, Lord of Prinaz and son of Viscount Remington too. After keenly hearing about Kyle's winning streak lately, this fat cat suggests going all in and betting the highest amount here. But my guy pretends he's lost interest in card games recently, and wants to bet on something far more thrilling there. Something with bloodshed, screams, and a whole lot of pain now. Everyone surely knows there's only one place quite like that now. So the fat cat suggests Kyle follow him as they head out soon. Kyle tells his knight to claim all of the winnings quickly before they immediately leave the casino at 1. Meanwhile, Riddle's butler worries greatly about his master risking everything still, but Riddle is already quite confident about the bets he's about to make now. First, he'll let Kyle win just a few rounds to make him feel in control first. Only then will he truly plan to make his opponent lose it all eventually. In the end, it seems like Riddle already knows a good deal about our boy actual. He's heard some rumors that Kyle has indeed matured quite a bit, but just seeing him bet recklessly exactly like this now, Riddle's completely sure he's still exactly the same as ever before now. We flash back in time to a time when Riddle was actively preparing now, and currently having company alongside with his own father it seemed. His father, the Viscount Remington indeed now. Lord of Prinaz even warned him Kyle was most definitely coming now, though the reason exactly for the visit still remained a complete mystery now. The son was very sure Kyle was just back back specifically to gamble here. Like always now, he assured his own concerned father truthfully. He'd definitely take care of that prick quite easily without breaking a sweat at all. Rumors of Kyle's significant change were really nothing but rumors honestly. He really was born a major troublemaker indeed, and most people don't actually change overnight at all. The likely realistic scenario is that he just got rather bored of playing nice at home so far, and simply couldn't really resist going out anymore. With all that in mind now, he assured his equally fat father indeed he'd take care of Kyle first. He'd simply let our boy win a few games just to get him hooked right, then strip him bare of everything he owns quite soon, including even his dignity. Back to the present moment, Riddle now strategizes as they arrive at their destination point. Before entering, he turns and reveals not everyone's truly allowed inside now. Only Kyle truly is privileged enough here to enter the underground gladiator-style arena soon. He further assures them that what our boy is about to witness will be worth it all. Well, my guy's quite ready for the surprises just ahead now. When he firmly says that, he really means it all. Both boys truly are actually thinking of surprising each other much now. But we all know well it's Kyle who's surely gonna win the surprise game soon.